Naruto wakes up one morning to the sage wanting him to redo his life. Something about it being too convenient. You're being sent back in time. Naruto, who had now more or less shrugged off his drowsiness, just stared at the apparition before him. Excuse me, we're sending you back in time, Naruto. We feel it's for the best, the apparition known as Hagoromo repeated, his face stern and completely serious. Naruto simply tilted his head. Okay, Naruto responded. Why? We feel it's for the best, the Sage of Six Paths repeated. Naruto waited a bit to see if the sage was going to continue. He was not. Okay, why do you think it's for the best? Naruto clarified. He had finally gotten to the point where he was supremely happy in his life. He had achieved his lifelong dream of being Hokage, and started a family to fill in the void he was missing almost his entire life. He had a loving wife, and a beautiful daughter. Yeah, his son was a rebellious punk, but he reminded the blonde Hokage of himself when he was younger, so there was a certain pride in that as well. Not to mention that it was also kinda his fault his son was acting out. So there was that. Point being, he was really happy where he was in his life and had absolutely no intention of going back. Having to redo everything to exactly the way it was before just seemed ridiculous, especially considering the kinda shit he had to go through. Holy shit, that whole fiasco with Sasuke. That happened. It seemed like almost a lifetime ago, but he and Sasuke had totally saved the world. Oh, and Sakura and the rest of the ninja world was there as well. Details. The Sage of Six Paths just shook his head. We believe that it's for the best, Naruto finished inquisitively. He was hit on the head with the sage's staff. No, Hagoromo answered, we believed that you were too lucky in the events concerning your life. A lot of the things that went down in your, Hagoromo paused to find the right words, sordid life seemed a bit too coincidental. Naruto bristled. Really? Like what? Like the time you just so happened to awaken the chakra of Kurama exactly when you needed it on the bridge in Wave? Naruto scowled slightly. That happened? Kurama? Did that happen? The tailed beast inside him groaned. What? Maybe. The giant fox then noticed the sage. Sup, Gramps? Gramps nodded in kind, having somehow heard that. Naruto nodded as well. I don't clearly remember that, but I know it made sense. Oh really? Then how about that time that you somehow outran an entire train? Hagoromo continued. When the hell was that? The mission to Snow Country. To save the princess, Yuki? How the hell do you know about that? Naruto asked. Details, Hagoromo answered. Fine, Naruto replied, not caring either way. I can easily outrun a train. I can outrun light if I really wanted to. Hell, my dad used to do it all the time. You were 13 at the time. I was a gifted youngster, Naruto replied. Earlier that day you struggled to outrun a horse. I was also determined enough to outrun a train. You underestimate my determination. Very well, Hagoromo explained. Then that time you managed to survive Itachi and Kisame. Ero Sennin was there. Sasuke was there before him, Hagoromo retorted. He was still there, and how about that whole 3-year hiatus the Akatsuki went on? Explain that. They had their reasons, explain them. I don't pretend to understand the minds of deranged ranked criminals, explain beating Neji determination and getting pain to bring everyone back to life. Talk no jutsu is a fearsome ability. Hagoromo just rolled his eyes, suppressing a more exaggerated response. Whatever, you're being sent back in time. Why? Naruto asked. We feel it's for the best, Hagoromo responded. Naruto stared at the sage. You know, you're being difficult, so are you, Azura? The sage responded. I'm not your son, but you are being sent back in time, the sage answered, twirling his staff in a circle. Instantly they were transported from Naruto's bedroom to a weird, void-like dimension. There was almost nothing in it, random colors just flowing in the background. So this is what being sent back in time is like, Naruto commented, looking around. Very pretty. Kyuubi chose this time to chime back in. You're taking this really well, Naruto looked at his stomach. Give me a minute, you'll be sent back to about the time you were scheduled to take the genin exam. We want to see how your life would go if you weren't so lucky, the sage continued. Naruto looked back at the sage. Yeah, about that. Why exactly do you think I'll just play along? I have about enough power to completely and totally annihilate every single person in the elemental nations on a whim. There are about a grand total of, 0 people who can stop me? I'm assuming you want me to play out my life as I did when I was a child with slight differences. That's not going to happen purely out of spite, Naruto neglected to add. He was not excited about being pulled back in time and away from everything he loved. Oh, good question, the sage stated, glee in his eyes. With a twirl of his staff, Naruto was once again a child. Looking at his now much shorter arms and terrible jumpsuit outfit, all Naruto could do was shrug. Yeah, I expected as much. No big deal, Hagoromo chuckled. You're taking this well, Naruto shrugged again. Well yeah, I can still use Shadow Clone Jutsu and Rasengan. That's literally my entire arsenal. I have learned literally nothing else in my entire tenure as shinobi, so just being smaller isn't going to really change how I fight. We're also taking away your toad summoning explaining, Hagoromo continued. You hadn't signed its contract yet where we're dumping you. Oh, Naruto stated. Will that take away my sage mode? Hagoromo thought about it. It shouldn't. I think that's just you being really still, then that's fine. I hadn't summoned Gamakichi in a while anyway. He would be about the size of my palm anyway, Naruto responded, a hand on his chin. What about Kurama? Do I still have the fuzzball? Hey fuck you, brat. Hagoromo decidedly ignored the interaction. Yes, then I hadn't really lost anything but the ability to get the ramen out the top drawer. You'd be surprised at how much that changes things. For once since he woke up that morning he agreed with the sage. Also, you're allowed to bring one person with you. At this Naruto perked up. At least he wouldn't be totally alone. Hey. He could totally bring Himori and completely fuck with some heads. You can't bring people who weren't born yet, Hagoromo continued, as if sensing the Neoboy's intentions. Naruto visibly deflated. He didn't really care about that clause anymore. Although, I suppose you could bring Bolt if it's that important to you. No, Naruto responded without hesitation. He was not bringing his son back. No way in hell could the world handle two of him. He continued thinking on it. Can I bring back Sasuke? Hagoromo looked at him funny. I would assume you would like to bring back your wife. Naruto shook his head. Nah. If we went back together we'd probably immediately attempt some very disgusting and very wrong prepubescent sex. That'd kinda mess up your intentions of keeping things the same. Hagoromo held up a finger. Oh right. About that. You don't exactly have a choice whether or not things change. No matter what you do things will attempt to go the way they originally did. Explain. The gods that hired me to do this find your life and subsequent misfortune extremely entertaining. No matter what you do they will find a way to push it back on track. Oh, Naruto intelligently responded. Well in that case fuck you and fuck them. Hagoromo held his finger back up, a hand to his ear. The gods say that now they're going to actively fuck with you. Naruto shrugged. So who are you going to bring? Hagoromo asked. Naruto thought on it. He could bring Sakura. Having a super useful and ultra powerful kunoichi on his side would help things a lot. It also sweetened the deal in that it meant that there would be no super annoying useless mass of pink hair on his team. Her endless strength was the result of excellent chakra control, right? That didn't change with age. She would still be powerful. The downside to that would be that she wouldn't be entirely too happy with being torn away from her family either. Her dreams and goals of not only catching up in strength to her two teammates, but also marrying Sasuke were also fulfilled, and she would probably punch him into pace the instant she realized what happened. It was for these reasons he couldn't choose Sasuke either. The Mangekyo Sharingan was related to experience, which meant that while he might lose his Rinnegan, the now proud Uchiha father would still have access to Amaterasu. Having to constantly look over your shoulder for terrible black flames was not how he wished to spend his renewed childhood. He couldn't bring back Hinata either. He didn't know how the process worked, but he didn't want to leave his children without either parents, regardless of whether or not the gods left a copy of him or if time rewinded. We're doing a split timeline thing. Your universe will literally be paused while we're doing this, Hagoromo explained. You'll be returned when you reach this point again. Oh, well either way, everyone he just listed would not appreciate being ripped from their families to relive most of their own lives anyway. He needed someone who he could count on that also wouldn't have their lives ruined. Someone like a Kamaru. I want a Kamaru at my side, Naruto stated, a straight face on. Kyuubi literally howled with laughter. Hagoromo just looked confused. No, he finally responded. Kyuubi had not stopped laughing from his place in Naruto's gut. Why not? Naruto asked. Cause a Kamaru is not a person. Also, how would that help you? Naruto shrugged. I dunno. I just figured he would like being young again. A dual benefit, pick someone else, the sage responded, pinching the bridge of his nose. With his first option out of the way, Naruto could only think of one other person he'd rather have with him. Neji done, Hagoromo stated, and with a twirl of his staff, the previously dead Hyuga boy was standing next to the seated Naruto. He was about as old as he was when Naruto was taking the genin exam. Huh? Wait, what? Neji Hyuga asked, clearly confused. Where am I? He asked, before seeing Naruto smiling up at him. Is this hell? Nope, Neji, we're in an interdimensional space and time loop, Naruto answered, now giddy. He was already starting to get excited since he now realized that there would be no consequences. This was like a big game to the gods and he was a chess piece, right? If he could just go back when the game was over there would be no problem. Neji just looked at Naruto like he was crazy. I see, and why am I here? Hagoromo took over in explaining Naruto was given one person to go back in time with to relive his life for the amusement of the powers that be. He chose you. Oh, was Neji's sole response. He turned to Naruto. Why not Sasuke? Crazy black flames, was Naruto's response. He has a kid now. Would not like me taking him from that. I see, Neji responded. What else has happened since I died? How did the war end? Oh, glad you asked, Naruto said, slightly giddier than he had been before. You want the short or the long version? Neji looked to Hagoromo. The Rinnegan was fully apparent in the old man's eyes. Neji wisely bowed. How long do we have in here, venerable sage? Hagoromo, not used to such respect after having spent so long with Naruto, was slightly surprised by the proper way of speech. he responded after his heart had finally restarted. We are in a void that can literally only exist due to the absence of time and space. You could spend millennia in here and have absolutely nothing change. I see, Neji pondered. He looked back at Naruto. He looked far too excited for a person being ripped from his old life for whatever reason. The short version Naruto, now pouting cause Neji refused his longer version, cleared his throat. He was getting the medium version for being a smartass. So basically, after you saved Hinata and I from the Jubi, the Shinobi Alliance decided that Hinata, Neji interrupted. Excuse me, Naruto asked. I saved Hinata from the Jubi. You were a fortunate add-on, I see, said Naruto slowly, before continuing. Anyway, after you died, it somehow reminded me of what it was like to be a shinobi, and that it meant we endure. We then formed a giant Kurama-powered phoenix I think. What the actual fuck? Indeed, Hagoromo input. Yeah, so we ran through the Jubi tree. Were you there when the Jubi turned into a tree? I wish I was. Probably wouldn't have been impaled by its spike things, so yeah, it turned into a tree. How crazy was that? Sounds like you're making this up, Neji responded. I wish he was, Hagoromo stated. Continue. So that happened. I think the Hokages came back. Neji held up a hand. You're telling this story out of order. I was there when that happened, Naruto pouted. Well, excuse me. This was like 17 years ago, Neji gaped. Say 17 years? How old are you? I dunno, Naruto answered. I wanna say 36. How do you not know how old you are? Neji asked. Things kinda blend together when you're running an entire village and spearheading a united shinobi front. Neji's jaw dropped even further. Wait, you did it? You became Hokage? Naruto beamed at this. Yup, Nanadame Hokage himself. Aren't you proud? Of course, Naruto the Hyuga prodigy exclaimed. Putting aside his recently admitted accidental saving of the blonde boy's life, Neji still sincerely wished for the blonde's happiness and well-being. 7th Hokage is Ama. Wait, 7th? Naruto nodded. Yes, Kakashi-sensei was before me. How exciting, indeed, responded Naruto. So anyway, Obito then became the Jinchuriki of the 10 Tails. Then kinda died with it after I used Talk no Jutsu on him, but he didn't really die. Then Madara came back to life after forcing Obito to use the same thing that Pain used to bring Konoha back to life on him. He then became the 10 Tails Jinchuriki. Wait, didn't Tsunade ban that Talk no Jutsu? Something about it being too powerful? Naruto made a shushing sound. Anyway, Madara then absorbed the tree. Wait, I thought the tree was the Jubi. Listen, Neji, everything gets a bit confusing here. Do you want the short version or not? Naruto asked, clearly annoyed. Neji wisely shut up. Anyway, he gets like really powerful and Sasuke and I almost die, so Grandpa Sage here. Wait, what do you mean? Almost die? We almost die. Stop interrupting or so help me I will talk no jutsu you. Neji once again shuts up. It's at this point Hagoromo begins to contemplate how powerful this jutsu is. Should I inform the gods of this ability? It seems much more fearsome than the name implies. Neji deadpans. I don't think even the gods could take such a forbidden and powerful technique from him. Grandpa Sage here then tells us that we're the incarnations of his sons, who were doomed to fight each other for all eternity because godlike sibling rivalry transcends lifetimes. Neji looked at the sage for confirmation. When the sage nodded, Neji could only sigh and gesture for Naruto to continue. We gain some of their powers, Sasuke the Sharingan and I the abilities of every single-tailed beast. Neji once again turned to the sage. Not once did the sage choose to interrupt, so Neji was forced to take this as fact. Also I think I gained the ability to regrow certain body parts. I regrew Kakashi's sensei's eye when Madara took it and Bushy Brow sensei's soul. Neji at this point just decided to never turn away from the sage. Seeing his straight face never once falter made the young Hyuga wonder how good this man was at poker. So anyway, we start fighting and we get Madara to a standstill. It was now that Black Zetsu freak did something and Madara turned into Kaguya, Grandpa Sage's mum. She teleported us to another dimension a couple times and she teleported Sasuke to another one completely. It took all of Sakura-chan's saved up chakra and I think Obito's last powers of his kami. I don't quite remember, but we got him back. Now this next part may seem unbelievable. Sure, the next part, Neji commented. Right, so Kakashi-sensei told me that shortly after we saved Sasuke, Obito died, but because he was really determined, he was able to loan Kakashi his Sharingan for a bit and Kakashi used to make a perfect Susanoo and protect us when we eventually sealed Kaguya away in another dimension. Neji held up his hands to stop the story. Wait, hold on, Obito did what? I thought he was our enemy. Talk no jutsu, Naruto responded. Oh right, seeing Neji's immediate acceptance had finalized Hagoromo's decision to tell the gods of this technique. But he came back to give Kakashi his Sharingan. There's a limit to how far determination can go, you'd be surprised, Hagoromo cut in. So anyway, Grandpa Sage summoned us back, Sasuke and I fought, and eventually lost both our arms, before I finally pulled that stick out of his ass. He then settled down, roamed the earth, had a kid with Sakura, I had 2 kids with Hinata, and we all lived happily ever after until this happened. It was here Naruto found a gentle fist at his throat. He poofed into non-existence. Wait, what? Neji asked. Hagoromo shared that sentiment. That was a shadow clone, Hagoromo, Who couldn't believe it? Cursed before putting his hand on Neji's shoulder. I'll be back in his office. Naruto had momentarily stopped eating his instant ramen when the memories of his clone zipped back to him. They finally figured it out. The orange Hokage then placed his hand on the intercom. Hey Shizune? Yes. Naruto, his lovely assistants who looked over the last 2 cages, answered. Next time I press this button, remind me of something. Yes, Naruto, remind me that I almost got away with pranking the god of shinobi, he answered, before Hagoromo's hand zipped out of the ether and dragged Naruto back into the timeless zone. Naruto, now a kid again, laughed his ass off. Took you long enough. Naruto awoke with a start. This was the second time in 3 hours that he would awaken to the sunrise hitting his face. Looking around, he could see he was somewhere in a forest, or at least near one, with the heavy foliage and tall trees. Ugh, the Neo boy grumbled. Where am I? Kurama grumbled in his gut. You're in the past, idiot. Weren't you paying attention? Naruto scowled at his own stomach. He hit it for effect. That does absolutely nothing to me and you know it, the fox yipped. Turning over in his host's stomach, the fox then proceeded to stretch to make his point known. I know, Naruto replied, before standing up to get his bearings. There aren't many ways for me to convey my annoyance to you, though it was around now that he noticed a tall enough tree. Crouching, the ex-Hokage managed to reach the top in one jump. Landing comfortably on the branch at the very top, Naruto was able to see for very far around him. From what he could see, he seemed to be in his hometown, but with notable differences. It feels weird, looking at that mountain without my face on it, never mind the entire city, complete with skyscrapers and cars, that's missing from the top. Naruto scowled a bit. Why are you speaking so deeply now? If I could imagine your voice in text, it would be in bold. Kyuubi shrugged. I just felt like distinguishing myself now that I'm back in time. This was how I talked to you originally. Nostalgia's sake, I see, Naruto replied, still looking out over his old hometown. Anyway, yeah, all that stuff is gone and missing too. It's just, I was proud of that face, you know, it was nice. Validated all my struggles up till that point. Yeah, I know. Well, if you could do it once, you could do it again, can't you? Or are you afraid? Naruto shook his head vigorously. No, of course not. Or do you think that the gods were right? That you just got lucky all those times? Shaking his head again, Naruto smirked. Heck no. Everything I've done, everything I've accomplished, it was all me. I know that for sure, so there's nothing to worry about. Besides, you have me this time. I could probably solo everyone here if you let me out. You probably can. Wait. Why are you asking? You haven't been sealed for years. You can leave at any time. Oh right, the fox replied. One sec. A puff of smoke appeared next to Naruto on the tree branch. When it cleared, a boy strikingly similar to Naruto, but with fox ears and a big, bushy orange tail appeared. Instead of Naruto's orange jumpsuit, however, he was in an orange dress shirt and black dress pants. Upon appearance, the Kyuubi looked at himself in disgust. Why the fuck am I a kid? Naruto looked at the fox. Upon seeing his short stature, he shrugged, not really caring. He turned back to the village. Kyuubi was not as uncaring. Brat. Why the fuck am I a kid? How the hell should I know? Kurama, your age probably reverted when I did. You do have to run your chakra through my body before it's released. I could choose my human form before, the fox screamed. He poked at his chubby cheeks. I don't want to be doomed to look like you. The horror. Naruto, who was about to return fire, decided to look at himself first. He was dressed in a tacky full orange and blue jumpsuit that had honestly seen better days. It was ripped and tattered all over, including places that quite honestly had no reason to have a hole. Lifting his shirt, the boy saw that his body, while not necessarily bony, was stringy and thin, almost like he had not eaten much over the weeks. There were quite a lot of bruises on him, as well as the scars he was born with on his baby fat cheeks. He didn't look bad, but unless you were into specifically him, he wasn't going to turn any heads. At least Kurama had those ears and better clothes. Deciding not to retort on something that he honestly agreed on, Naruto just turned back to the village. It wasn't exactly his anymore, but, well, it was still home. Not gonna respond, brat? Kyuubi asked. Naruto shook his head. Not really. I just want to enjoy this. Isn't it great? Naruto asked, gesturing his hand out over the city. This is the city before it was destroyed. Everyone here, they were still innocent. So many people have no idea what terrible things are about to happen to them. How much things are about to change. How many of them are about to die. Right now, they are all still alive. They are all still happy. Kyuubi, now seeing Naruto wasn't up for a round, just stared out over the village at well. He supposed the man-turned-kid was right. There was something beautiful about the things that he said. The inherent innocence that accompanied their trip back in time. The peace that hung in the air like a nice little blanket after his attack had a presence that only a madman wouldn't miss. He, being a chakra monster of extreme malevolence, was one of those madmen. We should fuck with them. We should fuck with them hard. Naruto took a deep breath. Holding it in for a second, the boy released a long and heavy sigh. Yeah, you're right, and with that, the ex-Hokage jumped off the tree and landed to the ground. The fox smiled in Naruto's replica body, before jumping off after him. Today was going to be a good day. Several hours later Iruka settled into his seat with a sigh. Today was going to be a long day. Looking over his class, each and every one of his students had a look of apprehension on their faces. Their nervous energy quite literally permeated the air. Iruka smiled a bit, slightly amused with their situation. They had every right to be anxious today. Today was the day of the genin exams. Every student in class could be seen anxiously studying notes and practicing hand signs to commit them to memory. Those who weren't were doing various things to calm their nerves, such as playing with yo-yos and fiddling with their fingers. Out of the whole class, only 2 students could be seen not playing along with the day's hype. One Shikamaru Nara, who was currently asleep, and one Naruto Uzumaki, who was staring straight at him with a megawatt smile. To be completely honest, neither of those boys had much reason to be taking this exam so lightly, but who was he to judge? He just hoped Naruto had gotten the clone jutsu down. Otherwise this would be a third failure. Over with Naruto, things were going very differently. It's so weird seeing everyone so young again, Naruto thought, his thoughts going through his and Kyuubi's mental link. I know, some of these young'uns I could have sworn I'd eaten, Kyuubi responded, his body walking around town under a henge. Naruto's smile faltered a bit. I would appreciate you not trying to dampen my mood, and I would appreciate you not trying to dampen my food, Kyuubi retorted. Upon seeing a human that looked particularly delicious, Kurama smiled, some teeth showing through his poorly made henge. Hey brat, do you think they would notice if I just ate one of them? Akamichis are actually really delicious. Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose. Yes, I do think they'd notice. Why the hell are you asking me this? Did I ever let you eat anyone back in our time? Yes you did. I was actually supposed to eat some bandits today and honestly this whole sent back in time thing really ground on my nerves. I was really looking forward to it. Naruto sighed, then take it up with your sage grandpa. I don't have time for this, which brings up another good point. Why exactly are you playing along with this mockery of the gods? I would have thought that you would have already put a Rasengan through this city by now, just to spite their plans. Naruto, who had just taken the paper for the written part of the exam, stopped and started to stare off into space. That's actually not a bad idea. I might do that once I find a good enough excuse. The boy then took out a pencil, an extra he stole from Sasuke when he wasn't looking. But for right now, there are certain things that I would rather do over and surprise everyone with. Doing the genin exams the right way would be the first one. If I recall correctly, I failed this one as well. MMF, what was that? Brat, you're eating someone, aren't you? Kyuubi gulped, before wiping his mouth. No one you'll miss I see, Naruto responded, not caring too much either way. He looked down at his paper, preparing to ace it, when the very first question made his eyes bulge out. Okay, what the fuck? Kyuubi, now relaxing in the alley after his meal, perked up. What? These questions, the ex-Hokage responded. They're too hard, or maybe you're too dumb. Damn it Kyuubi, now's not the time. I know these questions weren't on the test the first time around. Iruka-sensei and I did a mock retake of the test I took when I finally graduated the day after I became Hokage. I passed it with a B. This isn't the same test. Kyuubi stopped listening in favor of laughing. The 7th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village did average on a child's test. You can laugh all you want, furball. At least I don't cough up hair after washing myself. At least I wash myself. Meatbag, I do wash myself. Blood for brains. Hinata won't let me skip out. That you have to penalized on it by your wife proves your integrity as a person, responded Kyuubi. How is your meatbag of a wife anyway? I rather liked her. Naruto, who had by now realized that his test was different from everyone else's side. I don't know. I didn't bother to check. He then raised his hand. Iruka-sensei, I think my test is a little funny. Iruka, who had been watching over the class to prevent cheating, looked over at Naruto. With a slight scowl, he made his way over to the blonde. That's odd. There shouldn't even be another version of a test. When Iruka reached the test, he picked up the paper expecting something wrong. After 3 seconds of looking at the paper, he turned it over several times, clearly confused. This isn't funny, Naruto. Excuse me, Naruto asked. Excuse him, parroted Kurama. I said this isn't funny. Your test is the same as everyone else's. Get to work, the Chunin repeated, before setting the paper down. Looks like you are stupid, the Kyuubi restated. He had started to pick the villager out of his teeth. Bullshit, and you know it. Come disperse this genjutsu so I can do this test. Kurama blinked. Since when could I fucking do that? Naruto blinked. What do you mean? Since forever? I can't fucking do that. Then how the hell have I been able to dispel genjutsu? To answer this, the Kyuubi shrugged. Naruto felt it somehow. Then what? Maybe you just have too much chakra. How the hell does that even compute? Listen, I don't know, human. I don't know how your puny human techniques work, okay? I just know that I have a shit ton of chakra and jinjutsus have never worked on me. That's bullshit. What about when you attacked the village when I was born? Kyuubi chuckled. Okay, let's be fair here. Do you really think it'd take that much convincing to get me to burn this hovel to the ground? Naruto thought about it. He supposed that it wouldn't take much convincing to get him to burn it to the ground, and he lived there. Second, I was affected by the Sharingan. You know, that thing that allows people to cut mountains and summon unquenchable, never-ending fire as dark as the blackest night. The thing that allows people to hop dimensions. The thing that evolves into something that can summon meteors. Okay, I get it, Naruto thought, trying to assuage the offended demon. He started channeling chakra through the paper. When it didn't dispel anything, he sighed, and decided to just try to work out the problems. Even if he failed this, if he passed the others he'd still do fine enough. Maybe your teacher is sabotaging you? Naruto shook his head. Impossible. Iruka-sensei is my friend. The gods did say they would actively fuck with you in order to keep things on track, Kyuubi reminded him. He had taken to walking around the street to pickpocket a few items. I doubt they would change Iruka-sensei though. That was a very core part of my life. Changing it would change so many things. Then maybe they changed the test. If it's not a jinjutsu and your teacher is the same, then maybe they changed the test so you would definitely fail it. Naruto pondered that. Over the course of the conversation he had accepted that there was no way in hell for him to answer any of these questions. You might be right. Of course I'm right. Do you know who I am? Naruto chuckled. My favorite fuzzball. You're damn fucking right, I am, Kyuubi stated with pride. Naruto had now flipped his page to start drawing on the back, so the gods are intent on making me fail. I probably can't change it now that we're so far in. You can shove a giant Rasengan through the class. Naruto shook his head. No, I'd still fail and they'd flip it so I'd still do the Mizuki thing. Was that when that asshole teacher told you about me? Naruto nodded. Yeah. He called you a bastard a couple times. It was great. The Kyuubi lit up. That's just great. Can I eat him? Isn't that the entire reason you're stealing stuff? Naruto then picked up the paper to appreciate his drawing. Would you have cared what I said either way? Yes and no, meatbag. In that order, the Kyuubi then stopped where he was walking. I never was able to find my way around these parts. Which way do I go to reach that ramen shop you love? Naruto, who had now started to color in his drawing, stopped and glared out the window. If you burn down Ichiraku's I will end you. Kurama, who feared very little and roared in the face of a monster whose eye dwarfed his entire body, stopped and chose his words very carefully. I meant, where in the forest did you encounter Mizuki when he tricked you? East of the village. Past the 47th training ground. Thank you, you're welcome. Even later on, why the hell did I only learn Shadow Clone from this? Naruto asked, looking through the forbidden scroll. You were stupid back then, Kyuubi responded. You're stupid now. Naruto had by now looked further down. Upon seeing a familiar technique he cocked his head. So that's where Orochimaru got that reanimation technique from? He scowled. How the hell did Orochimaru get his hands on this? The Kyuubi, who was now setting up a campfire, turned to look at his host. He's confirmed a shifty freak. He probably pilfered it when no one was looking. People are always looking. They hire people to specifically look at it. They have to blink. Human. He probably got it then. That's when you got it? Fair enough. What's this? Naruto asked, looking over a specific technique. Kyuubi looked at it over the blonde's shoulder. I think it makes you shoot lasers from your eyes. Naruto lit up. That's sweet. Why is it forbidden? It says here that it then burns your eyes from their sockets. I'll grow them back. What else is on here? Kurama had already started to look down the page. What about this one? It makes all females in a 100-mile radius lust after you. Naruto looked at it carefully. After reading it he shook his head. Nah, I only want Hinata. Everyone else is kind of a drag. Besides, that would probably drag Granny Tsunade along and that's not what I need. Save it anyway. Your pervert teacher would enjoy it. Naruto deadpanned. Which one? Kakashi, Yamato or? The blonde dropped the scroll. Jiraiya. Kyuubi, Jiraiya, he's alive here? Yes. Fascinating, isn't it? Tears almost came unbidden to his eyes. I'm not letting him die again. The gods be damned. Kyuubi shrugged, heading back over to his impromptu campsite. It doesn't matter either way. He'll be gone when you're replaced back in your original timeline. Naruto shrugged. It doesn't matter either way. I just don't want to see him die again. Fair enough. Hey, the asshole teacher is on his way. The good one is slightly behind him. Naruto frowned. That's not right. Iruka was supposed to be here first. The gods are probably intervening again. He then smirked. Too bad things are about to change regardless. Staring into the scroll, Naruto quickly memorized the laser eyes for future use before rolling it up and putting it into his backpack. It's showtime, Kurama. I think you mean dinner time, meatbag. Shortly after Kurama said that, Mizuki landed into the middle of the forest clearing. If he was surprised that there were two Narutos, one being decidedly more foxy than the other, And that said foxy Naruto was tending to a campsite and looking at him while licking his lips hungrily. He certainly didn't show it. Though, to be honest, Naruto probably wouldn't have reacted to such a bizarre scene either. I see you got the scroll, demon brat, Kurama piped up. Excuse me, human. I'm the demon around these parts. Don't you dare compare my magnificence to a dunce like he. Mizuki ignored him. Now just hand it over. I'll graduate you on the spot. Naruto, who was looking back and forth between his Bija and his old teacher, answered slightly confused. Do you not see that? It doesn't concern me, Mizuki replied. Naruto looked back at Kyuubi. He was placing salt in a cauldron. I really think it does. Mizuki had started to get fed up. He didn't have much time. He had to get the scroll and head over to Orochimaru before he was caught by the Konoha officials who were almost definitely looking for him. I don't have time for this, brat. Just hand it over. Naruto, who was now clutching the scroll, was just extremely perplexed. Is this the doing of the gods as well? Is he stuck on the same actions as before maybe? Responded Kurama. Your less annoying teacher is still as far away as before. I'm guessing they're waiting for something. Who are you talking to, brat? Is it the demon you have inside of you? Incidentally, he was. What are you talking about? Naruto asked Kurama. Mizuki thought he was talking to him and continued. You mean you don't know, demon brat? Then allow me to tell you. You, Uzumaki Naruto, are no normal child. Have you never noticed the stares? Why no one would talk to you or let you in on their little, pathetic reindeer games? It's because you, child, are actually so much more horrid that you look. Naruto took personal offense to that last part. He filed it away for later. Mizuki continued, you disgusting little brat, are actually the terrible Kyuubi no Yoko that destroyed the village those years ago. You are the being that caused us so much death and destruction. You're the one to blame for the sadness that has plagued us all. Again, that was me. All me, and Obito, Naruto clarified. Details. So what do you have to say for that? Ha, demon brat, I bet you're feeling broken and betrayed, Mizuki continued. Not really. I already knew all of that. Mizuki blinked. What? I said I already knew that. Mizuki blinked again. Oh, okay. Then, I guess I'll just kill you now. No you won't. A voice came from the forest. Immediately Iruka jumped from the tree line and in front of the young orange ninja. He was promptly knocked out by said orange ninja. Oh, that's where he was. I guess he was just supposed to wait until Mizuki spilled the beans. It might also be why he's trying so hard to ignore me. Sucks for him, Kyuubi stated, adding field poppies to the soup. Aren't those poisonous? Naruto asked while carrying Iruka over to a safer place. Yes was Kyuubi's reply. Then why are you eating them? Cause it's a good thing I don't have organs or a respiratory system or anything inside me at all to be affected by the poison. I'm going to abuse that power. The blonde Hokage stared at his foxy counterpart. You don't have organs? The fox stared back. I'm a being made of pure, unbridled, malevolent chakra. You tell me about what organs you think I would have. Fair enough, replied the orange boy. He turned and stepped back in front of his traitorous teacher. You're still here? Mizuki, who had now watched the whole exchange, was certifiably flabbergasted. I'm pretty sure you weren't supposed to do that. Naruto glared at him. You're confused at that and not at the demonic me who has been sizing you up since you stepped into this clearing. Mizuki shrugged. I'm a simple man. I ignore that which I don't understand. Well, prepare to be completely mind-fucked, cause nothing inside my stomach makes sense. Believe me, I've been there, Kyuubi replied. In a flash of orange the fox boy reappeared behind the Chunin. Before he could say anything the Kyuubi had grasped the man in two giant chakra claws. Unable to move, the man could do nothing but squirm in the superior being's grasp. What? Let me go? Well, if that's what you want, Kyuubi replied. With a smirk, the chakra hands held the Chunin higher in the air. After shifting his jaw a few times, the fox boy opened and expanded his jaw to an almost disgusting no, that's pretty disgusting, Naruto interrupted. Wait, did I just interrupt the narrator? To a disgusting amount. He then dropped the terrified man in his mouth, swallowing him whole. Delicious, the Kyuubi remarked, couldn't have made it any other way. Traitors are just wonderful to eat. Naruto, who was more than a little scarred, decided to comment, that may have been the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen, and I've seen Kakashi wear Gay's jumpsuit for his birthday. The Kyuubi shrugged. You'll get over it. No, I don't think I will. The Kyuubi shrugged. He decided he didn't care. Naruto then looked at the boiling pot that was sitting over the campfire. Wait, if you were always going to eat him whole, why did you need the stew? He asked. Oh, that, right, Kurama remembered. He walked over to the pot, and, taking it in a giant chakra hand, started to ingest the contents. Naruto could swear he could hear pained screams. After a while, Kurama finished the pot. Setting it down, the chakra being licked his lips, appreciating his own food. Delicious, Naruto was confused. What was the point of that? To kill the guy I just ate? Why? Cause I've eaten people whole before. It didn't turn out well. Then why didn't you just chew him? It takes away the pure awesomeness of eating him whole. Naruto sighed, before looking over at his other sensei. He made his way over to him and shook him slightly by the shoulder. You probably shouldn't be here when I wake him up, eh? Replied the Kyuubi, before making a hand sign. The fox disappeared in a shunshin. I'll return to your gut when I'm done digesting this slowly dying maggot. Poppy poison is just great. I can hear him moan in agony. You get to that, pal. It was around now that Iruka had started to awaken. Where am I? What's going on? Naruto smiled. You saved me from Mizuki, sensei. Thank you. Iruka rubbed his head. Are you sure? I could have sworn something knocked me out as soon as I got here. In fact, if I didn't know any better, I would have said that you Naruto cut him off. No. You saved me, Iruka-sensei. If it weren't for you, we would have both died out here. Thank you for standing up for me and assuring me that I'm not the filthy beast inside of me. I'm outside of you now, ninja brat. If I knew where Hinata lived, I would eat her whole family for that. As long as you leave Hinata herself, I couldn't care less. Iruka by now was just confused. Well, that does sound like something I planned on doing. But I don't remember any of it. Naruto smiled. I know. Just give me my headband. Oh right, Iruka remarked. Close your eyes. Naruto, never being able to forget this moment, did as he was told. He could hear the shuffling of cloth and the slight clink of metal as Iruka removed his own headband to be placed on Naruto's head. Feeling pride rush all around him, Naruto couldn't repress the smile that was on his face. Okay, you can open your eyes now, Iruka said. Naruto could hear the mirth in his voice. Slowly, as to savor the moment, Naruto opened his eyes. Iruka no longer had his headband on, and instead held Naruto's goggles in his hands. Looking up at his forehead, Naruto could see the leaf symbol shining in the morning sun that was now rising once again. Congratulations, Naruto. You are now officially a member of Konohagakyou's ninja force. I'm so proud. Naruto's smile now stretched across his face. No longer able to contain his joy, even though this was the second time this was happening, the boy tackled his mentor, the same man he saw as sort of a father. Iruka, who was now no longer able to fend off the joyous energy just radiating off the boy, hugged him back, a smile on his face as well. Thank you, Iruka-sensei. No problem, Naruto. Congrats, B-student Kyuubi remarked. Naruto mentally flipped him off. How? Fuck if I know. After a short while, Iruka spoke up again. Now, let's get some ramen before we go head back to Sandaime-sama, okay? Naruto nodded. He didn't think there was a time he was ever happier than he was now. What about when you and your wife did that? He didn't think there was a time in this timeline where he was ever happier than he was now. Halfway to the village, with Naruto more or less carrying the still dazed Iruka, the teacher decided to speak up again. Are you absolutely sure what you said had happened? Cause I could have sworn that. Do you want me to knock you out again or not? Iruka-sensei. Iruka shut up and just kept walking to the ramen stand. Naruto stared ahead of him, his body posture rigid and his glare resolute. Unflinching, the boy kept his gaze forward, refusing to blink or even move, for fear that the man in front of him might disappear. The man standing across from him, for his part, tried his best to return the gesture. Instead of his glare being intense, however, it was little more than lazy, bordering on sleepy. Truly, Kakashi had no idea what was going on, but he was sure that it wasn't anything he wanted to do with. Now somewhere in the back of the Jonin's head he could realize that the child in front of him, dressed in all orange with whisker marks on his cheeks, could easily be assumed as one of his students. There were probably about 2 to 3 people in all of the Hidden Leaf Village who wore orange, and judging from recent reports about the boy's newly gained technique, almost all of those people were probably the child as well. This being said, the one-eyed man could not for the life of him figure out why exactly said student was here. Kakashi was currently standing at the memorial site, a place where no student Naruto's age had any need to be, trying his best to pay respects to his fallen teammates and sensei, the fourth Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves. Come to think of it, the boy looked eerily like the fourth. Maybe his son? Almost definitely. Look at that. Anyway, he was trying his best to pay his respects, a feat he did religiously and only when someone important needed his time elsewhere. The penance for their deaths fell heavily on his heart, and he damn sure couldn't bear the weight of such guilt himself. Therefore he would grieve for them for other people as well and consider the hours, sometimes even days, of their lives he wasted as a small payment. It was the least he could do. So with this in mind, the ninja decided to be only 2 hours late to pick up his cute little prospective students. Unfortunately, one of them seemed to have come to him early, at that. It was after several long moments more in which he hoped the kid would leave that Kakashi decided to break the silence that the young ninja brought with him. So what can I do for you? Kakashi drawled, his hand starting to reach for the orange book that he had in a pocket near his thigh. It was getting to the point where he was pretty sure he was more known for it than the Sharingan under his headband. Kakashi shrugged and pulled it out anyway. So be it. There were worse monikers. The rather small boy responded to his question with a chuckle. Looking left and right for reasons the Jonin couldn't fathom, he had followed the action with his own eye faster than most would perceive. The small genin prospect simply proceeded to stretch his hands over his head. Nothing really out of the ordinary. No, the words he said next were what toppled the man. It's not your fault, the boy remarked. Kakashi raised his eyebrow. Excuse me, it's not your fault, the boy repeated, an almost bored expression on his face. The death of your teammate, Obito, and your teammate, Rin. Their deaths aren't your fault. Kakashi wasn't sure he heard the boy right. Unless he was going crazy, there was absolutely no way the boy could have known that kind of information. That or he was going deaf. He decided he was going deaf. He stuck his pinky in his ear to make sure they were clean. Deciding they were, he turned back to the boy, who was now stretching before him. "Excuse me?" the man asked again. Naruto rolled his eyes. "I said," the boy exclaimed. His voice was very audibly annoyed. "The death of your teammate Obito under that terrible cave-in at the hands of various enemy ninja, which resulted in you having to inherit his Sharingan, as well as the subsequent death of your teammate Rin Nohara's death at your own hand, literally, Naruto left out, is not your fault. It was out of your hands. You did all that you could." Kakashi blinked. Okay, so he had heard right. It didn't explain how the kid knew what he did, unless. Naruto watched as Kakashi's face scrolled from surprised, to incredulous, to downright furious. The orange book his teacher frequented snapped shut with a very audible snap. Any amount of mirth the man once had at seeing him before had dropped immediately, and with the hand he had been using to hold his smut book, the man slowly reached for his headband. He was likely to prepare his famed ocular power, and it was for this very reason that Naruto smiled. "I don't know who you are or who hired you," Kakashi said, a hint of steel in his voice. "But your decision to confront me directly and reveal such information was a terrible decision on your part." It was at this time that Kakashi had just lifted his headband, and it was at this time that Naruto had finally gotten what he wanted. You see, being best friends and rivals with a person who owned not one, but two legendary and powerful bloodline limits made friendly bouts extremely difficult. While Naruto was not in any way weak, when fighting against someone who could not only fight on par with him, but tiptoe through different dimensions as well as summon meteors, one learned that a trumped card was something that needed to be in effect, if not only to win those friendly bouts. This in mind, Naruto had found a way to counter not only the Sharingan, but the Rinnegan years before his jump through time. Not only did this method work, but it worked on eyes much stronger and advanced than the one in front of him. Crossing his fingers, the boy did the one technique that he knew to work on even the mightiest of gods. "Harem no Jutsu," Naruto screamed. And his Scarecrow teacher, Sharingan blazing in the heat of fury, was forced to stare down the multiple bombshell women in front of him with all the intensity and focus of a man determined to take apart a traitor. He had dove into a charge the instant his eye was unveiled, only for the blonde to be enveloped in smoke and replaced by this horde of woman an instant later. His eye, completely unbidden, darted over and traced every inch and curve and the wall of feminine perfection before him. With this all beautifully committed to memory, Kakashi couldn't even close his eyes to rid himself of the blood-filled knockout coming, because his Sharingan had already memorized and readily supplied the images to his mind's eye. Kakashi was knocked out on sight, which left Naruto free to do with him as he pleased. The blonde boy smiled. Later Naruto trudged on through the streets of Konoha, his sensei lobbed haphazardly over his back and his eyes staring straight forward. Given the large gap between their ranks, with Naruto being barely a genin and Kakashi being an experienced jonin, not a single person batted an eye. They all assumed that everything was okay as there was no way Naruto could hurt the silver-haired man. About halfway to the academy, Kyuubi decided to make himself known. "So, did you really think it was wise to tell all those things to your sensei?" Kurama mused from his lounge inside Naruto. "He might catch on to the fact we're not from this time." At this Naruto shrugged. "So?" Kurama raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean, so? I mean, so. There is no reason for me to fear of them knowing. We never tried to hide anything at all in the first place. If they ever do find out about what we really are, great, we get to sway from the path and fuck with the higher beings that dropped us here. Chances are however that whatever I do will instantly have damage control run and nothing will leave any lasting effect whatsoever." Case in point, Naruto lobbed a kunai straight between the eyes of a passing man. He continued with Kakashi in tow as if nothing happened. "Damn kid, that's harsh," Kyuubi muttered. "You've eaten people since we've gotten here," Naruto yelled. "Yeah, but that's expected of me," the fox retorted. "You are Mr. Goody, stand with my friends. I didn't expect it in you." Naruto shrugged, a habit he seemed to be doing a lot lately. This habit was made even harder with Kakashi taking up one half of his shoulders, but he managed. Being in a timeless wonder zone has dulled my ethics a bit." "Sue me, how did you even find out about this?" Kyuubi asked. He didn't make note of it, but in the few meters Naruto had managed to drag Kakashi, the man with the kunai in his head had been healed and set back to work as if nothing happened. Without turning, the future Hokage placed another kunai through his ear. It buried up to the handle and went out the other side. The man promptly collapsed. "I'd gotten bored. I never missed my paperwork as Hokage, but at least it gave me something to do when I ran out. If not that, I could punish Bolt or snuggle Himori. Worst case scenario, I could go to Hinata and she could." Kyuubi stopped him right there. "Nope. Don't need to know. Naruto looked confused. Why? She could ask Sakura to point me to where Sasuke was so we could spar. Kyuubi said, figures the only reason you would get a mate would be to get easier access to the boy. Naruto nodded, ignoring whatever implications the Kyuubi meant. My point is, there is no reason for us to fear anything because absolutely nothing is permanent. Kyuubi scrunched up his face in confusion. Despite the fox being a rather large beast of admitted violence and hatred, it sorta looked cute. You sure? I'm pretty sure Mizuki is fully dead. Naruto stopped, pondering the circumstance. After a minute of blocking traffic, he continued walking. I'm sure he'll be fine. It took another 10 minutes, but the duo of student and unconscious teacher made their way to the academy. Naruto was short several kunai and shuriken, but he figured since he was no longer bored, everything worked out. After kicking in the door, Naruto walked in rather happily, before dumping his future teacher in a corner. This brought more than a few stares from the students sitting inside, as well as a freshly recovered Iruka, but if Naruto noticed, he didn't show it. Swiftly, he made his way to the back of the class and sat down next to a flustered Hinata Hyuga. Sup sweet cheeks, Naruto flirted, trying to make his prepubescent voice as husky as possible. He failed utterly. This being the case, Hinata still could barely handle being in the same room as the orange-wearing boy, so to have him not only in such close proximity but talking to her was enough to knock her out. Naruto fixed her so that she wouldn't sprain her neck. I miss that, Naruto said with a sigh, putting his head on the desk in order to appreciate how cute his wife used to be. Not cute in an adult way though, cute in a puppy way. Why I was so fixated on Sakura back then puzzles me even now, Kyuubi rumbled. I can see why you hadn't noticed her. She was so pathetically weak back then. This is too far of a cry from the beast of a woman she became in the future. Bah, Naruto chuckled. Does the big bad Kyuubi miss little old Mrs. Uzumaki? I wouldn't go so far as to say miss. I miss no one but maybe the old man. No, I miss the things she did. First off, she kept your orange-wearing figure clean. It shouldn't take me threatening you with a bijou bomb to get you to touch your shower faucet. I almost didn't even do it then. I needed something to fight. She kept you in line. Not one day from her you've started killing civilians. To be fair, I'm a ninja. It's in my job description. Even if it wasn't, I'd probably do it anyway since they can't actually die. I think you charged up chakra for as much as you could and threw it in a line. It went straight through the Hokage mountain. Oh right, Naruto said, his eyes opening. At some point he had started to fall asleep. I wonder where that kunai is now. Elsewhere, a multi-bijou-powered kunai pierced the head of Hidden, the Jashin priest. Its work done here, the blade continued unabated. Its thirst for blood would not be sated here today. I bet it didn't even hit anything yet, Naruto mused. Kyuubi rolled his eyes at how easy his charge was taking this. There are easier ways to fuck with the gods, child. True, the Uzumaki answered, but I enjoy the sweeter things in life. Even later the three students, Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura, sat on a bench on the roof of their academy. In front of them stood a slightly flustered Kakashi. He was tired and his head hurt something fierce, but there he was, completely on time. And you're sure that's what happened? The man asked the orange ninja sitting before him. Definitely, Naruto answered, his smile bright enough to power generators. I found you in the middle of the forest, knocked out with a huge smile on your face. You looked peaceful, so I wanted to put you in a place where I get my best sleep. The answer to that being, of course, the academy classroom. That you just so happened to be our genin teacher was coincidental. I see, the scarecrow responded. Very well, let's go over our introductions, shall we? The man continued. He was tempted to reach into his pouch to get his book, but recent odd blackouts made him decide to rethink that plan. He may need to lay off the stuff if it was going to make him randomly black out like that. Ah, sensei, how should we do this? The pink-haired girl asked after some time. The Jonin could hear the trepidation in her voice, but decided not to comment on it. He would beat her doubt out of her head if she ever became his student. Well, I'll go first, Kakashi answered. My name is Kakashi Hatake. I have many interests, and just as many hobbies. I don't fear a lot of things, at least, I don't remember. I don't have a lot of goals left, but I don't think I regret anything either. That's about it for me. What about you guys? Sasuke and Sakura stared at the man. All they really knew about the man was his name. Upon seeing that they weren't going to go anywhere with this, Kakashi spoke up for them. I think we'll start with you, pink hair. What's up with you? Oh, Sakura eeked, not expecting to be put on the spot. After clearing her throat and looking lovingly to her left Sasuke and disdainfully to her right Naruto, the girl finally responded. I am interested in a certain boy, the kunoichi started, before sneaking a glance at Sasuke, and my hobby is reading books on becoming a better ninja. I think I'm afraid of making my parents disappointed in me, though they say that they would never be and that just getting this far would already be more than they expected. My goal is to be the wife of a certain someone. This comment was meant with a glance to her left again, which served little more than to annoy the Uchiha, and to avoid another certain someone, with which she looked right. This glance was met with another smile, which put off Sakura's bad intentions. It was hard to keep a bad mood under such a genuine smile. And to Naruto, it was of course a genuine smile. He was intensely and eternally grateful for the friends he had made throughout his life. Just because they were 13 again and could no longer remember anything of their times together meant nothing. He was happy to see them. Of course, none of this meant anything in the end. Sakura couldn't continue to berate the boy when such joy was being directed at her. And my regret, Sakura continued after the effects of the smile wore off. She paused for a moment, as if considering what her answer would be before finally answering a minute later. I regret not being able to stop some of the atrocious things that happened in Konohagakure. At this statement, both Naruto and Sasuke turned their heads. Kakashi raised his eyebrow. Oh really? Kakashi stated, his curiosity piqued. Atrocious things? Like what? We're a ninja village, you know. Atrocities are our trade. At that, Sakura shook her head. I know that we as ninja, are supposed to do some less that admirable things. We might kill people and stuff, and it is definitely in the job description, but some of the things that happened here don't deserve to be visited upon anyone. Things like the Kyuubi attack and the Uchiha massacre. If I were born a little earlier, or had been a little stronger, I would have been able to do something, anything, to stop them. It's not fair. So many lives were lost and futures destroyed. What makes it worse is that both of these events happened one after the other. I regret not being able to help. Naruto blinked. Well, that's new, Naruto thought. Did that not happen? No, she kinda just ragged on me and drooled on Sasuke. Naruto thought about it for a second. So nothing new really. Maybe she just never got around to saying what she really felt last time. Admit it, if you had a choice between declaring your love for Hinata to her or saying your dreams, which would you choose with a limited time slot? Naruto chuckled. Is that even a question? Both. I love you Hinata cause I'll be Hokage to Tebeo. Kyuubi just smirked. And what about you, Mr. Energetic? Kakashi continued, gesturing to the Uchiha. Said Uchiha, with his hands folded and his chin resting upon them, simply glared up at his teacher. I don't really care about any of those things you said. I only have one goal, and that's to drone on and one about being sad. Sheesh, we get it. Life sucks. Move on, Naruto interrupted, his hands behind his head now. Kicking up his feet, the blonde boy laid back to start cloud watching. Excuse me? Sasuke asked, surprised taking the seat for now. Surely his deep-seated anger would return later. Right now questions needed to be answered. Listen, Naruto started. He looked up, eyes roaming the sky. I know life is hard for you. Believe me, it hasn't been the best for me either in this life and the last, but sitting around and wallowing about it isn't going to help anything. The boy then took a deep breath, closing his eyes once more and taking in the intricacies of life. Upon reopening them, he continued to stare at the clouds, though with a renewed vigor. Get stronger, get faster, do what you have to do. It's fine to be fully focused on whatever the hell it is that you want to, but that doesn't mean you have to ignore everything else along the way. From this, the boy continued to cloud watch for a few minutes. After a few minutes of silence, he looked down to see 3 pairs of widened eyes. Did I say something? Naruto thought. They're just surprised that you have a thought process, Kyuubi responded. Oh fuck off, Naruto responded to that. Sasuke was the first to respond, his anger easily overwhelming his shock. His glare intensified on the boy before him, before closing and turning back forward, facing the Jonin. Whatever. I don't expect you to understand me, Naruto chuckled, causing the Uchiha to turn back to him. I understand you better than anyone else in the world, bastard. You may not think so now, you may not want to admit it, but you know that you and I share a certain kind of pain. You know we share loneliness. You want to bottle it all up, and take responsibility for all of the bad things that resonate within you. I don't know, maybe you think it's because it's some sort of right thing to do, but it's not. You don't have to do any of this alone. I don't know what made you think that, but you don't. Just think about it a bit. Why would the answer to the pain and loneliness you feel be isolating yourself? And it was the end of this mini speech that the rooftop was left once again in silence. Naruto didn't notice. He had gone back to cloud watching. I can see why Shikamaru does this so often, Naruto commented, more to himself than anyone else. Kyuubi wasn't on board with the subject change. Brat, did you just use the talk no jutsu? Kyuubi asked. His voice was slightly quivered. The use of that technique was fearful to experience, even if you weren't its intended target. Just being witness to it bore effects. Naruto shook his head. No, that was about the power of a quarter of its ability. I wouldn't use it just for our meeting. I just needed to get those words out to Sasuke before it was too late. I hadn't perfected talk until after Sasuke had already run off to Orochimaru, so I couldn't convince him to stay when it really mattered. Now that I have perfected it, I wanted to test it real quick. See if it could change anything. What do you think? Naruto asked while turning his head to look at Sasuke so Kurama could get a look. The boy was shell-shocked. His face was white and devoid of emotion. Regardless, one could see the internal struggle as new thoughts and emotions cycled through his mind. I think there's a reason Tsunade banned that jutsu. Oh, it's not that bad. Meanwhile, elsewhere this is really, really bad, Hagoromo stated from his viewing spot in the timeless zone. Rinnegan activated, the sage could see the higher deities using the fullest extent of their powers to alter the path of the first meeting of Team 7 back to what it was before. Despite their best efforts however, the region around their residence just would not revert. It was somehow resisting the influence of the very beings that created it, and that was a worrying revelation. There is no way that this boy has created a technique that powerful, the sage stated, his voice shaking. This talk no jutsu, maybe Neji was right. Maybe this technique really is powerful enough to alter the world better than even the gods. Back there after recovering from their second shock of the day, with Sasuke still deep in thought, the crew on the roof came to the last member of their team. After surviving the first two students however, Kakashi was unsure whether or not he was emotionally prepared to face this boy. "And, you, orange kid?" Kakashi asked, trepidation now apparent in his voice. Naruto, his smile amplitude now cranked up past 1,000,000, cleared his throat and sat up, looking from Sakura, who was slightly shivering, to Sasuke, who flinched a bit despite still being in his daze, to finally Kakashi who was utterly mortified. Naruto somehow flared his smile to dangerous levels before starting his introduction. "My name is N." An hour later and now you're not allowed to introduce yourself anymore, the Kyuubi barked out between fits of laughter. He didn't need to breathe, yet somehow found himself struggling to find some air. Naruto could only scowl as he looked down at the pack of cards in his hand. "I don't think they needed to make me ninja introduction cards though. This is just excessively extra." He turned the card over. "I didn't even think the concept of ninja introduction cards existed." Kyuubi, who was now rolling on the floor of Naruto's gut, stopped his laughing just long enough to answer. "They didn't. They were made specifically for you." This revelation only seemed to worsen Naruto's mood. "Wait, so you're saying that the words on these cards weren't stock phrases?" "Nope. Made custom for you. I don't think these words could fit to anyone else. That's stupid." Human. Don't give away everything on the card." Naruto stood in the middle of a grassy field. The wind blew softly, carrying on it the sweet smell of spring grass and various other forms of nature in bloom. Turning to his left, Naruto saw his pink-haired teammate, Sakura Hiruno. Her hair was still long at this point in time, signifying that she was still not serious about being a ninja yet. Her fists were clenched, and her stare was set directly ahead. She had blinked very little since Kakashi had revealed to them what their test was, and if he looked close enough, he would see that she was shaking slightly. This test was probably incredibly nerve-wracking to her, and he could see why. "Well, this is totally different from the last time you fought your teacher with her," the Kyuubi growled from his place in the surrounding forest. He was hidden, using his chakra that was as natural as the trees around him to blend in. Kakashi wouldn't be noticing him unless he revealed his Sharingan. Knowing Naruto, he would probably be forced to. Naruto had to agree with Kurama on this point. "Definitely. Last time we did this," Sakura punched a hole in the ground. The ground Kyuubi. She was definitely something to be reckoned with. Now however, he started, looking to Sakura. She had swallowed hard, and it was obvious that she did it with some difficulty. She was close to the point of breaking. It's hard to believe such a powerful human was once this. "Not really. Everyone started somewhere," Naruto rebutted. "Despite her weakness now, in her is the resolve to push herself to amazing lengths. I was born being able to cause tsunamis with a single roar, and look where you are now," Naruto continued. "You're able to be a pain in my ass in a single sentence at this," Kyuubi answered with an indignant snort. Naruto continued. "Besides, Sakura became an amazing kunoichi, second only to Sasuke and myself. She did it all on her own." Kurama. "Sasuke had the Sharingan and I had you. What did she have? Talent and hard work. It's something to respect." Kurama mulled it over, before shrugging. He dismissed the point with a huff. "Either way, right now she's little more than useless to you. I'd suggest letting her clear out before letting loose." Naruto shook his head. "That wasn't the point of this test. It's to show teamwork. Beating Kakashi is nice and all, but even if I showed I had the brute strength there's no guarantee I'd pass." "Then you're just not showing enough brute strength," Kyuubi responded. "Maybe." Naruto then turned to see his other teammate. He wasn't nearly as well. In fact one might say the opposite. Sasuke stood to his other side in a daze. Blank eyes stared forward, not really taking in much around him. He had shuffled in the training area not far ahead of Kakashi, and kind of just collapsed where he and Sakura were relaxing. Since then his responses were little more than meaningless, hollow gestures and the limpest of movements in response to certain actions being taken. Naruto started throwing pine cones at him. It did not provoke a response. Since then Sasuke had walked to the starting point when Kakashi had gestured him to, and had not said nor did anything when told about the test. A blink every now and then was all Naruto had to know that the boy was still alive. "I don't think he'll be much help," Naruto said, mostly to himself. He got a mental nod from Kyuubi and another, more reluctant one from Sakura. He's been like this all day yesterday, especially after introductions, the pink-haired ninja responded. To this effect she, albeit hesitantly, threw a pine cone at the Uchiha as well. It bounced off his head with a dud and landed near the genius feet. The boy blinked. A thought occurred to Naruto. How would you know what he was like all day yesterday? Sakura stared at him. Is that a question you really want an answer to? It is not, Naruto responded, remembering slightly his own wife's stalking habits. Old stalking habits. Dear God, he hoped it was her old stalking habits. Kakashi had by this point decided that they had enough time to prepare. Taking out a small blue book, one that Naruto had noted was not of the smut variety, the Jonin proceeded to read as he placed a small clock on a nearby stump and set it to an hour. I'm sure you already have the gist of it, the Scarecrow said, his one eye entirely focused on the book before him, but I'll reiterate it just in case you don't. You have an hour. Just 1 hour to get one of these bells from my side. Those of you who get a bell will pass, while the one who doesn't will get sent back to the academy. Kakashi then paused for effect. He was disappointed when he only got one reaction out of the 3 kids before him. Sakura had gaped, fear drawn on her face at the idea of being sent back to the academy. Naruto had simply looked at him with a big, determined grin on his face. Sasuke hadn't changed since he entered. Kakashi was starting to get concerned. When exactly did you come up with the talk no jutsu, brat? Kyuubi asked, concerned as well. Naruto's face scrunched up in confusion. Why? What does it matter? No reason. Before Naruto could press, however, Kakashi pressed a finger to the timer, starting the countdown. In a flash of speed, the man was back in the center of the clearing, his eye having never left the book. You may begin, he drawled, and 2 of the genin were off in a burst of speed. Sasuke stood in the middle of the grounds. He gaped wordlessly at something Kakashi could only imagine. In the brush, Sakura did some breathing exercises as she tried to calm her nerves. Things were definitely not normal around here anymore. First off, things were weird with Sasuke. No, she never presumed to have maintained anything of a normal relationship with the boy, but she at least hoped that being placed on the same team as him would improve things even a little. That was not the case, however, for as soon as they were officially together, Naruto had to go off and tell that little speech that all but put her future husband in a coma. Though to be honest, it had some effect on her as well. Who knew Naruto was a natural-born speaker? And going back to that, Naruto had changed as well. Where before he was an annoying, orange-wearing loser who hung off of her at every chance he got, now he was more aloof and confident. He carried himself with a poise and grace that all but exuded some kind of regal aura. He still slouched and joked around when he was sure someone was looking, but in off times, when he was most relaxed, Sakura could feel it. Naruto held a sense of authority about him, one that wasn't there before. Things weren't normal. Sakura wasn't sure what to make of that. I would be confused too, a voice said to her right. She nodded, glad there was someone to share her nerves. It was then she realized she was hiding under a bush and there should really be no one there with her. With a jump and a clumsy attempt to pull out a kunai, Sakura turned on the newcomer next to her. Her knife had barely made it a few inches before her wrist was grabbed and held by an iron grip. Naruto laughed. If that's always going to be your reaction to me, we're going to have a terrible time on this team. Sakura blanched, somewhat ashamed at her knee-jerk reaction. Settling the kunai down slightly at her side, but not putting it away, the girl turned to see if her actions had alerted the jonin in the center of the field. The Scarecrow had taken to walking around the boy in the center, who was doing a far better rendition of a scarecrow than he. With a slightly relieved sigh, the girl turned back to her other teammate. What exactly do you think you're doing? Sakura asked in a hushed whisper. Her tone conveyed very little amusement. Whether Naruto noticed or not mattered little, as the boy just smiled back at her. Sakura had the urge to shield her eyes from how bright it was. I just wanted to see if you wanted to help me take down our sensei, he responded. Absently he fiddled with Iruka's headband. This was before he had to switch the cloth because it was damaged from Jiraiya's training. Something about the original material felt so much more comfortable. Sakura scowled. She kept half an eye on the proceedings outside their conversation. Kakashi had started to poke Sasuke with a stick. The Uchiha flinched when he was poked in sensitive areas, but otherwise made no effort to either move or stop the man. She looked back to Naruto. Help you? She asked. How exactly do you intend to take him down? In response, Naruto smiled. It was a wicked smile. A smile not fit on the faces of mortal men. Sakura found herself shivering. Sakura, I have a plan, the orange genin replied. Sakura didn't know, but it was on this day that she had felt true fear for the first time in her life. It was soul-crushing and empty, leaving her in a void of insurmountable hopelessness. And the worst part, it was for someone other than her. Kakashi, now tired of poking the first of his genin with a stick, decided now was as good a time as any to go find the other two. To poke, of course. With a quick 1-2 jab, the Uchiha was handily laid out on his back. The boy just flopped to the floor, not bothering to brace himself or react in any way to his new predicament. Kakashi shrugged, before turning around to look for his other two cute students. The man had to admit, out of all of the kids to stand and fight in the middle of the field, he half expected the blonde to be the one to do it. Confident, cocky and looking to prove something was practically the kid's entire MO. His sudden change was unexpected, to say the very least. Kakashi glanced over to where he had seen Sakura, the pink-haired student, -2. She did well to hide her presence and deflect her exit path from where it was expected, but her movements were all academic in execution, as in woefully standard. Kakashi could tell the textbook feints and intentional noise distractions because he had studied them when he was in the academy not too long ago. He followed her, and her pink hair, for every movement she made until she finally settled under the brush and kept an eye on her the entire time, up until he started to mess with her crush. He was sure the pinkette would be too nervous to move from that spot as she had not moved the entire 10 minutes he was waiting, but apparently she was more cunning than he had anticipated. Sometime while he was poking at the boy, she had disappeared. Oh well, just means he would have to find her. With this thought in mind, the Jonin disappeared in a shunshin. They couldn't get far from a tracker ninja, not when he himself was their target. Sakura tried her best to keep her attention away from Naruto as both him and his tangible clones dumped parcel after parcel into a huge pile in a small outcropping in the middle of the forest. They were near a river, and what started as a small bundle slowly became a rising mountain of things that Naruto was collecting. When asked what, the boy had just responded with a smile and a wave, telling her that there was nothing to worry about. For in truth, there was absolutely nothing for her to worry about. Nothing in this ever-growing pile of parcels and paper had any real significance to his genin teammate in any way. Years would pass before Sakura had any sort of revelation to even consider any of the things he was gathering of any importance. Said things were not true for his Jonin sensei, however. Their teacher landed in their clearing shortly after Naruto had grown the pile to a size for his liking, and even then the boy had clones bring in more parcels. Naruto turned from his work with a very visible smile on his face. Kakashi couldn't place the feeling exactly, but for some reason he had the slightest inkling that he was experiencing a precursor to fear. "Welcome Kakashi-sensei," Naruto greeted. He had his hands on his hips and stood with a pose facing his teacher. Behind him and to his right, Kakashi could see Sakura standing with a kunai at the ready. Their countenance were entirely opposite, so Kakashi decided to focus first on the more relaxed of the two. "That's a mighty impressive pile you have there," Kakashi drawled while taking notice of the stack behind the bow. Even as he talked, the pile grew ever bigger, the clones piling on more from elsewhere. From where, Kakashi couldn't fathom, but they were certainly working like a bat out of hell. When the boy, who Kakashi assumed was the original, just looked behind him at the pile before looking back at him and shrugging, Kakashi continued, "I hope you don't think a pile of junk would be enough to beat me." To this statement Naruto smiled even harder, and Kakashi could feel the sense of dread return twofold. Despite the dread, or perhaps because of it, that Naruto could feel on his teacher's face, the boy decided that now was the best time to start his plan. With a grand sweep of his arm, the paper on every parcel dropped in the pile disappeared, revealing an assortment of vividly colored books. Each one had a different picture of a girl and a heart, and the title Icha Icha could be seen plastered on the front. Kakashi was understandably surprised. Not that anyone would notice beyond the widening of his eye. Awestruck, the Jonin's body went stiff. His hand twitched, no doubt wanting to do nothing more than reach forward and delve through the utopia before him. After half a minute, the Jonin finally recomposed himself enough to speak. "Naruto, what is this? How did you? This is our key to victory, sensei," Naruto interrupted. Using his outstretched arm, Naruto snapped his fingers, and off in the distance a resounding boom echoed throughout the forest. It sounded somewhat like a cannon. "What was that?" Kakashi asked, looking around. Nothing seemed to be coming at him or hurtling through the trees. "I think you should focus more on what's in front of you," Naruto responded, and with a burst of speed, the orange genin turned Hokage and back to genin disappeared from sight. Kakashi went immediately on guard, knowing now that the boy was full of surprises. Before most could perceive, the book in his hand was replaced by a kunai and his stance changed to a low, almost crouching frame. Eye darting left and right, Kakashi employed his sight, scent, and hearing to the cause of tracking his orange student. The Jonin was of course alert. He was the most alert he could possibly be. Without a doubt, however, the boy had all but disappeared from his senses. Every single one of them. After 3 minutes of no response, Kakashi turned his eye to Sakura. When she flinched under his intense, analytical gaze, which was meant for Naruto, he attempted to soften his stare. He hadn't succeeded, but it was apparent the girl appreciated the gesture when she calmed slightly. I mean, the knife was still in her hand and pointed at him, but it was more of a courtesy than an actual threat. What ninja didn't point a knife at their closest friends at some point in their lives? "So what's your thing?" Kakashi asked conversationally, eye still scanning the forest for Naruto. As soon as the boy moved, he had vanished from Kakashi's radar in every aspect. That did not sit well with him. Sakura, who was now just standing in no kind of stance, just tilted her head. "What do you mean, sensei? I mean, What's your thing? Your shtick? Kakashi answered while turning in place, up, left and right, forward, and behind. Taking a cursory glance downward, even though he doubted Naruto knew the jutsu, Kakashi checked underneath him as well. Nothing there. Your teammates all have things. What's yours? Sakura looked slightly appalled. They don't all have things, they do, Kakashi responded. Looking in the air, he could see the sun. He placed it relative to where it was when the test started and assumed his students had about 15 minutes left. Naruto didn't seem to be showing up, so the genin reluctantly relaxed from his stance. Taking one last look around, Kakashi turned back to Sakura. She had put the knife away and folded her arms. Like what? The girl asked in a huff. Kakashi stared at her with a single, lazy eye. He somehow conveyed the look that one gives a mentally challenged puppy. He indulged her anyway. Let's start with your little boyfriend, Kakashi started, to the pink-haired girl's both horror and glee. He's basically a vegetable. Vegetables are good for you, Sakura yelled back. She inched slightly away from the stack of books behind her, reminding Kakashi of their existence. The genin's hand flinched again, temptation barely being reined in. Kakashi squashed the feeling immediately. He wasn't sure of what trap lay hidden yet. His eye wandered back to his pink-haired student, and if the indignant stare she was sending his way was any indication, she was not pleased with being ignored for smut. He's not a good vegetable, Kakashi retorted. His hand twitched again, almost moving forward again. He clenched that hand into a fist as tight as he could. Maybe withdrawing from the stuff wasn't his best idea. The temptation was starting to get unbearable. Sakura wasn't having any of Kakashi's words. Name a single vegetable that isn't good for you. Celery, Kakashi replied without hesitating. You burn more calories eating it than you actually gain from the act. That's great for diets, Sakura spat back, her arms now crossed. And diets aren't exactly something someone in our line of work should be indulging in. We spend enough energy in a day to warrant a week's worth of food for a normal person. Empty calories aren't something we particularly need. So, what? Are you saying we don't need Sasuke? Sakura retorted in a huff. When Kakashi just looked at her, Sakura blanched. We do need Sasuke, Kakashi just sighed. Taking one more glance around, he finally stood upright before walking slowly over to the genin. What are you doing? Sakura asked, her face slightly paling upon seeing her teacher move towards her. The genin, completely disregarding her, continued moving as if she hadn't existed. Well, your teammate obviously isn't showing himself, Sakura bristled. So, well, then obviously he doesn't seem to care. None of you managed to get any of these bells away from me and your time is almost up. You've failed, the genin replied. With a narrowing of his eye, he glared at the pink-haired student before him. Unless you mean to say that you want to get them from me, the slight step back she took was all the answer he needed. Then I will proceed to do as I please. You have all failed and I have held myself back long enough. At some point while he was explaining himself he had stopped, and now done, the scarecrow continued his stride toward Sakura. It wasn't a fast gait, but it was strong and full of purpose. Sakura flinched, but pulled out a second kune regardless. Bracing herself, the girl saw that her actions had temporarily surprised the man in front of her. Stopping in shock, the man considered the girl in front of him before continuing his stroll, with no change in demeanor save for a slightly more bemused expression. Oh, so are you going to stop me after all? Kakashi asked, a tone of mirth in his voice. Sakura ground her teeth slightly to calm her nerves before answering. Aren't you going to tell me about Naruto's quirk? She asked, trying to deflect the situation. Kakashi wasn't amused. Disregarding her question, the silver-haired genin reached forward. Sakura could feel her nerves strain to their most and, closing her eyes, the poor girl turned her head and closed her eyes as to try to ward off the inevitable. So her surprise when she felt her sensei reach past her completely was perfectly understandable. Opening her eyes, Sakura traced Kakashi's arm to his hand, seeing that she was in fact not his girl at all. Gingerly the man picked up a copy of Icha Icha Knight, a copy he had not owned yet, and set to reading it. His kune holstered, the man dedicated his focus to the book in front of him. After a moment of silence, the man looked up from his book once more to see Sakura staring agape. Kakashi stared back at her, a single lazy eye slightly tinged with curiosity. Surely his actions went too far out of the ordinary. Is there something wrong? Kakashi asked, his eyes darting between his student and the words on the page, not really paying attention to either. Sakura, after a moment deliberation to get herself together, managed an answer. Nothing, sensei. I'm just surprised. Surprised? Kakashi asked, an eyebrow quirking. I do things like this all the time. Surely you've heard of my reputation? She had to have. At this point, the ex-Anbu member was almost certain that he was more known for his habitual porn reading than his Sharingan. This was a fact he was quickly coming to terms with. Sakura had simply shook her head at his question. No, it's not that, Sakura answered, before lowering her head so that her hair slightly covered it. A few quiet seconds passed, before Kakashi could hear a slight giggling. High-pitched and melodious, the girl managed to keep her mirth under wraps a few seconds longer before her giggles evolved into chuckles, and then full-blown laughter. Unable to contain herself any longer, the girl had all but fallen to the floor in pure amusement. Kakashi, however, was only confused. "What's so funny?" he asked. This wasn't the appropriate reaction of a genin 5 minutes away from failure. Sakura, who was now just barely holding herself up on one of her hands and her knees, could only choke as she tried to answer through her gasps for air. A few more seconds passed, and she managed to get herself mostly under control. I'm surprised that you actually fell for it. Every single little bit of his plan," Sakura managed to gasp out, and it was at this moment that Kakashi realized his mistake. Whirling on his heel, the Jonin had just enough time to bring up his arms in a cross to block the heavy haymaker from the speeding bullet of orange. Kakashi's knees buckled under the weight of the attack, and suddenly Naruto's thing reasserted itself in the one-eyed man's mind. The boy was far more powerful than he let on. Lesson 1, the boy announced, the shockwave from the boy's launch finally catching up and launching the Jonin back and over the pile of porn. Dragging along the ground, the Jonin created a ditch in the dirt, before recollecting himself and looking back at his student. Taijutsu. Naruto landed from his launch in a crouch, his body parallel to the ground as he touched down. Taking a deep breath, the ex-Hokage prepared himself for the kind of high-speed battle associated with elite-level ninja. "You sure you don't need me for this, brat? Your fighting prowess is a bit on the short side," Kyuubi commented from his place in the woods. He had been watching from beginning to end, and he was a little less than enthusiastic about the odds of them winning. "Nah, I'm fine. Kakashi isn't as strong as he was in the future. We're both handicapped here," Naruto responded. Slowly, he rose from his position, staring down his old sensei as the man did the same. Kakashi didn't seem too pleased with his reintroduction. "Just stick to the plan," Naruto finished, before immediately whirling on the spot. Crossing his arms over his chest, the orange boy was subjected to a right hook by the older man which sent him sprawling back. Digging in his heels, the boy managed to anchor himself in the dirt after sliding for a few moments. When he finally stopped, he managed a smirk while fighting off the urge to rub his arm from the place of impact. The man hit harder than he remembered. "Was that revenge, Sensei?" Naruto asked. Kakashi, whose fist was still outstretched from his punch, had simply shook his gloved fist. Apparently Naruto wasn't the only one to get hurt from the exchange. "No," the Jonin answered after a moment, "that was an introduction. This is my revenge." Suddenly a copy of the Jonin burst from the ground behind Naruto, his hands interlocking fingers with the index pointing out. The ex-Anbu thrust it forward faster than the Naruto could react, and the boy was subjected to a devastatingly powerful poke in a place he would rather it not be. The boy flinched, pain becoming apparent on his features, before smiling a wicked grin. Weaving through signs, Naruto initiated his technique. Exploding clone jutsu, XXX. Kyuubi flinched as the memories of the shadow clone rushed to both him and his container. "I will never understand your fascination with using that technique to counter that abominable prank," Kyuubi growled. He had taken to jumping through the forest to follow through on Naruto's plan. Little did Kakashi know that he had 4 people to work against. Naruto, who was nowhere near the fox, shrugged his shoulders. Through what could only be assumed as chakra magic did the fox manage to know of this. The exploding clone jutsu is a wonderful technique. Just what you need to cause widespread damage and let everyone know it was you. You know, if I didn't know any better, I'd liken you to Deidara. Naruto scrunched his face. "Who are you talking about now?" the boy asked. "Deidara, the mad bomber who was a part of Akatsuki. You fought him before, did I?" Naruto asked. He had landed in a different part of the forest from where he was fighting his sensei. After looking around a bit, he found what he was searching for and rapidly made his way over to it. "Tell me what he was like," Kyuubi deadpanned. "He was the mad bomber. Do I really need to explain to you what he was like?" Naruto didn't respond. That in itself was Kyuubi's answer. "He was the blonde guy with the hand mouths," Kyuubi answered with a sigh. Inwardly he cursed the blonde boy's terrible memory. Seeing as they shared a mind space and thus internal thoughts, this wasn't an inward occurrence at all. "I heard that," Naruto replied indignantly. "I know," Kyuubi replied immediately. "Anyway," Naruto continued as he threw his finding over his shoulder, "I think I remember that guy. Didn't we tear his arms off?" Kyuubi nodded. "Sweet. I just noticed, but Konoha Ninja had a history of tearing people's arms off." At this, Kyuubi raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" the fox asked. "Prove it." "I tore off Deidara's arms." "Okay, that's one," Kyuubi remarked as he started to move through the trees again. Seeing nothing to note these tallies on, he lit a tree on fire. "Old man Hokage tore off Orochimaru's arms," Naruto stated. He had also started running through the trees at this point, and had noticed smoke coming up from afar. "Was that you?" "Yes," Kyuubi answered. "So is this," and at that, another tree went up in flames. "Also, I don't think that counts. He still had his arms. The Hokage just sealed his soul arms." Naruto scowled. "He did that by tearing off his soul arms. It counts." "Fair enough," the fox responded. He lit another tree. "Dude, you already counted that one," Kyuubi shrugged. Naruto groaned at his nonchalance. Then again, he himself had taken to randomly killing people. With his genocidal tendencies in mind, a thought occurred to him. Hey, Kyuubi? Yes, meatbag, Kyuubi answered. Does deity-induced damage control extend beyond just revival of people? Kyuubi pondered the idea. I dunno, maybe. Why do you ask? Naruto looked off into the distance to where the smoke should no doubt be increasing as the fire spread. Instead of doing that, the smoke was slowly regressing, until finally disappearing altogether. Knowing the Kyuubi's pyromania, Naruto decided this was probably for the best. Naruto was tempted to change the subject, but unfortunately their mind link worked both ways. Kyuubi turned from where he was running in outrage. His most recent tree had already started to be put out. Oh, Kyuubi, wait, no, calm down, Naruto stammered out. Hell, Kyuubi, no, we can talk about this. To the fucking no, Kyuubi roared, and Naruto could feel the fox's ire as he raced back to the trees that were now perfectly fine. Inhaling deeply, the fox simply exhaled fire without the need for ninjutsu or hand seals. The fire engulfed the tree he was facing, and Naruto could feel the content wash over both him and Kyuubi. This content was quickly replaced by annoyance as the tree was immediately put out. A still silence permeated their link. Kurama, are you? Naruto started to ask after a minute. He was interrupted by his tenant. Naruto, this means war. Naruto sighed again. Of course it does. XXX. Sakura watched as her teammate pretty much exploded and her sensei's clone disappear as the real Kakashi was once again torpedoed across the clearing. He went thump against a tree, before slowly falling down it and landing in a heap at its base. After a while of not moving, Sakura was pretty sure the man was out cold. Seeing the opportunity for what it was, she made her way over to him. Stopping only when she was within a few meters, the genin inhaled deeply before inching over to him. Slowly, as if not to disturb the man's rest, Sakura gently leaned over to grab the two bells and be rid of this for all. She wasn't entirely too sure who she was going to give the other bell to, as Naruto was the entire cause this was happening in the first place, but having them and not knowing was a much better situation to be in than not. Now, Sakura couldn't tell you what it was that told her to stop. Intuition, ninja instinct finally kicking in after all these years. Either one or both could be accredited, for as her fingers were mere inches from the bells, a feeling in her told her to move. Knowing that doubt on the battlefield could lead to death, Sakura immediately complied, throwing herself to the side as something small cut through the air where she previously was. Rolling out of her dodge into a crouch, Sakura saw the image of her sensei shimmer before phasing out of existence. In its place was a single kunai embedded in the tree. Jinjutsu, Sakura thought. With a scowl, the pink genin glared behind her to where Kakashi stood nonchalant. A second kunai twirled on his finger as he looked down on her, both figuratively and literally. Sakura stood up slowly. She retrieved a knife of her own as she did so. I have to admit, Kakashi droned as he watched her arm herself, I didn't think you'd be able to dodge that. It appears not all of you are useless, Sakura replied to him with a molten glare. You almost killed me, the girl spat out. Had she not been so incensed, she would be surprised at the hostility in her own voice. Whether Kakashi himself was surprised, or even affected in any way at all by her tone, was a mystery, as the man continued on without a care. I told you before, Pinky. The world you're trying to get into is not fun and games. The world you're trying to enter will attempt to kill you every chance it gets. The world you're trying to be a part of wants absolutely nothing more than to tear you limb to limb. The world you want to join so desperately is one filled with death, despair, and a lack of any sort of morals. And honey? Kakashi asked, leaning forward with a glint in his eyes. Sakura moved to answer, but she found it hard to with a blade against her throat. Blinking, Sakura could feel her sensei behind her, the clearing in front of her now empty. When had he moved? Honey, the world we're a part of gives no second chances, and you've just lost your only one. These were the last words Sakura heard before the knife slit her throat. This is the world of Ninja Pinky, and unfortunately for you, I was your gatekeeper. XXX. Naruto landed back in the clearing and, with lots of flair, dumped his burden on the ground. He had spent the last few minutes falling from tree after tree in a fruitless attempt to calm the Kyuubi down. He hadn't succeeded in his attempt, but at the very least Kyuubi was focusing on a single tree now. I will win this, boy, the Kyuubi growled. Even now Naruto could hear explosions in the background. He winced at the wanton destruction being tossed around. Even though the Kyuubi was only targeting a single tree, the methods of his destruction was no doubt enveloping many. Fine, fine. Roar into the wind all you want, fuzzball. Just be ready to fulfill your part when the time comes. Naruto heard the Kyuubi growl. It was deep and guttural, and reminded the Hokage of years long past when the being wanted nothing more than to eat him. Of course, Kurama still aimed to eat him even now, but it wasn't the deep-seated desire it was before. I care not for your petty little plans anymore, human. This is a matter between beings much more sophisticated than you. I do not intend to lose it. I didn't know you cared, Fox. I don't, Kyuubi responded. His answer was short and full of irritation. But I'd be damned if I lose to anyone besides you. Naruto, upon hearing the Kyuubi's response, made a small heart over his chest. AWW, you big sweetheart you. Are you acknowledging my power? Kyuubi chuckled. I admit you are strong, brat. but you are still just barely a blip on my almighty radar. What I'm acknowledging is your luck. In that aspect of yours, and that aspect alone, I fear the quantity you possess. There is no way that you should be able to spit in the face of such stronger beings so often and still walk among the living, and yet, here you are, you're smiling like an idiot, the likes of which you definitely are, by the way, and devising a plan against your old sensei. I definitely fear you, Naruto, but only because I have no feasible idea where your luck, and your unpredictability, ends. Naruto, who had started to make googly eyes at nothing, but with intent at Kurama, stopped to contemplate what his tenant had said. In his older body it was a deep and nerve-wracking experience, as even with his goofy nature Naruto was feared across the shinobi nation. In just a wave of his synthetic hand Naruto possessed more power and skill than even most of his own jonin. Now however, it looked little more than adorable on his fat cheeks and large eyes. That's the second time I've heard something like that. What? That you're an idiot? Kurama asked innocently. Naruto imagined a hammer falling on Kurama's head. Sure enough, afterwards he could feel the fox flinching. Satisfied, Naruto answered. No, though I've heard too many of that as well. I've heard people say before that I'm just far too lucky. First Grandpa Sage said it and now you. I don't really see the connection. Are you serious? You're really serious right now? Naruto glared out of space. There was nothing in his immediate line of sight but the trees, but somehow Kurama got the message. What? Yes. My life was entirely too hard if you ask me. If I listed everything that happened to me throughout me life you'd stagger and fall in its inglorious magnitude. Kurama huffed. I know everything that happened through your life, Bo. I was there. But go ahead and humor me. Well, for starters, not 5 minutes after I was born a madman extracted a giant demon fox from my mother, nearly killing her in the process. That giant demon fox then went on to kill both my parents right in front of me, leaving me an orphan. Kyuubi scoffed. Oh boo-hoo. The poor ninja boy got a secondary source of power. You've tried to kill me on multiple occasions. Naruto deadpanned. Oh boo-hoo. The poor ninja boy had people attempt to kill him. If anything, more people try to kill you now than they ever did then, Kyuubi responded. His anger temporarily abated by the conversation, he stopped trying to blow up the tree. The pockmarked devastation around where he sat cross-legged was slowly returning to normal. You want to try again, idiot? Naruto frowned slightly at the nickname, but otherwise said nothing about it. My parents are dead. I grew up an orphan my entire life, so did like half the shinobi forces. You're not special in that aspect. When a ninja mommy and a ninja daddy love each other very much, they leave an infant to fend for themselves. Continue. I was different from other kids. I had a giant chakra monster sealed into my gut, a process that you survived, by the way, and it was for that reason that I was ostracized and left to do on my own for so long. I was bullied my entire childhood. Bullying isn't uncommon amongst your species. Didn't you bully Shukaku? I never said it was uncommon amongst mine because of circumstances outside of my control. I was being hunted by some of the strongest people to walk the elemental nations, and because of those you were able to meet equally powerful allies, most of which became very powerful connections. Kyuubi responded. He yawned. By the way, you also survived all of those encounters, which should not have been so. They could have killed and kidnapped you 1,000 times over, what with how you brazenly run into danger. They don't however, and it confuses me. Pain killed the entire village, a fact you reversed mere minutes later. A feat you did by, what was it again? Oh yes, you talked the man to submission. Now that I think about it, for most of your fights you talk to the finish. Come on kid. I know you enjoy falling back on one-trick ponies, but to use it every single time, Naruto scoffed. It worked on you, didn't it? Kyuubi barked back. It was a somewhat mocking gesture. I never said it wasn't a potent ability. Once I find out how you do it I will immediately bring the world to its knees. That you haven't done so yet, even only temporarily, surprises me. Naruto contemplated the Kyuubi's words, before shrugging them off. It doesn't interest me. World domination. I'd rather just look over the people I love and be done with the rest of the world. Naruto then kicked his package, the comatose form of Uchiha Sasuke. The boy flinched at the slight pain but did nothing else. Besides, I wouldn't want everyone to end up like him. Yeah, about that, Kyuubi responded. He stared forlornly at the tree which just refused to remain as ashes. Why is he still like that? Shouldn't the gods have fixed him by now? To this, Naruto stared back at the raven-haired boy. He hadn't noticed before, but the Uchiha had yet to become a dick again. It was something to be concerned about. Naruto, however, wasn't. I'm sure he'll be okay, he said while shrugging. Kyuubi sighed. Whatever you say, kid. What of the other brat, Sakura? One sec, Naruto stated while looking around the arena. He was sure that this was where he left the two other members of his team, but neither were in immediate sight. They're not here. Oh, what an astute observation. Do you want 1 gold star, or 2? Shut it, furball. They should be here. The pawn books are over there, after all, and Sakura isn't strong enough yet to carry this fight elsewhere. Where the hell is she? It was then Naruto heard rustling in the woods behind him. Out of the branches and bushes stumbled no other than his target, one Kakashi Hatake, and under his arm he carried a bloodied Sakura. With all the nonchalance of someone taking out trash, Kakashi tossed her body, which flopped through the air as if it had no vigor in it at all, to the blonde boy's feet. Naruto looked at it, at first confused, before that confusion turned into anger. Kakashi, seeing this, decided to speak. You should have been here for her instead of running around wasting time. Now you have 1 minute left, and no teammates to help you. The man then got into a fighting stance. He kept his body low, and his center of gravity even. I hope you're ready. Naruto, meanwhile, was only barely controlling his rage. Furball, dear gods, what? Child, Kyuubi responded. What the hell is this? The blonde boy asked, pointing down at his feet. Kyuubi tapped into their mental link to see through the boy's eyes. The fox stared and stared, looking carefully around and taking in everything he could see before answering. That would be your feet, see student. Yeah, Naruto replied. I know. Kyuubi waited for a bit. He waited for a little more than a bit actually, in some vain attempt to understand what exactly was going on in his tenant's head. The fox quickly realized what a futile attempt this was. I'm sorry. I don't see where you are going with this. Would you mind elaborate? I mean, Naruto dragged out mentally, that there is supposed to be something there. Kakashi just walked out of the forest all menacingly and made a big show of throwing something at my feet and I have no idea what it is. I think it's supposed to be Jinjutsu, but if it is then we have no idea of knowing what he's trying to show us, and what is the problem with that? You're immune to his tricks. Naruto stared at the fox through their link. In truth he was still staring at his feet, but again, Kyuubi somehow knew what he was intending to do. If I don't know what he's trying to trick me with, then how, pray tell, am I supposed to fuck with him? And here Kyuubi immediately realized his error. Shit, you're right. Alright, we can work this out. What did he say when he walked up to you? Naruto thought hard. He believed Kakashi said something about wasting time, protecting and no one to help. I see, the fox mused. Well, with the absence of your pink teammate and the coma of your other one, I think it's safe to assume that he is trying to show you the body of your non-potato teammate in order to either discourage you or enrage you. Naruto played with the idea. Yeah, that's a good guess. I think I remember Sakura saying something along those lines happening to her during the first run-through of our genin exams. Wait, you remembered that innocuous little detail but you forget the abilities of one of the very few people to actually come close to killing you. D-Daisy was never that close to killing me. Deidara, whatever. Naruto shrugged. He then took a deep breath, before looking at Kakashi with as much genuine anger as he could whip up at the moment. In truth, it wasn't a lot, but damn was he trying. He took all your ramen and burned it in a fire. You bastard, you'll pay for this, Naruto roared as he blasted from his spot. Kakashi, for his part, only managed a slight moment of shock before responding in kind. Instantaneously a high-speed dance of fists and kicks erupted between the two ninja, only liberated by a short reprieve when both had to take a breath. Kakashi was the first to break off. His breathing was labored as he did not expect to have to engage in battle against one of his students for so long. That exchange was, for lack of better words, actually not too rudimentary. Naruto, while leaving quite a few openings, performed feints and executed moves in preparation for others about 3 moves ahead. He attempted, and failed, to corral Kakashi into making amateur mistakes, and even though his anger had made him reckless, he wasn't the only one disadvantaged. The Jonin had hid it well, but the effect of Naruto's opening attack from when he literally rocketed out of the trees and struck him had damaged him greatly. The Scarecrow had managed to block, just barely, but it was like taking a sledgehammer to his arms. His bones creaked and ached, and it hurt to move them too much. He found himself unable to block some of his students' moves, and as such took damage in places he otherwise would have been fine. Meanwhile Naruto wasn't doing too hot either. We have 45 seconds, Kyuubi. Get your ass over here. In response, the fox boy yawned. I'll get there when I get there. Unfortunately Kakashi was already there and making every use of this ability. Shortly after Naruto finished his mental conversation, Kakashi had re-engaged, and Naruto found himself in a flurry of blows. The short blonde could see that Kakashi was favoring kicks over punches, but in the end that initial blow of his only managed to even the field. Kyuubi had been right, he was shorter, weaker, and just not used to his body anymore, which gave him handicaps that far outstripped his senior fighting wisdom. He overreached, underreached, and then plain just lost balance at times, which gave Kakashi more than enough time to beat him over the head because of it. It was frustrating to say the least. Naruto found himself put quickly on the defensive and, had he not known of his sensei's fighting style, he would have quickly succumbed to the man. This took place in the span of 10 seconds. Naruto grunted and dug in his heels again. The last exchange with the currently older man had him reeling, and he had to stop himself from flying off. Lidded blue eyes locked onto Kakashi's singular black one. He looked just as tired as Naruto felt, but he had yet to reveal his Sharingan. That did not bode well. Kurama, I need you. Now, hold your horses. I'm almost there. I will do whatever the hell I want to with my horses, Naruto responded. It was cheeky, but Naruto needed some form of nerve control. Kakashi was reaching for his headband. Naruto wasn't entirely too sure he could take the man as he was now, clumsy, injured, and barely holding on. You're more trouble than you seem, Uzumaki Kakashi stated. His voice was low and menacing, and he stalked towards Naruto like a wolf ready to hunt. Naruto found himself repressing the need to shiver. How he wished he could still reach the top ramen now. I was always a prankster, Naruto responded. The boy had taken to backing up, one step away for every step Kakashi took towards him. Their sizes were much too different though, so Kakashi was slowly gaining. No, Kakashi muttered. He had an edge of steel to his voice. His hand had just gripped the bottom of his headband. You're stronger than you should be too. Fun fact, Naruto, my Sharingan doesn't record things that I see in my dreams, and I definitely remember you knocking me out with that harem technique of yours. Ingenious, sure, but still treacherous. You could have killed me, but I didn't, Naruto added, hoping it would help his case. It didn't. Yes, that is true, Kakashi responded, which is why I played along with you. At first you had done nothing to ring any alarms, but now it brings me to another problem. Here Kakashi finally lifted his headband. His other eye spun with a practiced and fully controlled swirl. Closing his other eye, Kakashi's legs tensed, and the man looked more ready than ever to pounce. You know too much for a kid your age. What exactly are you planning? No, nothing, Sensei, Naruto yelped. As fast as he could, the ex-Hokage brought up his hands to perform the harem jutsu once again, only for his wrist to be grabbed on the second, and very last, seal. No, not again, Kakashi muttered, his voice low as a whisper. The man then yanked on Naruto's arm, slamming it into a nearby tree. 20 seconds. Kurama, get your lazy ass into gear now. All right, meet Sak, I'm here. Kakashi, who had by now produced a kunai, had held it to Naruto's neck. He had begun to start interrogating the boy when he heard the rustling of paper behind him. Sparing a quick glance, Kakashi was surprised to find a clone of Naruto there, standing on the mountain of smut. Hi there, Kyuubi chirped. He wore a wide, toothy grin and placed a hand on his hips. He looked nonchalant and uncaring, but that made sense for who he is. In order to really hammer in the message though, the fox waved. Kakashi was not impressed. Turning back to the original, Kakashi fixed him with a Sharingan-enhanced glare. Is this your last act? I expected better of you. A single clone won't be enough to stop me, Naruto laughed. Who said he was to stop you? Kakashi, who was now slightly confused by both Naruto's mirth, just turned back to the foxified boy behind him. Next to the boy now sat a barrel, the object quickly becoming a seat for the apparition. Hey, sensei, guess what's in here? Kakashi didn't answer. I'll give you a hint, the fox stated cheekily. I really love fire, and just like that, the fox boy jumped high into the air. Without nary a hand seal, the fox blew a small fireball down to the barrel, igniting it. Kakashi, slightly confused at what was going on initially, was in no position to stop what was happening. In an instant the barrel, as well as what gasoline had spilled all over the books, had caught flame, bathing the books in an all-consuming fire of indescribable heat. Naruto had to gasp for air as Kakashi lost feeling in his arms. No, Kakashi gasped out. He was forced to watch the scene not only in real time with his normal eye, which had opened unconsciously through shock, but with his Sharingan eye as well. He had witnessed the sacrilege burning of what he amounted to an almost holy book with his own two eyes, and now he could never forget. His Sharingan had once again copied something he wished it hadn't, and now this scene was burned into his eyes forever. Rage now overcoming his shock, he turned on the just now recovering blonde with hatred leaking out of his every feature. You monster, Kakashi growled. Naruto started chuckling. You don't even know the half of it. Kakashi had started stalking towards Naruto once again. His hand flinched, now devoid of any smut and with the urge to start up a Chidori. Give me one reason I shouldn't tear you apart. They were all in there. Kakashi stopped. Excuse me, all of them, Kakashi-sensei. Every single Icha paradise in existence in this village was in that bonfire. Congratulations, Kakashi, whose hand was about to spark slightly, started to shake. What do you mean? That can't be it is. All of them? Impossible, Kakashi shrieked. You couldn't have gotten? Yes, Naruto interrupted, even the ones you had stashed away in your secret underground bunker. As of today, right now, there are absolutely no more Icha in the village hidden in the leaves, and Kakashi, whose eye scanned every single book in the pile in horror, knew that this was true. He wept. He wept and collapsed, his body sagging as if he had no bones. I can't, it's okay Kakashi-sensei, Naruto consoled the man as he walked over to him. Reaching down, the boy grabbed the bells from the man's waist. A second after he did so, the bell rang, ending the test. You still have the Icha Knights? At this, the man seemed to become reinvigorated. Bolting upright, Kakashi reached around himself frantically, before reaching into his pouch and pulling out the purple cover book. Kakashi opened its edges and peered through its contents, his eyes drinking in its words as fast as he could. He then immediately collapsed, his eyes a dead, empty void. Kyuubi appeared in the clearing. What did you do to him this time? Naruto started to chuckle. There is no copy of Icha Icha Nights, Kurama, Naruto responded. He had then started to roll on the ground, laughing his sides off. In that book, I included a couple pages from other works I remembered, then filled the rest of the pages with there is no such thing as Icha Icha. Naruto started to literally howl. He's going to be out forever, ha 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 ha. Naruto continued to roll on the floor for several more minutes, the bells rolling with him, creating a harmonious jingling sound with uproarious laughter. After a while he noticed the Kyuubi was not celebrating with him. Kyuubi? Naruto asked, sitting up. What's wrong? This was hilarious. Kyuubi didn't respond to Naruto. Not directly. Kid, did you forget anything? Like, anything at all? The Kyuubi asked. Naruto stared at him, then tried to think hard about anything he might have missed. When he couldn't think of anything, he turned back to Kyuubi. Not that I know of, no, Naruto answered. I see. Then this should be even funnier. What are you talking about? Kurama was all Naruto was able to get out before a palm enveloped in blue, chakra flames hit him in the nape of his neck. The boy was sent sprawling across the clearing, missing the foxy form of Kyuubi after he dodged, and slamming into a tree. The boy slumped to the ground unconscious. Kyuubi turned back to the boy who had knocked his companion clean out. He then started laughing. Ha 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 ha, Kyuubi roared. That was Golden Neji, whose palm was still outstretched from his strike, simply stared at the clone before him. I don't understand, Neji stated, his voice barely remaining stoic. Aren't Naruto's clones supposed to explode when the original is knocked out? Kyuubi choked down a laugh. I'm not like the other clones, Neji tilted his head. What do you mean, Naruto? And why is your voice so low? It's because I'm not Naruto. I'm the Kyuubi. Indeed, the two beings older than the bodies they inhabited then stood among the full, unconscious, Team 7. So Sakura isn't really dead? Neji asked Naruto as they walked through one of the main roads of town. It was a busy day, and townspeople and merchants alike were scrambling to and from the main gates of Konoha. Despite the busy traffic however, the civilians managed to give the two boys a wide berth. It didn't have anything to do with Kyuubi though, who was quite literally standing aside the two boys as they talked. No, civilians just knew not to interfere with a ninja in any of their goings-on. It was just bad survival instinct. No, Naruto answered in between licks of his ice cream pop. It was blue and the boy wasn't really too sure what the flavor was, but he remembered eating it a lot with Jiraiya. That was just a genjutsu Kakashi cast on her with the Sharingan to make her think she was dead. Commonplace stuff really. It knocked her out like a light and allowed him to make quick work of her. Naruto shrugged. I guess he really wanted to get all three basic tenets of shinobi out of the way. Neji, who was also eating a blue ice cream pop, turned to his friend. 3? There are like 18. What do you mean 3 basic? I mean taijutsu, jinjutsu, and ninjutsu. Neji stared at the boy. And then, Naruto stared back. What do you mean? And then, well, if he's going to teach you those 3, what about kinjutsu, shurikenjutsu and bukijutsu? Naruto threw his hands in the air. The ice cream pop stayed in his hands somehow. No one ever even does those. Everyone focuses on the main 3. Tenten would disagree. That's cause she's a weapons specialist. Of course she would focus on those things. Literally no one else do. And what about Lee? He can't even use ninjutsu and jinjutsu, so how are those even the main 3 for him? If anything, his main 3 would be taijutsu, then kinjutsu and then bukijutsu. He uses all 3 to complement his style. Well, again, that's a special case and he has a point there. I don't use any of those. If anything, I specialize in kinjutsu, Kyuubi replied. He was slightly more done with his ice cream pop than the other two. No one outside of the time traveler seemed to notice the foxy boy was there, and so every so often he tripped someone. Naruto started to grind his teeth. You're not even a ninja, and what about Lady Tsunade? She doesn't even use ninjutsu, or jinjutsu either really. It's all crude taijutsu and healing jutsu. She grew up to be Hokage. To be fair, she was like a million years old and she was trained by Grandpa Third Dan, and there's even you. You barely know either ninjutsu or jinjutsu. You use clones and lots of taijutsu, so one could say that you're not even on that list of main 3, what with how you bastardize 2 of those tenets and flat out ignore the third. At this point Naruto got fed up. Charging a Rasengan in his hand, then crushing it, Naruto used the latent kinetic energy to punch Kyuubi through a building. The establishment collapsed on him. Neji could barely contain his shock. Naruto, the blank-eyed boy, screamed. He pointed to the destroyed building, his mouth agape. What? The blonde asked. What the sage was that? Oh, that? Naruto asked. He started to scratch his head. If I compress the Rasengan's energy in my hand, I can focus the power into a punch and… What? Neji sputtered. No, I mean the destroying of the property. How many people could you have just killed? Yeah, and don't even worry about what happened to me, Kyuubi muttered, climbing out the rubble. And I was almost done with that popsicle too. Naruto shrugged. I dunno. Probably a lot. It was a big building. Why? Neji looked like he was going to burst. Since when were we about killing innocent civilians? How much have you changed in the years, Naruto? What happened to the Naruto who was about protecting his loved ones and everyone in the village? Naruto stared. Well, I'm still about that, I guess, the blonde answered, just back in our own village. Not this one. What's the difference? Neji asked, his eyes ready to bulge out of his head. These people could have grown up to be the merchants who protected you or something. Neji by this point had started to pace back and forth. It was obvious he was trying to work out how to fix this. Noticing Neji's panic, Naruto realized something. Neji didn't know about the rules of the time jump. Naruto walked up, or tried to walk up, to the boy, but he found the process rather hard as Neji was pacing quite fast. Wait, hold on Neji. There's an okay Naruto, I have a plan. Keep in mind the only reason I'm going to help you is because you resurrected me. So here's what we do. I'm going to cause a distraction. With the city in chaos, you'll take Kurama and hightail it as fast as you can from the village. Wait, Neji. I don't think you understand. Not now Naruto. Neji snapped. I'm trying to save your life. Naruto turned to Kurama. That was an interesting idea actually. Can we die here? Kurama responded with a half-hearted shrug. His next action was to take Naruto's quarter-done ice pop. I suppose it's going to be hard for you to evade Hunter Ninja for too long, but in our past life you were a Hokage, so they shouldn't pose too much of a threat to you. Neji, wait a minute. There's something you need to then I suppose that you can make a living in sooner. They're not too friendly with Konoha right now, right? We can hide you off there. Then Neji got a really excited look on his face. You can talk no jutsu. The Kazekage. Kyuubi put his hand on Neji's shoulder. The boy looked at the fox boy in alarm. I assumed you to be the responsible one. Don't go around suggesting such liberal use of dangerous techniques ever again. Aren't you the creature that created an ability with the sole purpose of destroying large amounts of landscape? Naruto asked. And yet here I stand, almost wholeheartedly assuring you that it pales in comparison to what your technique could do. Around here Neji started to sober up. Yes, you're right Mr. Kyuubi, please, I prefer Lord. I was going on a bit of a wild spree there, Neji continued, completely ignoring the fox from that point on. But the point still stands. We have to find some way to get you out of here. If the Andu arrive and see what you've done, they'll surely. Why is the house reformed? Sure enough, the house had reformed. That's what I was trying to tell you, Neji, Naruto assured the Hyuga. With a slightly reassuring look, Naruto attempted to say his next words carefully. Nothing we actually do here has any consequence. Elaborate, Neji stated. He was staring at the house, literally staring at it, Byakugan blazing, as the house reformed itself in front of his eyes. It would be captivating if it weren't so completely ridiculous. Well, to put it simply, the gods and powers that be find my life supremely hilarious. They want me to relive my life exactly as the way it was before, and for that reason they will not let me do anything out of the ordinary. Anything that I do that goes against the grain, such as destroying houses or, Naruto trailed off. He looked around a bit, before finding a suitable target. With the grace and ease of a man who had trained to become the strongest fighter in the shinobi world, Naruto threw his kunai and pierced the head of a man walking down a street almost 3 blocks down. Naruto had pat himself on the shoulder for firing the blade around the many civilians between them, but Neji could only look on in muted horror. Killing people? Yes, Neji finished. The boy appeared to be looking at the reforming wreckage of the house still, but since his Byakugan was active, Naruto knew he was also keeping an eye on the villager, who was now standing back up. Casually, the villager pulled the bloodied kunai out of his skull and dropped it to the ground, before continuing on through the village with a recovering hole in his face. So, nothing matters what we do? Neji asked. By now the house had fully reformed, both inside and out, and the people inside had started to move about as if nothing had just happened. Nope, Naruto answered, not so long as it doesn't somehow correspond with what was actually supposed to happen around then. Well, I really wish you had told me that sooner. Why? Naruto asked. They had started walking down the street again. Because, Neji responded, if you had, maybe I wouldn't have tried so hard to stick to the proverbial plan. I've been walking on eggshells trying to do exactly the same things I had done all those years ago. Not easy when it happened almost 4 years ago for me. Try like 30 for me, Naruto responded. Try never for me, Kyuubi chimed in. Yeah, I've been meaning to ask about that, Neji asked. Neji pointed to the Kyuubi. The fuck? Oh, that, Naruto commented offhandedly. Yeah, when we became partners I didn't really think it fair for us to be sitting on uneven terms, so he can leave pretty much whenever he wants. The only reason he ever stays inside me anymore is cause he's too lazy to find his own apartment. I don't find the housing market too favorable right now, Kyuubi stated matter-of-factly. Plus, people don't usually have too much success selling to a gigantic, fire-breathing fox with extremely malevolent intentions. Neji stared. He doesn't fit in well with the neighborhood watch, Naruto clarified. I have a feeling he's what the neighborhood is watching for. Besides, it's nice to have backup whenever I need it. If something goes wrong, I can just have him come out and nuke everything. It's not even a problem anymore because, according to recent findings, my nuke will immediately be reversed. Whoopee, Kyuubi didn't sound as enthusiastic as he should have been, and everything will be reset. We've used it to retry the Kakashi incident. Neji quirked an eyebrow. The Kakashi incident? Yes, the Kakashi incident, Naruto repeated. Neji waited for Naruto to elaborate. He made it 3 blocks before realizing that Naruto, in fact, was not going to. Kyuubi elbowed the blonde in his side. Oh, right. Yeah, we did this whole thing where we tried to find out what was under Kakashi's mask. Turns out it is literally impossible to find out. Neji turned to Naruto. What do you mean, impossible? I mean it's impossible, Naruto responded. We blew up the middle of the city about 11 times, and I even Mega Rasengan barraged it. No matter what we did, we couldn't get the man to take it off. We even severed his head once, Neji gagged. Eventually we just gave up. It wasn't worth the effort. Neji regained his composure. Wasn't he Hokage? Neji asked. Yeah, what of it? Naruto responded. He had to get his face on the mountain, didn't he? Well, yeah, Naruto answered slowly. He wasn't sure where this was going. So, didn't he have to get his mask removed? I'm pretty sure it's in the mandate for him to remove it, Naruto balked. Well, yeah, it is in the mandate, Naruto started. Neji raised his eyebrow. I feel like there's a but in there, but he still somehow got it up there. Neji deadpanned. You're joking? I'm not, responded Naruto. How did he? Neji trailed off. I believe it had something to do with, it's either this or Icha being the national literature I see, Neji responded. XXX it's usually around here that one would chronicle the adventures of Team 7 as they undertook numerous D-ranked missions and tried their very hardest to catch Tora. However, because of the way the story is, that's going to be incredibly boring. Allow me to sum it up for you. Sasuke was a vegetable, Sakura was a bubblegum princess, Kakashi was a suspicious cyclops, and Naruto spammed the entire ordeal with clones until it was done and over with. As for Tora, it's dead. It's dead and never coming back. Continuing, XXX Team 7 made their way into the room that was designated to hand out missions. Kakashi, one eye on his smut book and the other on his team, followed behind his 3 precious genin. Normally this would be an easy phrase of speech to pull off, but Kakashi still had his Sharingan covered, so one eye was doing the labor of both. These days Sakura had taken to following Naruto around on their missions. She still had a crush on Sasuke, don't get her wrong, but the boy was entirely unresponsive to anything other than extreme pain. It was easier to just waste time with Naruto, rather than force herself to talk to what amounted to a brick wall. So what do you think we'll get to today? Naruto Sakura asked. She walked with a springy gait, leaning forward slightly with her hands behind her back. It had been a few weeks since they, just barely, passed their genin exam, and it had sure done wonders for the girl's mood. Hanging out with Naruto had all but turned her outlook on life around. With Naruto's happy-go-lucky attitude and personality, Sakura couldn't help but have some of the boy's features rub off on her. I'm not too sure, Sakura-chan, Naruto responded. He had an inkling, but it was just a guess. It might be the wave mission. Kyuubi yawned from inside Naruto's gut. Using a nail, the fox picked meat chunks out of his teeth. It did happen around now in the past, I know, Naruto thought back, but we can't let them know that, can we? Inside the room sat 3 figures, the most notable of which being the aged Hokage that sat in the center seat before a long table. On his left sat Iruka Umino, the Chunin with the scar over his nose just smiled and waved as Team 7 walked in. On the Hokage's right sat an unfamiliar Chunin. His face was indiscernible as it was buried in papers. The Hokage levied a deep laugh as the team approached. Done with more missions today, are you Team 7? I expected nothing less of your team, Kakashi, said Jonin could only manage a non-committal grunt. Tearing his eye away from the book in his hand, Kakashi spared a quick glance at Naruto before turning back to his novel. I don't see how you could. A member of my team has a penchant to create armies, so this statement earned a chuckle from both the Hokage and Iruka, but the mirth didn't extend to the Cyclops. Without a further word, Kakashi turned back to his book, a blue, hardwood-covered one, and continued reading. Seeing the conversation was going nowhere else, the Hokage turned to the children. And how are my newest soldiers shaping up? Are you learning a lot under one of my best ninja? The wizened man asked. Somehow, the elder shinobi known as the professor had always projected a genial, grandfatherly aura. It certainly helped in instilling loyalty in his older years of being Hokage, and by the time he passed the mantle on to his successor he had already passed on from being a stern commander in the eyes of the younger generation of shinobi. Sakura was definitely one of the generation of ninja who could barely see heroes, and Sarutobi for the war-born and raised tactician he was, and thus answered him in a jovial tune. We're fine, Hokage-sama. Kakashi-sensei has been teaching us chakra control and teamwork exercises, as well as working us on physical training. Hirozen chuckled and nodded gently. He spared a quick glance at Kakashi, who had met his eye briefly before turning back to his book. Hirozen turned to the next genin in line. And how are you doing, Uchiha-san? The old man asked. Once again his tone was gentle and inviting. One would be hard-pressed not to expect some sort of genjutsu. Unfortunately, such geniality had little effect on what basically amounted to a walking asparagus. Sasuke's answer was silence. Hirozen once again turned to Kakashi. Kakashi had met his commander's gaze once more, and once more he adopted a look of nonchalance. Inside, however, Kakashi had started to sweat. Sasuke-san, did you not hear me? Hirozen asked again. When he was met with more silence, his one eyebrow raised. Iruka decided to pick up from here. Sasuke, did you not hear your Hokage talking to you? Iruka asked. As before, the man was met with complete silence as the Uchiha just stared off into space. Okay, what is wrong with him now? Iruka asked. Kakashi looked up from his book. Pardon, what is wrong with him this time? Iruka rephrased. There's always something up with him. I tell you, each week was like dealing with a small soap opera with this kid. Hirozen raised his other eyebrow. Explain? Well, Iruka started, let's say 1 week he'll come in. He'd be completely fine, and arguing with Kiba or Naruto over something stupid or another. It's friendly banter, so I let them play for a bit until class starts. But then another day comes, and he's ignoring everyone, even me. I swear, the female students would be so unruly during those days I can't even. Yes, that's fine Iruka, the Hokage interrupted. So this kind of behavior isn't unusual? Well, no, not really, Hokage-sama, Iruka managed to get out. Then this is fine, Hirozen stated, ending the conversation. He turned to the last genin. Truthfully, it would be the one he was most interested in. And what of you, Naruto? Yes. And what of you, Naruto? How are you gonna answer this man, now that you're actually a Hokage yourself sent back in time? The Kyuubi asked. How the hell do you think I'm gonna answer? Naruto thought back. Immediately Naruto focused outward and on the man who amounted to being a grandfather to him. Somewhere in his mind he had still barely reined in his joy at seeing the Hokage again, but the effect had slightly dulled. This day was not the first he had encountered the aged man. On that day, Naruto had cried and hugged the Hokage for about an hour, with the universe constantly resetting around him. Now, he was just slightly sentimental. Taking a deep breath, Naruto prepared his lengthy answer. Well, to be honest, I'm completely and totally batshit upset, Gramps. That statement earned a few turned heads. Even the paperwork Chunin stopped his machinations for a bit. Excuse me, Naruto sighed. It seemed he was answering that question a lot lately. I mean, that I'm disgruntled Gramps. Didn't know you could pronounce words bigger than 2 syllables, punk, Kyuubi remarked. Naruto thought very rude words to him. I'm pretty damn upset, Naruto continued. Every time I see you, I tell you that I'm actually a 36-year-old man from the future who became Hokage after settling down and having kids, and every single time you refuse to believe me. If this wasn't bad enough, immediately after time resets to just before I say anything, ruining the entire reason I starting talking in the first place and wasting my breath. Admittedly, Naruto couldn't blame them for being speechless at his tirade. It took him a minute but Hirozen, being the leader, managed to recover. What? Naruto, what are you talking about? Are you okay? And then time stopped. The world turned grey, and everyone with the exception of Naruto froze where they were. In a flash of light, Neji appeared next to Naruto. The Hyuga turned to Naruto in supreme annoyance. His eye twitched as he leveled the blonde with a glare. Really? Again? How many times do you need to do this? Naruto shrugged. I dunno. I guess it's just the most convenient way to get to you. Did you try, I dunno, calling for me, sending a clone, yelling really loud? You do that a lot. Do you really feel the need to freeze the very construct of time and space in order to have a conversation with me? Naruto nodded. Neji had to repress the urge to facepalm. What do you need, Naruto? Well, Naruto began. He moved to sit on the sofa located at the side of the room. Stretching, the boy plopped down on it and spread himself across the entirety of it. We're about to accept the wave mission. Since we'll be gone for a bit of time, I thought I'd tell you about what you can and cannot do while we're gone. Neji tilted his head. Wave mission? Is this another one of those things you did that you expect me to know? Or should I have known about it and forgot? What? How could you not know about the wave mission? It was a very big part of my life. Well, excuse me for not knowing every part of your life. Believe it or not everything evolves around you. What? Naruto exclaimed. Yes it does. Neji paused. What? Well, that's pretty conceited of you. It was here that Kyuubi appeared out of Naruto's stomach. The foxy clone of Naruto appeared wreathed in orange flame in the air above Naruto, before falling on the bow. Naruto went oof as the fox landed. As soon as Kyuubi made himself comfortable, he looked at Neji. With a wide, toothy smile, the Kyuubi addressed the Hyuga kid. Actually, he's not. The world really does kind of revolve around him. Neji raised an eyebrow. You too? I would have thought that you of all people would refute this. Really? Why? The Kyuubi then cuffed Naruto around the head and brought him into an uncomfortable headlock. I love this kid. Neji had to admit the sight was weird, but soldiered through it. Aren't you two really antagonistic towards each other? What? No, we're best buds? Neji looked at Naruto. His face was turning blue as the headlock slowly turned into a chokehold. I see, but regardless, the boy has a point. A lot of the world's events do seem to happen in his general area. Well, yeah. But those are just coincidences. Was it a coincidence when he just so happened to stumble upon Jiraiya? Well, yes, it was. Anyone could have just stumbled upon him, exactly, but no one did. Only Naruto came across that man just squatting in open daylight. What about Tsunade? What are the odds that they would stumble upon her in the exact town she was in, at the exact time Orochimaru was there, just so happened to learn the Rasengan in the exact amount of time he needed to? Then convinced Tsunade to return because he just so happened to remind her of her loved ones? Well, I would admit that that situation is a little. And what about you? You have to admit that the fight with you was lucky. Okay, listen here. He won because of you, Neji interrupted. Kyuubi sighed. Yes, and he got me because his father was Hokage and would rather not seal me into anyone else. Incredible and world-changing things have been happening around him since he was born. I'm pretty sure the world revolves around him. The Kyuubi then stopped to gesture around the room. Even now, the situation calls for examination. The gods and the very powers that be created an entirely new world for the sole purpose of having Naruto relive his life. This world quite literally revolves around him, as his slightest deviation will come it crashing down around him. They then teleport you to us while they reset it. It's not hard, human. The world, before and after we were brought here, revolves around this blonde idiot. Neji nodded. There wasn't much he could really argue against that. Thinking things over a bit, the Hyuga turned back to the fox. Kyuubi? Neji asked. Yes, human, the fox responded. Could you let Naruto go now? I think we need him for the world to reset. Oh, right. And just like that Naruto was allowed to breathe again. Naruto spoke between gasps of air. You, dirty, son, of a bitch, you know you love me. If I had 3 Rasengans, and you, Sasuke, and Madara were all in the same room, yes, human, spit it out. Come on. I know you can do it. I would use all 3, yes, come on boy, you can do it. Who's a good ninja? You are. Yes you are. You know what? Fuck it. And just like that 2 Rasengans were charged, smothered into one, then smothered into a 3rd Rasengan made on the spot. The large and wildly rotating sphere teetered on the edge of instability, before being crushed into a fist. Smiling manically, Naruto punched Kyuubi with all the stored energy. The fox boy was sent careening out through the village. Neji raised an eyebrow. You know, now that I'm used to it and know the non-existent consequences, that's actually rather hilarious. Tell me about it, Naruto gasped out. Wait, you could barely breathe, but you had enough energy to send the Kyuubi flying over, and in some cases through, the village. Naruto, who had still not regained his breath, looked at Neji as if he were stupid. What are you talking about? Rasengan is how I breathe. Neji could only stare. Naruto sighed as he pulled the rope tighter. Before him lie the demon brothers, 2 Chunin from the village of the hidden mist. Well, former Chunin, if their scratched headbands were any indicator. If Naruto's memory was right, which he was almost sure it wasn't, these 2 specific brothers were under the employment of one Momochi's abuser. The very same mist ninja would be his first major battle. You know the one-eyed freak is going to be suspicious of this, right? Kyuubi asked from within him. Naruto repressed the urge to roll his eyes. Thinking on it, the blonde found he had no real reason to repress such an action, then rolled his eyes anyway. It doesn't matter, Naruto responded. The worst he can do is find out, and then we can finally have what we want, a confidant in this crazy, fucked up world. Kyuubi rolled his eyes. Naruto somehow felt that. You do realize that this crazy, fucked up world is, for all intents and purposes of the very gods themselves, an exact replica of your past, Kyuubi. In my past a grown man with a cleaver, no eyebrows, and the bushiest, baggiest parachute pants this side of Fire Country is going to attempt to divorce my head from my body while I'm a child. In my present, that sentence made perfect sense. I'm pretty sure I'm officially allowed to announce this place for what it is. Fucked up? Kyuubi let out a barking laugh in Naruto's gut. The action, though somewhat unwilling, brought a smile to Naruto's face as well. This was the scene Kakashi bore witness to as he strolled out of the forest to the side of the path where Naruto stood with his catch book in hand. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at what he saw before him. Most genin don't find enjoyment in their first ninja fight, the man stated. With a snap, the jonin closed his book and made his way over to his student. With a single hand, Kakashi grasped the rope tying the demon brothers together and lifted it into the air, before hurling it into a tree. The 2 brothers grunted. They hit the tree rather hard. Naruto donned a smile. It's not every day I get to show off how awesome I am, he screamed. One hand reached to scratch the back of his neck, and with it, the look was complete. Naruto looked the same as he always acted back when he was a child, and sure enough, the act would fool most people. Kakashi was not most people. Yes, quite. You're a bit more awesome than you should be though, the Cyclops stated. Before Naruto could make heads of this however, the taller man had moved away, ready to interrogate the hostages. Naruto sighed. Guess they were in the clear a bit longer then. Turning, Naruto could see Sakura standing guard over the near comatose form of their last team member. The blonde smiled. That was a good punch, Sakura, Naruto stated as he walked over to the girl. Sakura smiled, but her eyes darted over to the two ninja currently wetting themselves before Kakashi. Is it over? Are we done? She asked. Naruto nodded. Yeah. Kakashi-sensei is having a talk with them. Told you he wasn't dead? Sakura relaxed a bit. With a sheepish expression, the girl sheathed her kune. Yeah, but it's not every day you see a professional substitution in action. Thank you, by the way. About the punch? Naruto chuckled. Well, it's not every day you see a professional punch in action. I think it sent him halfway across the path. Naruto wasn't joking either. The man was sent careening across the battlefield with the speed of a missile. He hit a tree and slid to the ground unconscious. He was out of the fight until Naruto was done cleaning up the other brother. The reason the punch was so strong, the man attempted to take out Sasuke. Sakura smirked. With an ease of recent practice, she mirrored Naruto's chuckle. Don't exaggerate, idiot. She then playfully punched Naruto in the shoulder. Naruto had to rub his arm afterwards. Around here Kakashi had returned from his talk. His face was grim as he approached his team. Listen, team. I have some bad news, the Cyclops stated. His eye focused on their charge, a bridge builder they were tasked to escort back home. The man had immediately hid when the fighting broke out. This somehow worked. Our little friend happens to be the target of some very dangerous and high-profile people. Does Gato of Gato Industries ring any bells, Mr. Tazuna? Tazuna had the decency to look guilty. It might, the man slurred out. He was slightly tipsy. Kakashi's eye narrowed. Well, it certainly rings a bell to me. Gato, of his self-named industry, happens to be one of the most wealthy men in the world. He has enough money to pay the village to send their most trained ninja to shovel manure and not even have a dip in his resources. This is the man who has set his sights on you. From where these two cannon fodder have come, Kakashi then threw a thumb over his shoulder at the two ninja who were, in a word, traumatized. There are definitely more. As the team leader, I cannot in good conscience allow my team to continue on a mission of such lethality, especially on their very first C-ranked mission. Especially what you've paid us. Tazuna adopted a look of absolute horror. But you can't just abandon me now, the old man exclaimed, his voice clearer now that he was concerned. Kakashi didn't seem to care. I can and I definitely will. You may not notice, but I have my precious little genin to worry about as well. I can't have my first team just die on me on their first actual mission. My credibility would be tarnished forever. Tazuna's eyes widened. Wow, what? Is your credibility worth more to you than the lives of countless men, women and children, all of which have been suffering half their lives under the rule of a tyrannical dictator? Kakashi, who had went back to reading his book, turned his eye back to Tazuna. I am a professional killer. These three children, they are training to become professional killers. I have single-handedly taken the lives of more people in a small handful of missions than you have in your entire little town. I'm sorry Mr. Tazuna, but making the decision to forfeit lives is no new experience to me. So to answer your question, yes, my credibility is definitely more valuable to me. Kakashi turned his eye back to his book. I value the importance of a human life as much as the next guy, but random lives in a random town mean vastly less to me than the lives of my three little cuties. You may not know this, but even these three are high priority in my village. That doesn't matter much to me though. It also just so happens that among them, one of them I happen to like. Around here, Naruto excitedly started raising his hand. Is it me? Sensei Kakashi eyed him. Nowhere even close. So is it me? Sensei Sakura tentatively asked. Kakashi shook his head. Nope. Try again. There's only one option left. Sensei Naruto whined. Try again Kakashi sang. Is it me? You already asked that. Naruto, it's worth a second shot. It's Sasuke, Sakura stated. She didn't want to start the two on another rant. Yes. Good girlie, Kakashi drawled. He complimented this with the turning of a page. What? Why? Naruto asked. Because he's quiet. You'd be surprised how far that goes. Ugh, Naruto grunted. He shuffled off. Kakashi turned back to the bridge builder. Back to you. I'm terribly sorry. I really am, the Jonin started. His voice held absolutely no sorrow. But I'm going to have to declare I guess that Icha Storm debut is going to be put on hold again, Tazuna grumbled. Excuse me? Kakashi asked. His voice rose an octave or two. Icha Storm. The next Icha volume coming out? Yeah, it was meant to debut in Wave, the setting being based on my hometown. With the way Gato Core has been draining the economy, it couldn't exactly make a proper debut. I had thought that with you guys helping us, we would free my country in no time, but it appears I was wrong. Oh well, Tazuna grumbled once more. With a flourish, the man shook his wine bottle to gauge the amount of liquid still in it. Sneakily, Tazuna threw an eye over to the Jonin as the man contemplated his words. Kakashi was still, almost silent even as he turned the words over in his head. After a minute, Kakashi's mind was made. Team, we're continuing the mission. Sakura blanched. What? I said. We're continuing the miss. No, I know what you said, Sakura clarified. What I meant was why What happened to protecting our fragile, innocent lives and caring for your favorite student? Kakashi made a dismissive motion with his hand. I just said those things to get Tazuna off my back. I don't care too much either way about you guys. However, Kakashi then turned a mean, one-eyed glare to the back of Naruto, who was studying a nearby tree. Because of one of you, I am now suspiciously low on my storage of novels with no actual way of replenishing them. I think saving the town would be a nice forward payment towards getting free issues for life. Tazuna chuckled at the man. Your bluntness sure is rough, boy. Kakashi smiled. This action wasn't evident anywhere on his body besides his eye. Please, sir. I'm 26 years old. Sakura was getting fed up with their actions and decided to reinsert herself into the conversation. Wait, hold on. What if the rest of those ninjas actually kill us? Don't we get a say in this? Kakashi rolled his eye. No, you don't. But I'll humor you. Let's have a vote by show of hands. Majority wins. Sounds like a plan, Sakura voiced. Kid, vote against it. It'll be funny to see how the gods handle us going back to the village, Kyuubi stated from where he and Naruto were eavesdropping. Already on it, Naruto thought back. All those who want to continue the mission, raise your hand, Kakashi stated in a sing-song vote. He then raised his hand, an action not mirrored by Naruto, Sakura or Sasuke. Nodding his head, Kakashi continued. Now, all of you who wish to go back, raise your hand. To this, Naruto and Sakura raised their hand, to which both Kakashi and Sasuke did nothing. Briefly, all four other people on the road stared at the comatose boy who responded to neither vote. I've been meaning to ask, but is that boy okay? Tazuna asked. His question was dismissed immediately by all three of the other ninja. So the votes have been cast, Kakashi drawled. And it seems that we are moving ahead with the mission. Both Naruto and Sakura did a double take. What? How the hell did you manage that? Naruto asked incredulously. It was our 2 to your 1, yeah, what the hell? Sensei Sakura added. Kakashi just nodded his head, a pensive look on his face. Yes, indeed. But as your group leader and teacher, my vote holds more than yours do. With my vote counting twice of yours, and you both voting against me, we come out at a clear tie, Naruto balked. So how the hell does that mean that we're going ahead? Well, Kakashi started, we can't very well just stay here in this road forever, which means we need a veritable tiebreaker. Do you have anyone in mind? Naruto and Sakura looked at each other, before looking around the clearing. First their eyes fell on Tazuna, who stood behind Kakashi with a gleaming smile on his face. Shaking their heads, they turned slowly to the last member of their team, who stood stock still behind them. He was not moving. No, we don't, Sensei Naruto muttered. I see, Kakashi drawled. He turned another page in his book. Well, it just so happens that I do. Mr. Tazuna, yes, Sir Ninja, what do you think we should do? I think we should move ahead, Sir Ninja, Tazuna responded. Very well, my good man, Kakashi answered. He looked to his 2 students who stood with stock expressions on their face. It looks like we're moving ahead. XXX Naruto lounged over the side of the boat as Team 7, along with Tazuna, rowed their way towards port in the country of Wave. Idly, the boy played with the water as the man in charge of the boat kept them moving steadily forward. Unbeknownst to the rest of the people on the boat, Naruto was fiddling with a low-level water technique Iruka, the future one, had him learn. The waves, as long as his hand dipped in the salt water every so often, would veer slightly off to the side of the boat. Naruto sighed. I'm bored. Sakura rolled her eyes. We know, Naruto. You've said it 13 times already. Well, make this 14. I'm bored, Sakura. Is there nothing else for us to do while we sit here? You can sleep, Kakashi suggested from his point near the helm. His eye was buried in a book as he lounged near the front. Naruto shook his head. You'd probably leave me behind when we dock if I did that. Next try, you can shut up, Sakura suggested. Naruto rolled his eyes. If that was something I knew how to do, I'd have done it by now. Next, did you try expanding that jutsu you're using? Kakashi asked. Naruto's eyes flashed over to Kakashi. His single eye was still on the book in front of him. If asked though, Naruto could swear the cloth covering his other eye was just slightly out of place. The blonde raised an eyebrow. No, I believe it's just right. We're almost there anyway, Naruto responded. In response, Kakashi managed a hum before turning a page. Right after this interaction, the boat slowed before coming to a stop. The rower let out a sigh of relief upon docking. Phew, the rower exhaled. That was a much easier ride than I thought. Usually the trip is much more turbulent. Kakashi and Naruto's eyes met. Yeah, ninjas tend to have more fortunate bouts with nature, Kakashi drawled. Well, whatever the reason, we've reached the secret port earlier than expected. Naruto looked around. The secret port amounted to some pieces of wood haphazardly nailed together near the river. The boat didn't actually touch it, but the very idea of the ninjas disembarking was enough to cause the contraption to wobble intensely. Naruto stared. Are you sure that's so entirely safe? Been used forever? How long is forever? Sakura asked. Ever since Gato started oppressing us seriously, and how long has that been? The boat rower scratched his chin. For about as long as I can remember. And when was the last time it was fixed up? Naruto asked. Do you really think we can afford fixing things around here? I see. Naruto and Sakura deadpanned together. The rower rolled his eyes. Listen, don't complicate things. Just use the secret port unless you want to fight all of Gato Core at once. I mean, we probably can, Kyuubi yawned. Probably, Naruto thought. Wait, we aren't using handicaps, you ninja can stand on water anyway, can't you? The rower finished. At this, Kakashi spared a look at his 3 students. Overlooking the suspicious stare he sent Naruto's way, doubt clouded his eye in regards to the other 2, especially Sasuke. Honestly, Kakashi was happy the boy could breathe, let alone walk. We'll take a rain check on that. Team, off the rickety death boat and onto the rickety death plank. Stat, Naruto and Sakura grumbled as they followed their leader's words. Sasuke breathed. It was becoming more and more fascinating by the day. The genin debated on how he functioned without them. I think he acts on primal instincts, Naruto stated. You know what that is? Kyuubi asked. Of course, are you sure? What? Yes, why? You're excited to see a man who is even more excited to kill you? When was the last time someone wasn't excited to kill me? And therein lies the problem? Nah. He just kind of bumbles around his house until I place food in front of him, Sakura commented, oblivious of the conversation happening in Naruto's head. He'll eat when he's hungry, but he won't prepare anything. He'll literally just cram the first thing he can grab in his mouth, Naruto stared. I don't think I want to know how you came across that information, Sakura shrugged. I don't think you want to know what else I did. With a shiver, Naruto agreed with his teammate. Deciding he needed to know nothing else, the boy continued on walking towards Tazuna's house. Yeah, he kinda just dropped the conversation like a stone. Good thing too, because as soon as he did there was rustling in the trees. Both Naruto and Kakashi turned to the noise. In a bush, leaves on a lower branch bristled for a bit before a snow rabbit emerged, eyes darting back and forth in fear. Kakashi turned away, deeming the threat inconsequential, but Naruto stared at it a moment longer. After a minute, he too turned away. Kyuubi, yes, brat, you're a fox right? The Kyuubi responded, but it was full of such sarcasm that it didn't translate into text well. Naruto rolled his eyes. I meant that since you're a fox, you hunt rabbits, right? The Kyuubi, who was considerably less excited that his sarcasm was unheeded, replied. Yes, granted I'm not a normal fox by any means, I have tried my hand at the craft. How did it go? Naruto asked. About as well as you would expect, which was, I burned both it and the entire forest to the ground. Oh, Naruto deadpanned. Why? Cause, I'm pretty sure that something is wrong with that bunny. I mean, I know that it's Zabuza's attempt at a distraction, but still, it just seems wrong. It's really bad. Was he trying to tip us off? Kyuubi shrugged. One couldn't fathom how Naruto interpreted the action. Maybe Mist Ninja are just bad at stealth? What? Impossible. They are the original creators of the silent kill technique, so, Kyuubi asked. That doesn't mean anything. You usually know when a Kiri ninja is going to silently kill you, so it doesn't even matter. Just because the actual murder is silent is irrelevant. It's not exactly stealthy to drown an entire area in mist to silently kill someone. Pretty sure anyone that survives would know it's you. Well, maybe that's how they do it, Naruto started. No one will know it's you if there is no one to know, and that, my friend, is why I like the mist, Naruto chuckled. Really? Are you sure? And here I thought it was because of their bloody mist traditions. What the hell is that? Kurama asked. They used to have the students kill other students in order to graduate as a ninja. Zabuza took it one step further and killed his whole class. I think he was the only one in that generation of genin to actually become a shinobi. At this realization Kyuubi was quiet for a bit. Only a bit though. Naruto the fox rumbled. I have to meet this man. Can do, Naruto responded as he ducked. As he did so, a giant mass of solid metal came spiraling out of the forest. Spinning with a whirring sound, the sword just barely missed cleaving off the head of the 5 travelers, with Kakashi having grabbed Tazuna and Sakura, and Naruto ducking himself. Sasuke hadn't moved at all. Apparently this was not in the man's calculations because the blade still missed him. Naruto turned on Kakashi with a scandalized look on his face. Sensei, what gives? Kakashi stared at the boy. You didn't even try to save me? Oh, Kakashi answered, my bad, you're bad. You almost let me and Sasuke die and all you have to say is you're bad? Kakashi scratched the back of his head. Well, yeah, you're both fine. It could have killed us, Naruto yelled. No, Kakashi responded, it could have killed you. Sasuke was fine. Zabuza grunted from his place on his sword. Aren't you guys forgetting something? In a minute, Naruto stated. He waved his hand at the man dismissively, his attention never leaving Kakashi. Back to you. Yeah, it missed Sasuke, but I could have still been hit, a fact that I'm sure would be fatal had you not dodged, Kakashi drawled. Yeah, it would have been. What if I hadn't? Well, it's a good thing you did. Now that you mention it, even I barely noticed it in time, and yet you went down before even I did. Very curious, Kakashi, please don't tell me we're doing this right now, Naruto said. The statement was full of exasperation. Oh, we are definitely doing this right now, Kakashi drawled. His voice and tone was still bored, but it carried with it a hint of probing, nauseating teasing. It's sensei, by the way. Naruto rolled his eyes. Are you seriously telling me you almost let me die because of some crazy suspicion you have about me? It was a risk I was willing to take. Seriously? Naruto screamed. His face then turned blank. Oh my sage, you're actually doing this right here, right now, with a deranged criminal staring down our necks? You're doing this? Zabuza, who had by now been just standing on his cleaver for the couple or so minutes they were arguing, decided that maybe he should sit this one out. He discreetly signaled his accomplice to do the same. After hearing the comment about him being a deranged criminal, he looked down at himself. Did he really come off that way at first glance? Was it the parachute pants? Hey girlie, Zabuza called out. Sakura turned to him. She was slightly apprehensive, but seeing that he only wanted to talk worked to ease her nerves slightly about the man who had just tried to kill her. Yes, Sakura replied. Zabuza looked at her in surprise. I was talked about the black-haired one, but you'll do, Zabuza commented. Sakura had to hold in a laugh. Tell me, what about me makes me seem like a deranged criminal? Sakura had to seriously wonder about the man's sanity. You mean besides the fact that you just tried to behead us all? The genin asked. Unfortunately, Zabuza didn't learn about sarcasm in his youth. He was too busy killing all his friends. Yes, the man stated simply. Sakura didn't know what to think of that. Instead, she looked the man over. Her eyes quickly focused on the lower half of the man's body, and her answer suddenly seemed clear. It's the parachute pants, Sakura commented without hesitation. The man slumped in defeat. I knew it, Zabuza sighed. With his left hand he picked at the material. Well, I think they're cool. Back with the sensei and student, things were starting to escalate. I don't care what you think, Kakashi. Don't just suddenly leave me to die because you have some hunch that I'm suddenly a lot more skilled than I seem. What do you even care for, anyway? Well, Kakashi hummed, what if you were a spy? My cute little genin shouldn't give me a challenge in any way, and yet here you are. I have to be careful. Arg, Naruto screamed, his hands reaching to tug on his hair. I already told you that I'm not. That's exactly the kind of thing that a spy would say. Aargh, Sakura, who couldn't bear much more of this, turned back to Zabuza. So what about you? Why are you here? She asked. It was Zabuza's turn to look at her like she was stupid. I'm here to kill you, Zabuza stated simply. Sakura didn't even give it a second thought. Well, of course. But I mean, why are you doing it? I know you're not doing it for fun. Well, of course not, Zabuza replied. I'm doing it for the same reason every other ninja in the world does it. Money. I need money to achieve my goals. This was an easy way to do it. Well, surely it's not the only way to do it. There has to be easier ways to earn money as a rogue ninja than by killing people. There are, Zabuza answered. But you have to keep in mind that I enjoy killing as well. By now Naruto's screams were starting to become deafening. He had taken to staring down his teacher, but it seemed to not be working, as the man kept the ever nonchalant expression he was known for strong. Then why don't you just explain it to me? Kakashi asked, his eyes half-lidded. I already told you why I can't do that, Naruto yelled. No matter how much I try to tell you, it wouldn't matter in the long run. You wouldn't remember it after I told it to you. Kakashi tilted his head. I highly doubt that. My mind is a lot stronger than it seems. I remember things from my childhood fairly well. That's not an accomplishment, Naruto responded. Your childhood was terrible, Kakashi narrowed an eye at him. That's a rather peculiar thing that you shouldn't know. Naruto rolled his eyes. No, it's not. Everyone from your generation had shitty lives. That's not a unique thing. Kakashi was forced to nod his head to that. Still, I would rather like to hear it. Well, that's tough shit, I see. Well then, don't expect me to save you. Naruto muffled his screams by burying his head in his jacket. Kakashi turned back to Zabuza. And what in the 6 paths of the sage do you want? The Jounin asked. Zabuza, who was now in a deep conversation with the pink-haired genin, turned his attention to the scarecrow. Are you done? Zabuza asked. He had his head propped on his knee as he sat on his blade, which was embedded into a tree. I think we're more or less ready. Kakashi then stopped to look over his team. Naruto was still screaming into his jacket. Nodding, Kakashi turned his head to Sakura. She had started to exchange information with Zabuza before he interrupted. With 2 members down, Kakashi started to look for the third, before immediately stopping himself. He already knew where Sasuke was. Retrieving a pebble from the road, Kakashi blindly threw it behind him. It went thumped off of something before falling back to the ground. Kakashi sighed. Of course, Sasuke was exactly where Kakashi knew he was, in the exact same place he left them. Yeah, we're ready, Kakashi drawled. Immediately he pulled out a kunai, to which Zabuza responded by pulling his sword from the tree with one hand. Shortly after, Naruto and Sakura made their way behind Kakashi and next to Sasuke. The 2 higher-level ninjas stared each other down, before a massive amount of killing intent washed over the grounds from both ends. Zabuza stared forlornly at the overall indifference the genin were handling the situation with. He stared back at Kakashi. It seems your little brats are more worth than they seem. To not crumble under my killing intent means that they are at least half of a ninja. At this, Kakashi fished a look over his shoulder at the children. Sure enough, none of them were fazed. I've had worse, Naruto stated. He had his hands folded behind his head, looking a perfect picture of nonplussed. I just had a rather interesting conversation with you, Sakura commented. She had a slip of paper in her hand with Zabuza's information on it. It's hard to be afraid of someone after that. Sasuke said nothing. Is that kid alright? Zabuza asked. I mean, I thought at first he just had the skill necessary to dodge my attack, but at this point I'm starting to think he's just dead. He was promptly ignored. Let's do this, Demon of the Hidden Mist, Kakashi grunted, and just like that the battle was on. The first thing Zabuza did was flip through one-handed seals. Ending on a dime, the ninja of the seven swordsmen chuckled darkly. It's time I show you my secret technique, the man muttered. Glee was apparent in his eyes. Hidden Mist's most famous ability. With this, Kakashi of the Sharingan, your time here is you was all the man was able to say before a kunai of pure, unbridled energy literally exploded from the tree lines. It shone in a myriad of colors as it quite literally pierced through the air on an unimpeded flight. The kunai, as if noticing Zabuza, impossibly changed its flight path and arced in a 90-degree angle. Settling on blue, the kunai crackled with limitless electric energy and chakra before piercing through the man's leg. Zabuza fell to the ground in pain, shortly before crying out once more as the latent electricity of the blow coursed through him, rendering him unconscious immediately. The kunai never once stopped to observe any of this though. Its work here done, it once again shone in a myriad of color before blasting through the tree line once more. Its bloodlust would not be sated here today. Back with the group, all the gathered ninja could do was gape. Naruto was the first to recover. Oh, so that's where that kunai went, he chirped. Kyuubi was less enthusiastic. How the hell did it even get out here? He asked. We threw it in the complete opposite direction. It was an interesting sight, really. One couldn't say there was often an occasion where Jonin Kakashi Hatake, the copy ninja himself, was adequately stumped as to what he was to do. Before him stood his three cute little genin. They all, with the addition of Sasuke by proxy of him always being so, stood with apt attention and obedient silence as they awaited their sensei's orders as to what they would be instructed to do. This was, of course, a special occasion. The students wouldn't be so rapt and attentive otherwise. Shortly after Zabuza was incapacitated by the odd rogue kunai, a hunter ninja from the Hidden Mist appeared and swiftly made off with the missing ninja and his sword. Kakashi, who was sufficiently mystified by the spectacle that he had just borne witness to, could not appropriately gauge the situation before him. As such he was unable to pick out how odd the hunter ninja was. It wasn't until they were halfway back to Tazuna's house that Kakashi had put two and two together. So now the team had what amounted to a steadily recovering borderline S-ranked ninja and his borderline A-ranked assistant running around, and only one available ninja to stand up to such a threat. Kakashi wasn't a gambling man. It never was one of his vices. However, constant bouts with Guy had taught the man that engaging in games of chance with less than complete assurance that you were going to win was a fool's errand, especially when the stake was your life. So with his odds of winning a fight with a man slightly above his pay grade and a child slightly below it being ridiculously low, Kakashi decided to teach his cute little students some skills. The better they were, the better cannon fodder they could become after all. The problem with this was that Kakashi had not an earthly idea what to teach his students. He never really had to teach before. He spent his few years of active ninja duty in Ando, where most everyone had already known everything they really needed to know. The most he had to teach them were teamwork exercises to help them refine plans they already made. Even his time under the fourth Hokage wasn't helpful to his current predicament. Kakashi was, simply put, a genius. He highly doubted he could teach the three before him the same way he learned his necessary skills. At some point he might have seen a little bit of himself in Sasuke, but, if Kakashi was able to get anything through to that boy, it would be a personal victory. The boy was barely alive, so that left his two other genin. One was basically a walking chakra battery. The kid had endurance to match senior ninjas in their prime. Yes, senior ninjas, as in plural. Naruto was worth several veteran ninjas by himself. He, if polished and perfected after years of brutal skill and technique being beaten into him, could possibly become the most talented and awe-inspiring shinobi the world had ever known. Kakashi had estimated they had about a week. Not optimistic thinking. The other genin had the exact opposite problem. Sakura was book smart like you wouldn't believe, and could pick up complicated problems and abstract or poorly explained concepts and apply them, at least in theory. The problem with her was that while she could apply these circumstances perfectly in theory, she had difficulty pulling them off in practice. Her physical conditioning, in a single word at least, sucked. Even after all the training he forced her through, she was barely more than simply adequate as far as genin went. Considering what she was before he got to her, he considered even that a personal achievement. This left Kakashi with a serious dilemma. How the hell was he to train these kids to take on opponents even he was considering taking seriously? So, Sensei, are you going to talk or are you going to impersonate Sasuke some more? Naruto asked. He had managed to stand still and allow his sensei to ruminate on his own for a bit, but even he had his limits. It's reassuring to believe that even after all those years, you're still basically the same, the Kyuubi commented from his seal. Naruto frowned. What do you mean? Even after becoming a father, Hokage, and husband, you still have the patience of a burning log? Do you have any idea how long it takes a log to burn? Do you? Naruto was unable to answer. I thought not. And why exactly don't you know? It took forever, Kurama. Shh, I know, child. Back with Kakashi, the man was rubbing his chin through his mask in an attempt to come up with an idea. Finally settling on one, he looked up, slightly apprehensively, at his team. Do you guys know how to climb a tree? The man was met with a set of stares. Yeah, Naruto answered slowly. Who doesn't? Sakura raised her hand. Besides Sakura, Naruto clarified. Well, whether or not you know how to do it physically, the kind of tree climbing I was referring to was this, Kakashi stated, before walking off to the nearest tree. They were in a field behind Tazuna's house, and as such had access to the island's forest that was apparently situated behind it. Approaching the tree, Kakashi took a second to look it over. The tree was tall, easily 30 feet at the minimum. Its trunk was thick, at least thick enough for all of the genin to have to stretch their arms around it to cover it. It was perfect for what he had planned. Turning around, Kakashi took a stern look at his students before turning back to the tree and planting a foot on its bark. Then, with the difficulty one would have with taking a stroll in a park, Kakashi placed his other foot as well and started walking up it. Sakura was stunned. Sensei, how are you doing that? Sakura asked, her eyes alight. Running up, Sakura stood merely a couple feet from the base of the tree, her eyes glued to her teacher's feet. Kakashi turned and gave the girl an eye smile. This is a technique known to most in the village as tree climbing. Tell me, do you guys know about Chakra? Their teacher asked. Sakura nodded vigorously. Do you want the long version or the short one? Sakura asked. Naruto stared at her. I think we all know about Chakra by now, Naruto answered. The short version should be enough. Sakura answered this by sticking her tongue out at him. Well then, since we're all experts here, Sakura started, Chakra is the manifestation of our physical energies given form through special kneading and techniques acquired by ninjas over a very long time. It is present in the bodies of every living thing, and therefore anyone with the right training can use it to interact with the world around them. Sakura finished her little speech with a bow. Was that good, Sensei? It was excellent, Sakura. Thank you, Kakashi responded. He then turned his attention back to the group as a whole. Chakra is a wonderful resource that we as shinobi utilize every day. For all except a very select few, Chakra is an indispensable weapon, tool and companion. With it, we can do many marvelous things, such as healing wounds both grave and inconsequential, create terrifying artifices of war and summon extraordinary creatures, or walk on trees apparently, Naruto commented. Or walk on trees, Kakashi mimicked. He rubbed his temple. Naruto had a way with words. So here's what we're doing today. We're going to learn to walk on trees with Chakra. How do we do that? Sensei, Sakura asked. Simple, Kakashi answered. He lifted a finger. First, you concentrate Chakra to the soles of your feet. When you have the right amount, you simply place your foot and start walking. Now, this isn't exactly easy, as the exact amount changes for everyone, but once you get the hang of it wow, this is easy, Sakura called from her place atop a branch a few meters up the tree from where Kakashi stood. He stared at her. When did you? You're right though, Sensei. My stamina sucks. I'm a little tired just getting this far, Sakura continued. Her breathing was slightly labored, but she was otherwise excited. Kakashi nodded. Well, I should have expected as much from you, Sakura. But as for the rest of you, Kakashi was cut off by Naruto falling from a branch even further up. The boy hit the ground with an oomph. Kakashi stared. Okay, what? Naruto rubbed his head. He had fallen on it. Yeah, Sensei. That's harder than it seems, like your head, Kyuubi commented. Good thing you landed on it. Nothing of value was threatened. Kakashi scratched his head. So you two either did know about it, or you're much smarter than I gave you credit for. I like to think it's a little bit of both, Sensei, Naruto shouted from his place halfway back up the tree. He had tackled the exercise again as soon as he had failed. Kakashi gave him an accusatory look. Yes, though some of you may have more in one category than the other, Kakashi muttered. When Naruto shrugged his shoulders and continued his trek up the tree, Kakashi had to settle on the fact that he just wasn't going to get to the bottom of that boy just yet. The teacher then turned to the last member of their team. As expected, he hadn't moved from his place at all, instead choosing to stand impossibly still. His eyes were completely glazed over as he stared ahead. Kakashi couldn't guess what was going through the boy's mind. The Jonin turned back to his functional students. Alright gang, since you guys are obviously good enough to do the tree climbing technique, we're going to be going more in depth in your training. Naruto, now genuinely, fell out of his tree. Since he had reached quite high in his second attempt, he now had quite a ways to fall. As such, flipping over in midair and using a chakra-coated hand to slow his technique, then balance himself, was rather easy, and before anyone could quite tell the boy was upright on the side of the tree. Yeah, that ending made sense. Wait, what? Naruto thought. His mind was racing. What's wrong, brat? The Kyuubi asked, genuinely concerned. As absent-minded and simple-headed as his host may be, he rarely lost control of well-practiced techniques to something as trivial as misplaced concentration. That definitely didn't happen last time, Naruto responded. Kyuubi, as his portal to the outside world was through Naruto's perspective, could not actually see the boy's face from inside of him. This being the case, he could still somehow detect the quiver in his host's eyes as he stared down at his former teacher. He was suitably alarmed. So, the Kyuubi asked, what does this mean? It means that things are changing, Kyuubi. I thought things weren't supposed to change. Huh? Kyuubi responded. I'm pretty sure they weren't. I wonder what happened. The sage worked frantically, bending chakra and the very rules of reality around him as the powers that be did the same. He wasn't sure how, but this problem had escalated so far out of control that even he was being contracted to help out. The timeless wonder zone he had installed himself in fluctuated and pulsed every so often in response to the raw amount of power that was being tossed around, but somehow, in some way, Hagoromo knew that it just wasn't enough. It probably doesn't matter, Naruto stated after a short pause. I was getting bored of seeing and doing all the same things twice. It could be a nice little change. Your nonchalant attitude towards potentially vital information never ceases to amaze me, boy, the Kyuubi growled. This being said, the fox had just turned over and started to fall asleep in his spot inside Naruto. Please Kyuubi, I'm 36, right now you're barely a man. Start complaining when you hit puberty, Kyuubi. We both know what happens whenever I hit something. It hits back. Usually harder than I hit it, Kyuubi muttered. His eyes were already starting to droop. All right then, Naruto responded. Enjoy the teenage hormones running through both my system and yours. Kyuubi's eyes flashed open as a dawning horror spread across his face. Naruto cut off their link right there, but before he did he could hear the screams of anguish. They calmed his nerves a bit. Naruto looked back at Kakashi. During the boy's conversation with his tenant, the teacher had taken to gauging the reactions of his students. He looked at Sakura first, and Naruto could tell the man was satisfied with her reaction. Now however, as he looked to Naruto, he awaited a response. Well, Naruto, what do you think? Kakashi asked. Naruto grinned. Training is always good, sensei. What are we going to do next? Well, since you already know the tree climbing technique, Kakashi started, the next course of action is the water walking technique. The water walking technique, Sakura parroted. She had just made her way down from the tree, albeit on wobbly legs. Yes, the water walking technique. I'll give you 3 guesses as to what it is. No need to be as smart as sensei. 5 minutes was all Team 7 really needed to find a suitable body of water. A river found a little inland to the island's forest was just wide and deep enough to suit Kakashi's needs. The river, while pristine and clear, was also running with just enough speed to give a challenge to those learning to walk on it. Well, get to it, Kakashi said as he turned with a huff. With his hand he gestured out to the water. Both students seemed confused. Is that it? Sakura asked. Kakashi tilted his head. Yes, that's it. Start walking? No instructions? No guidelines? Naruto asked. You're just going to send us out on the water like that? Why yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do, but that's not what a teacher does. Is it the same principles as the tree walking exercise? Sakura asked. Basically Kakashi responded. Get to it, you're a terrible teacher, Sensei Naruto commented. Was Kakashi's reply before he set off back the way they came. He was likely to go check on Sasuke. Sakura turned to her remaining teammate. So what now? Beats me? Naruto shrugged. He looked back to the river. Kakashi had chosen a great place to train them. The turbulence would provide an excellent simulator, much better than what a lake or a pool would. With the added difficulty of moving water, a genin could get experience moving on troubled surfaces, something a real combat situation would provide. That being said, as far as anyone knew, Naruto had about as much experience as Sakura. This is gonna suck, Naruto thought as he placed a foot on the water. Channeling absolutely no chakra whatsoever into it, Naruto took a deep breath as he plunged into the frigid waters. Fwag, Naruto spat as he resurfaced. The orange-clad boy coughed as he brought up more water than he expected to swallow. Chest high in the stuff, Naruto was able to turn to Sakura while standing in the deepest part of the river. Come on in, Sakura. It's great, Sakura grimaced. She stuck a toe into the water to test it, before immediately pulling it back out. I highly doubt that, Sakura commented. So what? Naruto asked. You're gonna have to come in sometime, says who? Sakura responded. I don't have to do anything I don't want to. You don't, Naruto admitted. But what if sensei comes back and sees you haven't even tried? I'll say it was your fault, Sakura responded. It always is, somehow, and how could I have possibly stopped you from getting in the water? I don't know. You have your ways, Sakura answered. She had folded her arms. Do you really think I would prevent you from this paradise? Naruto asked. He waved his hands through the water, causing small ripples and even smaller splashes. That just doesn't sound like me. Sakura had to take a pause at that info. He was right. Accepting her fate, the girl made her way back over to the riverbank. Fine, the pinkette huffed, but only 1 foot, only 1 foot, Naruto repeated, a smile on his face. Not fully trusting the boy, but not finding much reason not to either, Sakura hesitantly put her foot out over the water. Slowly she set her foot down then, right before it hit the surface, she closed her eyes and put her hands in a seal. What is that, brat? The Kyuubi asked, one eye open inside his seal. She's using that hand seal to help better focus her chakra, Naruto responded. After channeling a bit of chakra, Sakura felt she had a balance just right. Opening her eyes, the girl set to succeed with a somewhat confident expression in her eyes. Letting her foot fall the last bit of distance, Sakura placed her foot on the water. It wavered, sending small ripples out over the water, but otherwise held. Naruto, I did it. I did the water while Sakura started, before screeching as she was buried up to her head in ice-cold water. Sakura hacked as she resurfaced. What the hell, Naruto? Naruto chuckled. What? Why did you pull me in the water? Sakura screamed. I had it, haha, Naruto laughed. You would have fell in eventually. Failing now makes it less scary, but I had it, Sakura yelled. Okay, maybe I wanted to get you wet too, Sakura splashed him. I hate you, Naruto, Sakura stated, exasperated. She was annoyed, but not really mad. Help me get out, Naruto scratched his head. Why? Just stand on the water. I would be if you didn't pull me under, you idiot, Sakura responded with a second splash of water. Hey, Naruto yelled, before splashing her back. Sakura, of course, responded with another yell. This one was more playful this time, and before long the two children. Are they both children? Before long the two children were in a splash fight. This continued until they were both drenched to the bone, with both of their clothing hanging off of them. Looking at their state of being, the two couldn't help but laugh. Look what you did, Naruto, Sakura managed through fits of laughter. Naruto found the same difficulty talking. You started it, he responded. The blonde used his hand to wipe some water out of his eyes. I guess, Sakura retorted, giggles escaping from her unbidden. Looking around, Sakura got a feel for the water before a look came on her face. Putting her hands together, the girl focused her chakra a bit before releasing the seal. Placing her hands on the water, Sakura slowly, and shakily, pushed herself out of the water. Once she was suitably out, she channeled chakra to her feet as well, and uneasily stood on top of the water. Waddling, but not to the point of instability, Sakura threw her hands in the air in a show of victory. I did it. I actually did it this time, Naruto clapped for her. Good job, Sakura, Naruto yelled, still chest deep in water. When a wave shifted some of the substance into his mouth, the boy grimaced, before jumping and landing feet first on the surface of the waves. Sakura was shocked. You can do the technique, of course, Naruto responded. But you can barely do the tree climbing technique. They're two different techniques, Naruto responded. No, they're not. To me they are. That makes no sense, Sakura screamed. It does to me. Sakura gripped her hair in frustration. You're insufferable, Naruto, Sakura managed. This was immediately followed by the girl stumbling. Waving her arms, Sakura managed to regain her balance on the water, though her feet sank slightly under the surface. You okay, Sakura-chan? Naruto asked. Yeah, I'm fine, Naruto, the pinkette answered. With a stern glare at her feet, Sakura scowled. My chakra capacity is still not that good though. I'm near my limit for being here. Naruto took a glance at her feet. The soles of her sandals fluctuated from being just under to just on top of the water, and the girl's legs were visibly shaking under the effort of keeping the technique alive. The boy Hokage rubbed his chin, and his experience of being a veteran shinobi kicked in. I think it's high time I got out, Sakura stated. On wobbly steps the girl made her way over to the edge of the pond, only for her to be stopped by an orange-clad arm. Where do you think you're going? Naruto asked. I'm getting out, Sakura answered, unsure of what the boy was getting at. Stepping to the side, Sakura tried to walk around the boy, only to be blocked again. Oh, sorry then. Go ahead, Naruto responded. Sakura nodded, before stepping the other way, only to be blocked again. Okay, what's the big deal? What are you talking about? Naruto asked, bewildered. This being the case, the blonde still blocked Sakura on every attempt she made to cross the river, sometimes even stopping her when she tried to exit on the other side. Naruto, quit it. I'm running out of chakra. I'm going to fall into the river at this rate. True enough, her legs were starting to droop, and she shook from obvious exhaustion. Still, Naruto would not relent. Sakura, how do you train a muscle? Naruto asked. Sakura stared at him, and even though she was tired, she answered the best she could. You use it, sometimes to its very limits so that the muscle can expand, adapt, and expand again. Very good, Naruto complimented. Don't you think chakra is a lot like a muscle then? Sakura, eyes wide, gaped at her teammate. What? No. Chakra is born from physical energies and a nothing Sakura. You may be the biggest scholar here, but I'm much better in practical use. Even you have to admit that." Sakura's silence was her admittance. "Good," Naruto continued. "So trust me. I know from a very good source," her future self Kyuubi interjected. "That training with your chakra enhances your coils. If you constantly use it, you'll have a capacity for more. Even if you don't have the outright quantity, when you rest you'll replenish to a higher cap. How do you think I got this much?" Naruto ended his speech with a hook. Even if it weren't truthful, for his massive chakra capacity was genetic, Sakura didn't know that, and would most likely use it as a reference to train to get it the honest way. Sakura stared at Naruto, a pensive look on her face. After a small moment she stood a little straighter, albeit on still wobbly legs. "I guess I can go a little longer," Sakura stated. It was in this pace that the two stood on top of the water, gently going through exercises that required moving, such as walking, jumping, and towards the end dancing. Though Naruto had to practically hold the girl through the motions, it was still a fun time as much as the two were concerned. By the end Sakura was utterly spent, and Naruto finally saw fit to let her leave the river. Placing her unconscious body against a tree not too far from the river, Naruto sat at the base of another and prepared to go into meditation. Before he could really get a feel however, a sound from the bushes interrupted his concentration. "That can't be," Naruto asked. Kyuubi could feel the boy's heartbeat accelerate, and thus let his attention spread outward. Coming out a bush not too far from the other side of the river, a girl not too taller than Naruto emerged. With perfect, almost doll-like skin, the girl had her hair done up in a bun with the rest of it flowing down over both sides of her face. She wore a blue kimono-like outfit, and sandals to complement the look. In her hand she held a basket with several blue flowers overflowing from it being carried by nails painted black. Naruto almost forgot to breathe. Kyuubi reminded him. "Idiot. I thought we were over the hole, you need to breathe to live thing." The Kyuubi, for the first time in a long time, was ignored. Springing to his feet, Naruto exploded across the clearing, river and all, and instantly appeared in front of the girl. She flinched, not used to such speed, and almost fell on her ass as a result. "Whoa brat, what's gotten into you?" the Kyuubi asked once more. Like before however, he was ignored. Naruto, not realizing the Hokage level of speed he just demonstrated, just stared at the person before him as if she were a ghost. Reaching forward, the boy attempted to touch her, as if to confirm she were real, then immediately brought his hand back, as if the very idea of interaction might break the person apart into many little pieces. Haku? Naruto asked, and instantly Kyuubi knew. He's the one we killed, isn't he?" Haku was just as alarmed at the whole situation, though for different reasons. Never before had he met someone so fast, bordering on faster than even him. Not even his master had such speed, and for this reason he was suitably startled at the whole interaction. "How do you know my name?" Haku asked, covering up his confusion for one situation with confusion for another. The boy in front of him tilted his head, before smacking himself as if he had messed up terribly. Pushing a hand forward, the blonde made to shake hands. Haku did not reciprocate. "I don't make a habit of shaking hands with strangers I just meet," Haku responded. Naruto pulled his hand back, but the response did nothing to dull the megawatt smile on his face. Haku wondered how it was possible to have such a bright smile, hair and outfit and still be a ninja. Sure enough, Naruto was still the stealthiest in his village, even after years of being Hokage. He still couldn't hide from his paperwork though. "That's fine. I'm Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki, future Hokage," Naruto yelled, adjusting his headband. Haku stared at him, before making his way around the boy to the river. Bending down and scooping up a handful, Haku turned back to the boy. "I'm Haku, but you already knew that apparently," was all he said before taking a sip. When done, he wiped his mouth before addressing the boy again. "You still haven't told me exactly how you know that, by the way." Naruto scratched the back of his head. "I heard it through the village. I don't visit the village. I heard it from the ninja. There are no ninja here, none of which would know of me regardless." "Did I say ninja? I meant the mercenaries," Naruto added, feeling annoyed. "When did you have time to speak to them?" "You arrived here yesterday," Naruto quirked his eyebrow. "And how would you know we arrived here yesterday?" the blonde asked. He was met with an averted gaze. "So you heard from the villagers?" Haku asked, standing again. "I thought you didn't go to the village," Naruto asked. "The mercenaries do," Haku added. "I didn't know the mercenaries visited the village." "They don't, but the ninja do," Haku answered. "I thought there were no ninjas," Naruto tilting his head. Haku bore a vein on his head. "There are two, one of which you're pissing off. I knew you were a ninja, Haku-kun," and it was here Haku had to stop to analyze exactly where the conversation had gone. Realizing what he said, the boy quickly retreated from the blonde, his senbon at the ready. "Who are you?" Haku asked. This question was met with wide eyes and an even wider grin, before a miasma of fire and, was that malevolence? Fire and pure malevolence erupted from thin air beside Naruto. Emerging from the apparently evil smoke came a clone of the boy, but in an orange two-piece suit. His hair was kept slicked back, and 2 fox ears adorned the top of his head instead of the 2 human ears that were at the original side. With a nonchalant attitude, the newcomer immediately made his way over to the unconscious girl near the other side of the river and sat next to her, lounging immediately. "You have 2 minutes, brat." Haku didn't know what to make of the situation. 2 minutes? What did that mean? And why, for some reason, did every instinct in his body demand he ignore the fox before him? It didn't make sense. In fact, none of this did. Nothing made sense since he made the decision to interact with this boy. Initially this seemed a simple enough task. Upon picking around the island's forests in search of some flowers whose nectar made a suitable anesthetic, Haku stumbled upon the 2 baby ninja as his master called them, playing in the water not too far from where he searched. After spying on them for a bit, Haku could see they were in fact trying to learn the water walking ability, something every Kiri inhabitant learned almost as soon as they could walk. Feeling no threat from at all from those who couldn't even master a children's technique, Haku made the decision to talk to them to at least glean information about their master. Or were they called teachers in other relationships? It didn't matter. Push comes shove, Haku would be able to easily deal with them should the time comes he needed to. That being the case, Haku was still paranoid. Living the life of a missing ninja for so long, he was privy to only taking the best chances. That included recon. So he waited. He waited until they were tired and nearly exhausted to make his move. When they were resting, one unconscious, Haku made his way to leave the bush, rather noisily at that, into the clearing. So it was to his surprise that not 1 second after the very first leaf crackled that he could feel one's attention on him. As he fully emerged, Haku daintily brushed his hair away from his face and looked up to the boy in a meditative pose on the other side of the river. Plastering a fake smile, Haku prepared to greet the boy from the safety of both the river and several yards of land on both sides of said river, only for the boy to be directly in front of him, as if he were there the entire time. Haku stumbled away, almost falling upon realization. Eyes darting over each feature of the boy, Haku wasn't sure what to think of this. He wasn't physically strong enough to pull off that speed. His lanky form underneath that hideous orange jumpsuit proved that. So how, Chakra, did he have that much? Back to the matter at hand, Haku was forced into a conversation with the boy. Initially he had attempted to play it cool. The effeminate boy made his way over to the river to attempt to drink from it like he planned. The boy immediately shattered this attempt, derailing an offhand inquiry meant to make him squirm and turning the conversation into an annoying banter. In an attempt to alleviate the boy's rambling, Haku said the first thing that came to mind. Now the boy knew he was ninja. Haku clutched the senbon in his hand, before releasing it to the point where he held it loosely. Not loose enough to drop it, but not tight enough that it would hinder his throw should things get nasty. This boy had already proven that he was capable enough to move at speeds even Haku couldn't track. Was this boy really shinobi after all? Haku stared down his adversary, wariness in his soft, gentle eyes. Who are you? And then it happened. Fire, as hot and mythic as the fires of another realm, erupted from the air beside the boy introduced as Naruto. It twisted and contorted, controlled by some demon Haku couldn't begin to imagine. After a few seconds the fire flowed into a form, its body contour similar to that of Naruto's, before the fire breathed life into itself. Its shape became more pronounced, and out of the flames stepped a more dapper version of the blonde. It paid Haku no heed as it stepped over to the girl on the other side of the river. Well, stepped is a general term, as the creature more or less floated over, moving on ethereal grace alone. Haku resisted the urge to grip his head. Something about this situation was telling him this wasn't right. This whole situation wasn't right, and he should just ignore the creature altogether. The feeling was so strong that Haku was almost tempted to believe it, but something else stopped him. Something emanating from this very boy in front of him was making the urges that seemed almost as real as instinct seem like nothing more than whispers. Me? I already told you who I am, Naruto answered. His smile only stretched further on his face. The feeling from the boy only increased as he spoke, and already Haku could feel the urge lessen. Belly, just belly, could Haku spare a glance over at the fox boy as he picked his teeth? His eyes immediately reverted back to the blonde. I care not for your name. I care for something holding more essence than that, Haku retorted. These were not the words that were the most pressing in his mind, but they were the ones that he felt he was supposed to ask. Why was he asking this? Apparently the boy in front of him was just as confused as he was, for he tilted his head upon hearing the question. What do you mean? What I mean to say is, what do you fight for? Obviously you are shinobi, your speed reveals that much of you. My only question is, why do you fight? Haku flinched upon finishing his question. He wanted to bite his tongue with how much he was frustrated. Yes, these were questions that he was concerned with, but not ones he wanted to ask. The words, they came out of his mouth as though stock phrases, and Haku could do nothing to stop them. Why was this happening? What kind of a question is that? The boy asked. The response annoyed Haku, but not as much as it should have. Every word out of the boy's mouth felt like a salve on an itch he couldn't quite pinpoint enough to scratch. Haku continued talking, slightly easier now. The words were getting more natural the more he talked. Just answer, was all the fake hunter ninja was able to get out. Those words were not what he was urged to say, and he felt somewhat of divine retribution hammering at his brain for disobeying, but these were words that he felt he needed to ask. Well, isn't it obvious? The boy asked while embarrassingly scratching his head. I fight for the only thing worth fighting for. I fight to protect what is most precious to me, because when you fight to protect something, you bring out your true power. Haku nodded at the blonde's answer. Despite his idiotic nature and apparent strength and ability to summon demons apparently, underneath his cold exterior existed a man with motives similar to Haku's own. This being the case however, almost everyone fought to protect something. Whether it be money or fame or power, everyone fought to protect some kind of selfish agenda. This boy would be no different. As inconspicuous as possible, Haku attempted to shift his arm into a position to strike. A properly thrown senbon should be just enough surprise for Haku to slip into an ice mirror and get away before the boy could recover. He would be giving in to the urges in his head to get as far away as possible from the boy, but for once in the strange afternoon he agreed with them. Just as Haku was about to strike however, the boy's smile disarmed him. Not taking any note of danger whatsoever, Naruto continued. I fight to protect my precious people, Haku. Because what use is anything else in the world if you have no one to share it with? All the money, power, fame, they mean nothing if you are all by yourself. And then, something in Haku snapped. The urges, slowly being reduced to whispers before, were now completely gone. The boy's words, resonating so deeply with Haku's own soul, managed to, if just for a moment, free Haku in a way he never thought before. Bound no more, Haku could only stare at the boy before him, his ever-radiant smile never faltering. I have to go, Haku stammered. Regaining use of his feet, Haku completely forgot about his ability to use ice to teleport as he ran to the tree line. Too many thoughts and emotions were running through his head at the thought of meeting another so much like himself that he could barely keep his mind straight. Turning, Haku thought it prudent to at least give the boy a taste of his own medicine. Deciding on the words, Haku turned to address the boy before jumping off. He would flabbergast the blonde as well. By the way, I'm a boy, Haku proudly stated. To his unending disbelief, the boy ninja just laughed. I know, Haku, he responded. And I am the seventh Hokage from the future. Haku's eyes glazed over. 30 seconds, brat, called Kurama as he stood from his place near Sakura. Despite the time he spent lounging on the grass, not a single blade of grass nor clump of dirt marred his suit. Naruto wondered how he did it. I realized, furball. I think that conversation went well. It did, Kyuubi stated, hopping over the river in a single bound. Until you mentioned that you were Hokage. Time is going to reset now. At this Naruto scratched his head. Looking around, the world was still in vibrant color. The river still even flowed, and if you listen hard enough, you could hear Sakura's soft breathing over the humming brook. Are you sure, Kyuubi? Naruto asked. It usually resets by now. Kyuubi also looked around. Wow. For once you're right. Why hasn't it reset? Maybe because I answered jokingly that Haku didn't take me seriously, Naruto supplemented. He looked over to where Sakura was asleep. He had to admit that he liked her hair better when it was short. Having spent the most time around it that way, it was hard not to prefer the normal over the alternative, with short hair definitely becoming the normal. Perhaps, Kyuubi answered, a pensive look on his face. There's more to this, I know there is, but for now we have no time to talk about it. Estimation of about 10 seconds before your teacher returns. I will talk to you later, brat, Kyuubi finished, before disappearing in a wreath of flames. As soon as the last ember died out on the wind did Kakashi flash into the clearing, Sasuke in tow. Upon looking around, Kakashi saw Naruto on the other side of the river slightly damped from the exercise, with Sakura asleep on the side he arrived in. I see you're done, Kakashi drawled, dropping Sasuke like a sack of potatoes. Naruto nodded, a vibrant smile on his face. Yes, sensei. We're all done here. A full week found Naruto and the rest of his team making their way to the bridge Tazuna had hired them to help guard. Hands behind his head, Naruto was rather pleased with what they had managed to learn. Sakura stretched her arms above her head. They had woken up early that morning to match with the carpenter's work schedule, and as such hadn't fully acclimated to the rising sun. I feel better than I thought I would waking up this early, Sakura commented. She finished the statement with a yawn, but a good one at that, as she smiled shortly after. Access to a larger pool of chakra would do that for you, Kakashi stated, his head in a book. Turning a page, he spared a glance at his sole female student. It's nowhere near Jonin, or even Chunin level, but it's effectively twice what it was before. With the physical and chakra-intensive training we had you go through, the chakra boost should make you feel a lot better than you did before. Kakashi then looked away. I should estimate you feel nowhere near as sluggish as before. Sure enough, Sakura was feeling springy and alive. Jumping every other step, Sakura could feel a spring in her gait that wasn't there before. Yeah, I guess you're right, Sakura stated. She flexed her fingers as she walked along. I think I can get used to this. Kakashi looked over to another member of their team. Naruto was walking slightly behind the rest of the team, but not for any less energy. No, the boy seemed to be almost vibrating in anticipation. Brat, you're too excited, Kyuubi growled. You're barely keeping yourself together. Well, can you blame me? Naruto asked. We're going to be charging headfirst into my first ninja battle. But this time, I'm ready. Kakashi started wondering exactly how fast his blonde genin could shake. He decided to ask a question regardless. And how are you making out, Naruto? How's the jutsu coming along? Over the course of the week, Kakashi decided to teach Naruto an expansion on the jutsu he was using. The teacher was still apprehensive around his blonde charge, but he was still dedicated to teaching. Seeing as he had nothing to teach the boy anymore after the tree and water walking technique, he decided to work on something he knew. It's coming along great, Kakashi. I can't wait to use it on Zabuza, and Naruto actually couldn't. With perfect manipulation of Kyuubi's, and subsequently all of the other Bijuu's chakra, he didn't really have a need to learn any other elemental manipulation. When the time came for him to try to grasp the basics and learn more versatile techniques than the Rasengan, no one in the village felt themselves appropriate enough to teach him. Just because he had multiple Kekkei Genkai under his command didn't mean he knew exactly how he commanded them. So to receive any instruction, however basic, in a jutsu other than Rasengan was a goldmine to him, and he spent the time he had Kakashi to himself carefully and efficiently. The week ended with him using the last day to experiment on his own. That day turned out to be the most dangerous of them all. A day spent allowing Naruto anything was a day best spent not happening. With a mean grin on his face, Naruto flexed his hand. He was extremely excited to see Zabuza. Kakashi was not as excited. You will be using no such technique on him. That jutsu was not meant for direct contact with the enemy, and being in water for any reason near Zabuza is not condoned. Understand? Naruto nodded his head, but Kakashi could feel he wasn't really listening. Nodding his head, Kakashi turned to the last member of his team. Sasuke followed along after his teammates with no real instruction from anyone, but he still shuffled as if he were nothing more than a zombie. Face dull and eyes blank and lifeless, he had still made progress this week, and thus Kakashi considered team training a success. Nothing could put down Kakashi's mood right now. At least, that's what he thought. As soon as he came into view of the bridge, he could see it was covered in fog. Kakashi immediately cursed. Okay, let's go with a new plan. Team, on me, Kakashi instructed, no joking in his voice whatsoever. His team, including Sasuke, collapsed on the man. We are going to go in the fog of war. Stay near me, stay behind me, and most importantly do not break formation until I say so. Understand? Kakashi did not wait for an answer, for he bridged no room for dissent, and instead immediately pushed forward. The team felt ready, until a person coughed from behind them. Mr. Ninja, what do I do? Tazuna, their mission directive, asked. Kakashi groaned. Oh right, just stay behind us or something, and with that the team advanced. Zabuza was at a loss. Even massacre of the entirety of the people working on the bridge hadn't succeeded in improving his mood. Turning, he watched as Haku, his all-important tool, stood with a blank expression on his face as blood splattered everywhere across his frame. His normally perfectly white hunter's nin mask was splattered with blood from the demon's rampage, and yet the boy still did not move. Zabuza knew for a fact that Haku hated blood and causing other people to secrete it. This was truly troublesome. This being the case, Zabuza couldn't exactly stop. This was his mission, an errant weapon or not, he was going to complete it. With a half-hearted swing of his sword, another of the bridge builders' heads would roll, and with it the missing nin would be one step closer to achieving his pay. This time, however, his swing was met with resistance. The clang sound of metal against metal could be heard ringing throughout the cloud-covered bridge. Zabuza turned his head to see Kakashi standing before him. A kunai stood between the edge of his cleaver and the scared man's throat. Good to see you again, copy ninja, Zabuza teased. Slowly, he removed the blade from almost eviscerating the man's neck before stepping over to the side of the bridge where Haku stood. The scared bridge builder ran for his life. Likewise, Zabuza-chan, Kakashi answered, slowly stepping over to where his team stood. Team 7 stood at attention, at least 2 of them ready to fight. Behind them stood Tazuna, the builder in charge of the bridge and the man Zabuza was mainly supposed to kill. Zabuza tilted his head in confusion. Why did you bring my target? The mist ninja asked. Kakashi, after a moment of consideration, quickly turned to look at the man. Why did we bring him? Kakashi asked, unsure of the reason himself. We could have left him home. I doubt there were any ninja back at the house. Meanwhile, back at the house, a very different scene was happening. Dangling above a pot of acid, 2 men cried tears of outright fear as they were slowly lowered to their deaths. Scream maggots. Scream, Kyuubi chanted with endless mirth. Inari, who was the grandson of Tazuna, along with his mother, could only stand there in abject horror and watch. I don't think you want Tazuna back at the house, Naruto commented. From their link he could hear the Kyuubi chanting what amounted to sadistic death threats. Whatever your reason, I don't care, Zabuza interjected. It's high time I killed you all here and now. Haku, the boy, upon hearing his name, quickly donned the hunter's nin mask and darted forward. Ice senbon forming in his hand, the boy was an avatar of speed as he sprinted towards his foes. Kakashi looked to his own team. Okay, Sakura, I need you to protect Tazuna. Naruto, since Sasuke is out of commission, I need you to, was all the Jonin was able to say before a streak of black darted past him. Whipping his head around, Kakashi could see that the previous deadweight was now out there going toe-to-toe with the effeminate boy. Okay, Kakashi stated, a bit unsure. It seems he has this under control. Naruto turned to his teacher. Provide backup to the Uchiha. Kakashi then removed the part of his headband which concealed his Sharingan eye. Upon opening it, the fabled copy wheel eye spun to life as Kakashi stared down the A-ranked criminal across from him. Zabuza is mine, said criminal smiled. Wouldn't have it any other way, and with that declaration the two sped off to engage in a dance of stab-related death. Sparks clashing from their impact, Kakashi led the fight further down the bridge and away from his team. Naruto turned to Sakura. So protect Tazuna? He asked. Sakura nodded dumbly. I guess, she replied. Her eyes were still on Sasuke as he fought with a vigor and speed he hadn't possessed before. Haku too fought with seemingly no recognition of the blonde and their previous conversation, and if asked, the two seemed to be going through the motions. It seems you have gained some speed, Haku mumbled, no tone or essence in his voice. Speed isn't all I have gotten, Sasuke answered just as robotically. Naruto tilted his head. What was going on? The smell of burning flesh came to mind and instantly Naruto thought of the Kyuubi. Welcome back furball, Naruto thought. Kyuubi grunted in satisfaction. There's nothing like low-life scum to get you through the midnight munchies, Kyuubi responded. But it's not midnight, Naruto asked. Naruto could somehow feel the Kyuubi's malicious grin. Oh, don't worry brat. It will be by the time they really start digesting. What's going on here? That's a good question, Naruto responded as he walked over to the fight currently raging on between the two boys. Sasuke currently had a kunai out and was using it to clash with Haku's senbon. I really don't know the answer to it. You don't know the answer to most questions, Kyuubi huffed. Why I even bother to ask sometimes startles me. Well, I won't be able to settle down until I know so. You know the drill, Naruto grimaced. Do I have to? Kyuubi nodded. Such is the curse of the stupid. Until you are smart enough to answer questions both philosophical and pedantic, you will be forced to run headlong into danger for both my amusement and science. Kyuubi then yawned. Go on with you, Naruto rolled his eyes. Despite the Kyuubi's urging that he was not obliged to follow, he was still more or less going to run headlong into this fight. True, it wasn't where he came in last time, but it was pretty close to it. Maybe. Clutching a kunai, the blonde boy ran straight into the clash between two boys. In the back of his mind, the ex-Hokage noted how similar it was to Kakashi and Zabuza's. As soon as he got close enough, Naruto jumped clear over Sasuke and landed behind Haku. With a spin, the boy attempted to slash the ice user's back, only to be blown clear across the bridge and land outside of it. What? Naruto stated more than asked. I see, Kyuubi pondered. What do you see? Naruto asked. We share the same vision. How the hell did you see more of that than I did? Kyuubi made a TSK sound. Foolish boy, you look but do not see. You try, but do not understand. Once you open your mind to the endless possibilities of the higher beings being you will experience true nirvana. Naruto rubbed his eyes. You don't actually know what happened, do you? Not really, no, Kyuubi admitted. I'm just guessing here, but it could be the gods interfering and making sure you don't enter until you're supposed to. The Kyuubi then pondered a moment. That could also be the reason why they're moving like they are now. This was what they were supposed to be doing, so they're being forced to do it. Naruto walked back to the bridge and lifted his hand when he got to the edge. Sure enough, his hand touched on some sort of invisible barrier. They're getting really desperate with this now, Naruto commented. Everybody gets desperate with you, Kyuubi responded. For instance, I got desperate trying to get you to take a shower. The result was me almost blowing up your village. Again, Naruto chuckled. You'll realize that's going to stop working after a while. Gods bless whatever village or social gathering you end up in when it does. Honestly, I'm surprised it worked the first time. Honestly, I'm surprised it took that much the first time. Their banter finished for now. Naruto looked around for something else to do. His hand immediately fell through the barrier. Oh, I can go in now, Naruto stated unenthusiastically. Do you not want to? Well, it's not that I don't want to. It's just that I realized there are so many other things I could be doing right now. A lot of my life has been wasted on fighting just really stupid things, and now that I think about it, there's so much more to it than endless war, and you can use that new water jutsu on Haku's ice if you overload it enough, Kyuubi stated. Over it. Let's go furball. Naruto flashed onto the bridge in a show of light and theatrics as everyone on the bridge, fighting or not, turned to him. Worry not boys, your savior is here, Naruto shouted. No one seemed to pay him any mind. About time you got back, Kakashi grumbled before being led further down the bridge again. Naruto, where were you? Sakura asked, incredulous. You've been letting Sasuke fight that hunter ninja all alone. You know about his disability? Naruto chuckled. Yeah, sorry Sakura-chan. Naruto then turned to notice the situation the two boys found themselves in. Oh, it's Haku's ice mirrors. Realization then dawned on the boy. Oh shit, it's Haku's ice mirrors, and with that the blonde rushed into the fray. No, you idiot, don't come inside, Sasuke robotically warned. Naruto was already inside when this happened though. His reward was a senbon through the thigh. Of course, since pain tolerance was just as much mental as physical, the blonde juggernaut simply soldiered through it and the ice more or less melted as the wound healed before he even really noticed. Naruto took this as a form of good tidings. Haku took this as a reason to try harder. Before either boy could react, they were both embedded with numerous ice senbon, neither of which could dodge them. Naruto grimaced. I forgot how fast Haku was in this thing, he commented, blocking a senbon from one direction only to be hit by another from an opposite one. Unless I show off more chakra than I should, I can't really keep up. The ice senbon were melting and being healed as soon as they hit, but that only seemed to inspire the masked foe to go faster. You could blow up the bridge and everything on it, too much work. And I think the gods really want me to stick to script for now. Next suggestion, new water technique, good work team, Naruto cheered mentally as he flipped through handsins and ran towards one of the mirrors. You see, they were currently surrounded by a dome of them. Haku attempted to stop the blonde by throwing senbon at him. Pitiful idea really. At some point the needles became a game to the boy. You think he'll ever hit a vital by accident? Naruto mentally asked. I worry about you sometimes, Kyuubi responded. When that idea horribly failed, Haku switched to a new one, namely kicking. He kicked Naruto back to the middle and quickly disappeared back into the ice mirrors. Naruto coughed from his place on the ground. Did he just kick me? It would appear he did, that bastard. Naruto immediately ran back to the mirrors again. His new jutsu was one which needed direct physical contact to apply, and as such Naruto held out his hand in an attempt to touch at least one of the ice mirrors. Haku wouldn't allow it. Naruto was kicked back again. This time however Haku learned his lesson and his efforts redoubled as ice senbon literally showered from the air around the two. Sasuke, Sharingan now active in its lowest state, frantically deflected projectile after projectile. Naruto took a less graceful approach to surviving the onslaught. You could at least try, Kyuubi drawled. It's starting to feel good. After a while both boys were veritable pincushions with neither showing any obvious distress over the situation, though for very different reasons. Haku, after taking a quick breather from the onslaught, prepared for his final attack. Ice needles at the ready, Haku attacked the easier of the two targets first, and let his attack flow towards the blonde who seemed so eager to be hit. Naruto saw the attack coming, of course, but made no move to dodge it. This was, unfortunately, exactly what happened last time this situation happened and thus the same thing that happened last time did as well. That sentence made sense. Naruto's eyes widened as Sasuke's blood splattered over his face. Why? The blonde asked. Sasuke smirked, robotically. Somehow. I don't know, idiot, and the boy collapsed. Naruto looked down at the seemingly dead Uchiha in shock, before a wicked smile came over his face. Is it time, brat? Oh, it's time, and with that a miasma of dark and heavy chakra spilled over the bridge, radiating outwards. All those present on the bridge could get a taste of what was currently going on in the mirrors, though only those inside of Haku's Kekkei Genkai could actually feel it. Come later times you would be surprised at how much that mattered. XXX. The first thought that came to Haku's mind was that he could feel. The second thought that came to his mind was acknowledgement of the threat before him. Twice he had felt that power in his life now, and after the first he resolved to never feel it again. This being the case, the last time he was in a combat situation he was forced into it against his will, and as such assumed the same of this case as well. Life just keeps finding use for me, doesn't it? Haku mumbled, before pulling back a senbon and tossing it with all of his might. It sailed right over the chakra demon's shroud, for Haku knew it would have no effect, and instead head straight for the one other target in range. The needle-covered Sasuke had his back turned to the real ice user, and as such should have been in no position to evade. The thing about ninjas is that they never act according to how they're supposed to. Turning on a dime, blood leaked out of Sasuke's eyes as a 2 Tomoe Sharingan turned into a 3, then mutated even more. Pinwheel-like eyes stared down the senbon, then the ice user, before terrible black flames burned through them both. XXX. Upon recognizing the familiar feeling, having been on the receiving end far more times than was comfortable, a chakra-shrouded Naruto turned to his teammate in shock. Sasuke? The boy asked. Sasuke, upon hearing his name, turned the source of the voice. Upon both realizing the familiarity in the name and noticing he was clutching his eyes with his left hand, Sasuke's genius brain came to two very quick and accurate assumptions. He was in the past. Somehow, this was all Naruto's fault. Naruto. Sasuke, as he was wont to do, did what he did naturally when faced with a new situation of which he had no prior knowledge. He attacked Naruto. This attack was melded with a vengeance of pure malice. Naruto watched as Sasuke's Susanoo ability formed around his right arm. The purple chakra construct melded and grew until it was as big as Sasuke's body. Cocking the augmented arm back, Sasuke used chakra to propel himself like a rocket across the gap between him and the blonde. Naruto stared, before his consciousness was pulled into himself. Naruto landed with a splash inside the seal. All right. What gives, furball? Naruto asked. He turned to see the Kyuubi looking down on him. In fox form at full power, Kurama looked like a truly fascinating and powerful entity. Naruto still neglected to show respect. Kurama yawned, entirely used to this treatment. You're going to take the hit, brat? Naruto, upon hearing, swiftly looked back to the screen of water that hung in the air in front of both himself and Kyuubi. The screen showed what Naruto was seeing in the real world, only in a speed so slow it was almost still. Naruto, now under a speed where he could properly see it, could make out every individual bone in the chakra shroud of Sasuke's Susanoo, as well as every wrinkle on his best friend's childlike face. The man-boy was upset, pissed even, and was out for blood. Naruto slowly turned back to the Kyuubi. You sure about that? Naruto asked. Definitely sure, Kyuubi responded. And what makes you so sure about that? Naruto asked. Last I checked I really didn't want to get beaten to a pulp. What reason could you possibly have in that deranged little mind of yours that could make me take that hit? Kyuubi yawned again, this time harder, before using one of his long, fox-like nails to clean his ear. Because it'd be funny, Naruto stared. Wonderful reasoning, thank you. I tried, Kyuubi drawled. I'm not doing it. Yes you are, I'm not your jester, Kyuubi, Naruto responded, standing up. Looking around, he could make out what the seal looked like. It was still a sewer as far as everything went, with a thin layer of water coating the floor and pipes running over the walls going to and from the chakra beast's cage. This visage continued until the gates of Kyuubi's cage, where the environment exploded into a giant plain complete with fresh green grass, a hill and a giant tree posted on top of it. In the middle of this expanse lounged the Kyuubi, his head resting on his haunches and eyes half closed. From here the Kyuubi, rather sleepily, addressed his host. First off, you are definitely my jester. You exist for many reasons, many of which include my amusement, Naruto scoffed, rolling his eyes. Second off, imagine the hilarity that would ensue should you take the hit. I don't find my face being busted in that funny, Naruto commented, rubbing his jaw. He was punched by that chakra monstrosity before. It wasn't very fun. Oh relax, you have my chakra shroud. At the worst it'll be a love tap, at some point that stops being a love tap and starts being an entire truck. Fox, oh stop being a pansy, said Fox chided. Go out there and take that hit like a man. Naruto shook his head. I already said no. I'm not getting punched in the face for the sole sake of your enjoyment. That's the thing, pansy. You won't be doing this for me. You'll be doing this for both of us. Naruto, knowing the Kyuubi usually didn't say things just to pull a trick on him, stopped in the middle of his rant. With a raised eyebrow he turned to the fox. Explain. Seeing he had his host's attention, Kyuubi smiled. Raising from his rested position, he leaned closer to the blonde, baring every twisted fang. Listen boy, the beast started. If you take the hit and pretend to be hurt, the Uchiha will think that it's your past self. He already knows he's in the past. Wouldn't it be funnier if you convince him he's the only one here? At the very least it'll allow you to avoid him throwing Amaterasu at you with every opportunity. Naruto, who was following along, looked up in confusion. Amata what? Kyuubi sighed. The crazy black fire? Oh right, Naruto screamed in recognition. He pounded a fist into his palm. But yeah, that would be awesome. That and everything else you said. It would be funny to see him floundering around a bit. Aren't I the greatest? Kyuubi asked, his smirk growing wider. The only problem is that there is a very real chance this ruse won't go on for too long. Naruto shrugged. That's fine, Naruto stated. Messing with him for however long it may be that this lasts will be worth it. Then I'm glad we have an understanding, Kyuubi drawled, once again laying his head down. With a yawn he motioned his two fingers in a shooing motion, and Naruto could feel himself being ejected from the space. I'll buff the shroud until just before impact. Do your best to not die. Wait, wow was all Naruto could get out before he was back in his real body. Looking up, the boy had all of a split second to react before a giant, purple chakra-enhanced fist hit his entire body. Flying through the air, Naruto smashed through an already melting ice mirror before skidding across the ground and landing in a crumpled heap before Sakura and Tazuna. Naruto, Sakura asked, her voice quivering. Are you okay? I've been better, Naruto answered, his voice shaking as his mind rattled in his head. On the other side of the bridge, a very much younger than before Sasuke emerged from the half-melted mirrors. Dragging a half-burned Haku with his left arm while holding said arm with his right one, Sasuke made his way over to the trio. Dropping the ice user, Sasuke leveled a glare at Naruto, whose chakra shroud had started to fade. Get up, Dobi. I know you're still alive, Sasuke grunted. His face was in a scowl as he glared down at his lifelong rival. Ugh. Of course I'm alive, team, Naruto yelled, rubbing his dislocated jaw as he pushed himself up off the ground. Looking at the boy back in the eyes, Naruto could see that his brother in all but blood still had the Sharingan active. What's the deal? You know what's wrong, idiot. Explain, Naruto tilted his head. Explain what? Why you're going around just punching people? Sasuke's Mangekyo fled. No. What? No. Explain why I may was all he was able to get out. Sakura, who was initially stunned into inaction, was now fully functional again. Lunging forward, the pinkette firmly tackled the Uchiha to the ground. Sasuke, you're back, she yelled. Tears fell from her eyes as she nuzzled her face into the boy's shirt. What? Wait, Sakura? Sasuke asked, his eyes wide. What are you talking about? You were in a coma, Sasuke-kun. Kakashi-sensei and Naruto and I didn't know what to do about it. Sasuke looked up, eyes focusing on Naruto. He asked Sakura a question. Is that so? Yeah. Do you not remember anything? Sakura asked, her eyes overflowing with tears. Swallowing, Sasuke looked as if he were a deer in headlights. Naruto repressed the urge to snicker. In their later years, the sight of Sakura crying even a little bit was enough to break Sasuke into little pieces. And no, Sasuke muttered out. Everything is a bit hazy, Sasuke managed to say. Raising his left hand to her head, an action he still was not accustomed to, he awkwardly rustled her pink locks. This seemed to work a bit, as the girl's sobs lessened. Eventually Sakura's cries ended, and she settled into a light sleep. That's better. I don't like it when Sakura-chan cries, Naruto stated, relief painted on his face. Don't get too comfy there, team. You haven't called Sakura-chan in years, idiot. What are you talking about? Naruto asked. I call her that all the time. You can stop now, idiot. What the hell are you talking about? You're a bad actor, Naruto. Stop it, whatever, bastard. Just take care of Sakura-chan while It was here Naruto noticed that Haku had already jumped in front of Kakashi's Chidori while they were talking. It's weird seeing someone other than me use that move. Sasuke then turned to Naruto. It must be weird seeing it used on someone other than you. Why would I want it to be used on me? Naruto asked. He was still fixated on Haku's now dead body. Something about the scene struck terrible chords inside him. Sasuke scoffed from behind the blonde's back. If I have to look into your mind for the truth, I will, Sasuke remarked. Gently he laid Sakura down on the bridge, cupping her hands under her head so she wouldn't be on a completely hard surface. Whatever are you talking about? All right. You asked for it, and just like that Naruto found his jaw being gripped. Rather rough, Naruto's face was forced around until Naruto was staring Sasuke in his pinwheel-shaped Sharingan. Once again Naruto found himself falling into his own mind sewer. Stepping next to him Sasuke, in his adult form, looked around. It's the same as I remember, Sasuke remarked. Looking around, his Sharingan eyes did not seem impressed. Last time you were here your eyesight was better, brat. Sasuke was at first alarmed. Confusedly he turned to the giant fox in the room. Why are you speaking like that? If I had to imagine your voice in text, it'd be in bold. Nostalgia, I see, Sasuke responded. He gestured around himself. So I guess you're the reason the idiot is trying to act? What do you mean, trying? I was doing a pretty good job, Naruto yelled. And how are you an adult? Naruto was ignored. I am. I thought it'd be funny if you thought you were the only one. You're as insufferable as ever Kurama. Is no one going to answer me? Naruto yelled. This is my head after all, and what did you mean by, my eyesight was better? Have you not seen yourself recently? Kyuubi asked. Sasuke shrugged. I just got back here. 1 minute I was roaming the lands on a mission for this idiot. Sasuke pointed to Naruto, who was pouting on the floor from being ignored. And next thing I know I sense some hostility behind me. Without thinking I set it on fire, but all of a sudden I could feel an appendage that wasn't there before, not to mention the needles sticking out of your body, Naruto commented. Sasuke bopped him on the head. I'm small and weak again and I can't do anything about it. Now, Sasuke turned to Naruto. Send me back or I'll burn everything to the ground. I don't know why exactly you brought me here, but you're sending me back, Naruto grimaced. I didn't bring you here, bastard. Sasuke blinked. Once, twice, then 3 times he blinked while staring down his orange companion. Excuse me, I said that I didn't bring you back here. Did you lose your hearing with your eyesight? Naruto repeated, obviously annoyed. In all likelihood he was probably healed from the punch already, but the phantom pain still existed. If you didn't do this, then who did? Sasuke inquired. His face was scrunched up in confusion. And why do you two keep going on and on about my eyesight? I can see just fine. Both Naruto and Kyuubi looked at one another, before turning back to the bow. Do you really not realize? Naruto asked. Taking this moment, he stood up from his place on the watery ground. Making his way over into Kyuubi's part of the seal, he stood there, letting the breeze blow over him and dry him off. Seeing as this was his mind and he could simply will himself dry, Kyuubi just assumed he liked the experience. Do I not realize what, exactly? Sasuke asked, his head tilting. Naruto and Kyuubi shared another glance, before Kyuubi raised a finger, his nail gesturing to the water in Naruto's part of the seal. A geyser erupted from the expanse, before solidifying and turning into a perfect mirror. Sasuke pointed to it. I assume you want me to look into that? I knew you were the smart one on the team, Naruto chided. Sasuke threw a shuriken of pure black flame at him. Why is everyone so violent at me? Naruto yelled, dodging to the side. The shuriken continued until it hit Kurama, at which point it immediately dispersed. Because it's endlessly entertaining. With your luck, I doubt you can even die. Luck doesn't work like that, bastard, Naruto exclaimed. Sasuke simply brushed him off while walking towards the mirror. Upon approaching it, the man studied his features. Black cloak, nice hair, chiseled chin, Sasuke verbally listed, going over himself for his own vanity. I don't see anything wrong. Even my Sharingan look perfect. Oh, both of them? Naruto asked. Yeah, both of them. In fact, there's a symmetry there that I didn't notice until no, the genius then froze. Where the hell is my Rinnegan? The man screamed. His face was absolutely mortified as he stared over both of his Mangekyo Sharingan with no concentric eye in sight. Broken, Sasuke turned to his lifelong rival. Idiot. Where is my Rinnegan? Naruto shrugged. When you come back in time, any features you had while an adult are erased while you're a child. Mental things like how to do jutsu and even chakra capacity remains, but physical properties disappear. Sorry bastard. You don't have your Rinnegan anymore. Wordlessly, Sasuke turned back to the mirror. So, I don't have my Rinnegan anymore. I believe I just said that. Yes, I see, Sasuke mumbled. Rising from where he had collapsed, the man turned back into a boy in Naruto's mindscape. Okay, how are you guys doing that? Naruto asked. He was ignored. Well Naruto, there's only one thing to do in this situation. Are you ready to go back to the real world? Naruto stared at the boy. It's my brain. Shouldn't I be the one asking that question? No, you should not be, and with that the two were back in the real world. Sasuke's grip on Naruto's chin shook and wavered, before falling away. Looking at it forlornly, Sasuke tightened his hand into a fist, squeezing as hard as he could, before glaring at Naruto. I don't know how, but this is your fault. How exactly is it my fault? Naruto asked, flabbergasted. I don't know yet, Sasuke responded. But you're going to pay for it, and with that Sasuke cocked his fist back. Once again purple chakra started to swell around it until a purple skeleton encased his arm. Oh, this isn't good, indeed, Kyuubi growled. It seems the kid has broken. Are we fighting back? Naruto asked, more unsure than anything. He doesn't have the Rinnegan. I think we can handle him. Just because I don't have my Rinnegan doesn't make me any weaker. If anything, you're weaker because you don't have your Bijuu chakra. Naruto stared at Sasuke. Tilting his head, the blonde then looked away once he realized what his rival was talking about. Oh, Sasuke stated. There's no way. Now calm down Sas. I lose my Rinnegan being forced back through time for some reason I am almost absolutely sure is your fault. He's not entirely wrong, but to add to that, you managed to keep your Bijuu chakra. How in the hell is that even fair? Listen Sasuke. I didn't make up the rules for this. Are you sure? Sasuke asked deliriously. Because it sure as hell seems that way. Wait no, really. Think about it. If I were gonna drag you back in time with me, why would I, the master prankster of Konoha, then take away your powers? We could use it to mess with people. Sasuke stopped to consider it. That did make sense. Looking at his left arm, the Uchiha attempted to move it. Realizing he could, he manifested chakra around it as well. Sasuke, just because you have a point doesn't mean I want to beat your blonde little skull in any less, Sasuke screamed. In some way, no matter how small, this is still your fault. And you can be assured I'm gonna beat you for it. Naruto rubbed his temple. Why? I don't feel up to it Sasuke. That's a lie, Sasuke screamed. Okay, it is, Naruto admitted. But I really can't, and why not? Sasuke asked. This is the one time I really need it, because, Naruto started. The gods won't allow it. What the hell does Grandpa Sage have to do with it? There are apparently powers other than Grandpa. What? There are? Sasuke asked. Naruto did a double take. You can hear him? Naruto asked. Outside my head? Of course I can. I always could. Bullshit, Naruto yelled. I'm pretty sure you never displayed that little tray before. Just because you haven't noticed doesn't mean I haven't named one time, during your wedding, Sasuke stated factually. Kyuubi and I discussed the cake, and where was I? Your attention was elsewhere, namely Hinata. Naruto commented. Makes sense, shut it kid. The grown-ups are talking, growled the Kyuubi. Naruto pouted, but did not argue. There are actual higher beings known as gods, Kyuubi addressed Sasuke. The boy nodded. And they don't want us fighting? No, Naruto answered. They really want things to go the same. I see, Sasuke nodded. And why exactly are we obliging? Naruto opened his mouth, then closed it when he realized he didn't have an answer. Sasuke took this as an invitation to continue. I mean, I don't really want to be here, and I assume neither do you. Naruto shook his head. Then why are we playing along? From what I can gather we were both dragged here against our will. About right, Kyuubi assented. So why do we care about what they want? If we don't play along, they reset everything and we just do it all over again, Naruto argued. Sasuke shook his head. So, eventually they'll get bored. There's also the problem of them just wiping us out, Kyuubi chipped in. That's a very real threat. Naruto and Sasuke both looked at the fox, then shrugged, turning back to one another and restarting the conversation. Do either of you even understand the concept of fear? So here's what I propose, Sasuke started. We power up, then have a quick punch out until one of us goes down. That's you by the way, idiot. Bite me, bastard, Naruto retorted. and eventually when we mess things up enough, the powers that be reset everything and we go for round 2. Sound good? Naruto turned the idea over in his head. Eventually, he nodded at the plan. Sounds good. I've been meaning to stretch my legs for quite a bit now. The boy then started to break out into stretches. Even before I was brought back, I haven't had a really equal spar in so long. Sakura and Hinata are strong and all, don't get me wrong. There just isn't really a fair challenge in them. Sasuke smirked. I agree. No one outside of the cage can stay in the fight for more than 10 minutes at most. Even then I have to hold back in order to prevent them from dying. Around here the purple chakra started to spread throughout the rest of the Uchiha's body, forming a ghastly skeleton. Eyes glowing, the Susanoo warrior grew solid skin, then armor before its torso lifted from the ground and legs appeared. But with you, idiot, I'm sure you will at least talk the Reaper into letting you get a rematch. Naruto smiled back. I'll be sure to let him know to give you another shot. Naruto then looked inward. Kurama, are you ready to knock some Uchiha hide around? Always have been, Kyuubi growled, a malicious grin on his face. Not a single second afterward did a miasma of full-blown Bijuu chakra explode from the blonde. The amount and density was far more than before, and within seconds Naruto stood inside of a rendition of Kurama's true form. The unfinished bridge groaned under the new weight of the two chakra constructs as they stared each other down. Luckily neither boy deigned to use their full size. Such things easily dwarfed mountains. Ready you two? Ready Dumbus? Kurama and Naruto shouted. The two then dashed to each other, a clawed hand ready to meet a purple chakra sword. The resulting shockwave cracked the bridge. XXX Kakashi lost his footing, tripping as what seemed to be an earthquake ravaged the island. Because of this, Kakashi's aim was slightly off, and his second Chidori missed his target's heart. Instead it hit Zabuza's shoulder, and the man was forced to limp away clutching his wound. Zabuza glared at the copy ninja. Said copy ninja did not care. His attention was focused elsewhere. Dense, powerful chakra radiated from the side of the bridge where he left his students. Even now, the Cyclops could feel the powerful vibrations echoing across the field from a collision of two powers he couldn't even fathom. Massive, heavy blows rocked bridge and sea alike, and concern for his students was the first thing that came to mind. What is that? Kakashi thought as another tremor rocked the bridge. Whatever it was, why it chose to suddenly appear and wreak havoc on this bridge in particular stumped him. Whatever the reason, however, he still had to protect his children, so with a heavy heart the man turned back to the missing nin. I don't have time for this, Kakashi stated simply. Take that wound as a sign of good bearing and get out of here, Zabuza scoffed. I don't take pity, copy ninja, Zabuza refuted. Death in battle is an honor for Mist Ninja. As such the demon of the hidden mist tightened his grip on his sword. Kakashi frowned. Are you insane? You are crippled and tired. Barely at half of your fighting strength would be a generous overstatement of where you are right now. Take your losses and live to fight another day. I don't want to live to fight another day, Zabuza spat back. We are ending this, here and now, and with that the mist swordsman dashed forward, one arm hanging uselessly at his side while the other dragged his massive cleaver behind him. Zabuza was on Kakashi in seconds, using the entire weight of his body to swing the sword in a massive overhead arc. It was wide and slow, so Kakashi didn't need to do much to avoid it. Dodging underneath, the Konoha ninja jabbed Zabuza twice in the abdomen, making the already weakened ninja reel. Kakashi looked over the ninja, sad eyes staring down over him. Why are you doing this? I didn't take you for the idiotic type, Zabuza laughed. Really? That's funny, cause I definitely took you tree huggers as the sympathetic type. Lowering his head, the man fell to his knees. End it? Kakashi shook his head. Tell me why you are so eager to die. This question earned another chuckle. Is this really the time to find out? I thought you were worried about your students. Zabuza raised his head to stare off to the other side of the bridge. It was naturally foggy in wave country, so the far side wasn't clearly visible, but the sheer amount of power radiating from the direction was almost impossible to ignore. Even I can feel that pressure. Whatever is over there fighting is far beyond either of us. Definitely beyond your students. Kakashi grunted, lowering his headband. He was already tired from his fight with Zabuza, and he would need the chakra to flail uselessly at whatever powerhouses were duking it out near his students. They can handle themselves for a bit. If they're not dead already they can survive until I hear you out. After all, Kakashi started, his voice ominous. It's not very often you hear the last words of a dead man. At this, Zabuza's eyes widened. After a few seconds he started to chuckle, before his head flew back and the man launched into a bellowing laughter. You leaf ninja disgust me, Zabuza spoke through gritted teeth. I have to admit though, you tree huggers sure are entertaining. Kakashi put his knife to Zabuza's neck. I don't think you're in the proper position to be taunting me. Zabuza erupted into laughter once more. Somehow, Zabuza stated between chuckles, threats from a leaf ninja are a little less than intimidating. Don't be too insulted though. Even had you not been from Konoha I would not have been scared. I accepted my death long ago. I let you go free. You could have lay and gone where? Hatake, Zabuza spat out. I'm a traitor to the one place I love most. What do you think my life is like, copy ninja? Do you think I go from job to job living a carefree schedule I set myself? Hair. You couldn't be more wrong. Zabuza's eyes narrowed. Kakashi stared him in them unflinching. He knew that missing ninja didn't have exactly easy lives, but he figured they had to have some benefits. Nothing I have ever done since I left the mist has been of my own choice, Zabuza continued. His voice gained a tinge of sadness and regret. Not even the action of me leaving was something I wanted. Ever since then I have been on the run. When I work, it's to the whim of whatever lowlife decided to hire a missing ninja. When I sleep is decided by whenever the hunter ninja have decided to leave me alone. What I eat is decided by the grocers, who could poison the food for the bounty on my head. Did you think having a reputation would make things easier? It doesn't. It makes it worse. Zabuza then sighed heavily. Releasing his grip on his cleaver, the mist ninja used his good hand to grab at the wrappings that covered the lower part of his face. Yanking harshly, the man pulled them off in a single motion. They fell to the ground, and with a bloody smile the man looked Kakashi in the eye once more. I used to be a veneered and respected warrior, Kakashi Hatake. Men and women alike would both fear and chant my name as I walked through my hometown. And you want to know something? I loved it. I used to wave at them, Hatake. I would wave at the beautiful young children and the beaming wives as I passed them on the way to my Mizuki after a successful mission. I loved protecting and slaughtering for them. I loved them all. My country, my people, all of it. I loved it, no matter how blood-stained it was. We had terrible tendencies, but in those tendencies we shared a camaraderie for each other. I was a demon, yes, but I was their demon. Zabuza then chuckled. It was deep and low. Now look at me. What am I now, Hatake? A sellsword? A missing ninja? No, none of those matter. Zabuza looked at his hands. They were bloody and scarred from years of swinging a sword almost as heavy as he was. Opening, then closing them repeatedly, the man struggled to hold back a sob. Looking back up, Kakashi had to use all of his willpower to keep himself from gaping at the sheer emotion in the man's eyes. I have killed my own people. Every hunter ninja sent after me was one of my own. I have cut through swathes of them, Hatake. Literally entire families worth of young, aspiring ninja have been slain by myself. These people, these children that once looked up to me are now looking up to me from the unmarked graves I have buried them in. Kakashi couldn't restrain his flinch. Zabuza chuckled. Oh, yes, I have buried every missing ninja I slaughtered. They deserve that much. All they're doing is being loyal. But me, the traitor who have killed every single loyal mist that has pursued him only has one thing of value to his name. Zabuza then looked at Haku. His lifeless, vacant eyes seemed to be staring straight through him. I have killed even him. Tell me, Hatake. For a man who has killed and betrayed all of his own, what would you call that? Kakashi was speechless. Zabuza could see that. Allow me to answer that for you then. I am a kinslayer. And for a man with such a vibrant love of his country that he was willing to gather funds to rebel against its bastard of a leader, how terrible do you think it is to live every day with that fact? Kakashi swallowed. The action felt difficult. Would he be able to do the same? Survive with killing so many of his own? It's unbearable, Zabuza continued. I thought that, maybe, I would live on in the legacy I left with Haku. Once the war was over, I would be able to go off and quietly die while Haku, who has never killed a soul, would be able to live it up as a hero. The poor boy thought himself a tool. In a way, I supposed he was right. I was using him, but even he I loved. Not only as a fellow mist-born ninja, but as a son. Now look at him. Zabuza stared at the boy's body. Tell me, Hatake, what do I still have to live for? Kakashi realized he could find no reason. End it. End my life and my legacy. This was a fine battle and a fine loss. I can see no honor lost in dying to you, copy ninja. After all, Zabuza then adjusted the mist headband on his forehead. It was slashed through. It is a mist ninja's honor to die in battle, and though I am a sellsword and a kinslayer, that one thing has never changed. There was nothing else to say, was there? Kakashi, resolve strengthened from hearing Zabuza's final words, nodded to the man. Looking the man straight in the eyes, Kakashi revealed his Sharingan once again. There was probably only a handful of ninjas worthy of the name like the man before him. He would remember it. Gripping the handle of the kunai tightly, Kakashi prepared himself to swipe its blade across the man's throat. It wasn't an easy way to go, but among ninjas it was the most respectable. Pressing the blade into the man's neck, Kakashi managed to draw some blood when a slimy, high-pitched laugh attracted his attention. Both he and Zabuza followed the laugh to the source to find a small man with crazily styled hair standing at another end of the bridge. Behind him stood a small militia of men, all of which had several weapons and bigger smiles. While Kakashi started, before he was interrupted by laughter. Surprisingly, it was from the man in front of him. Zabuza bellowed with a mirth he had not had only seconds ago. Ahahahaha. So you really did intend to betray me? Gato the Mist Ninja asked. The short man answered the question with a sneer. Not betraying per se. I like to think of it as tying up loose ends. You missing ninja are liars and cheats. Kakashi had to take a minute to analyze the hypocrisy in that statement, and it's fairly important for a businessman like myself to acknowledge when a partnership is detrimental. You, Zabuza, are detrimental. As such, our contract is terminated. boys," Gato motioned with his hand, and all of the mercenaries behind him moved forward at the command. "Not to mention, you charged simply too much." Kakashi looked at Zabuza. "How much did you charge him, exactly?" Zabuza looked back. "Enough to finance my revolution." "Why?" Kakashi's eyes widened. "Why the hell would you charge that much to kill a single man?" "I figured he could afford it." "Who could afford to single-handedly finance an entire war?" Kakashi asked. He was incredulous. "I can, actually," Gato interrupted. "I'm just really cheap." Zabuza stared back at Kakashi, a smug grin on his face. "See?" Kakashi rolled his eyes. "And his acceptance didn't send off any alarms in your head?" "It did," Zabuza admitted. "I just figured I'd kill him and take the money before he betrayed me. Didn't figure you'd come along," though Kakashi rolled his eyes again. "Both of you entered this arrangement intent on betraying the other." "I'm a ninja businessman," Gato and Zabuza answered simultaneously. "It's what we do." Kakashi found no fault with that logic. "That being said," Zabuza stated, "I do not like the idea of being betrayed, personal intentions notwithstanding." With careful precision, Zabuza snatched the kunai from Kakashi's hands and held it firmly in his teeth. Using his one good arm, the missing ninja gripped the handle of his blade and stood defiant against the small army in front of him. "Go to your students, Kakashi," Zabuza grunted around the kunai in his mouth. Kakashi shook his head. "Are you planning on fighting that alone? You won't come out alive." Turning, Zabuza stared the leaf ninja down. His eyes were bloodthirsty and manic, but somehow still conveyed the message the man wanted to get through. "That's the plan." Nodding his head, Kakashi turned and headed in the opposite direction of Gato and his mercenaries. His students had been put on hold for long enough. "Get him, boys. He's half dead and tired. He won't be able to even nick one of you," Gato yelled. He was answered by a chorus of yells. In mismatched unison the men charged forward, excited in the prospect of killing a ninja. Zabuza, who was losing blood very quickly, wobbled a bit as nausea and blood loss addled his mind. In all honesty, the man shouldn't even be able to stand. But the thing about ninja is that they don't act how they're supposed to. Kakashi could hear the exact moment the band of mercenaries met Zabuza's defiant last stand. A loud, bone-chilling yell of pain echoed throughout the bridge as the first mercenary met the seven swordsmen. Kakashi turned his head, keeping in his stride. The mercenary who screamed had his arm chopped off. The others were too decapitated to scream properly. This was achieved in a single swing. "Listen here, you maggots," Zabuza yelled. "I am the demon of the hidden mist. And you all," Zabuza pointed out over the crowd with his cleaver, "are already dead." It was an understatement to say the men were spooked. Gato was one such man. Slowly, the man started to retreat. "It's time for me to leave," Gato whispered, starting to walk away. "Well, that won't do," Kakashi mumbled. With a quick glance at Zabuza, Kakashi could see that the man was cleaving through the untrained men by the dozens. Twisting and turning and slashing, the man was receiving blows here and there, but was running through the army regardless. However fast he was moving though, he wouldn't get through them all in his dance of death before Gato escaped. Coming to a conclusion, the man stopped his stride and turned back to the carnage. Sharingan working overtime, the man pulled a kunai out from his hip pouch and took careful aim through the men fighting. "Careful," Kakashi chanted. Slowly lightning chakra seeped into the blade, giving it a slow crackle. There on the bridge the copy ninja stood, until an opportunity presented itself. "There," Kakashi shouted, and like a bullet the blade left his hands. Piercing through the air like a knife through butter, the kunai sailed around every person in the way, before burying itself in Gato's leg. Because of the lightning chakra the blade didn't even stop there, going through cartilage and skin alike after discharging all of its electricity. "Grr!" Gato screamed, before falling to the ground clutching his wound. He seemed to be undergoing a spasm. "Boss," a nearby mercenary yelled. Quickly, the man tried to help his boss to his feet. As soon as he touched him, however, the man was electrocuted. He fell to the ground in a crumpled heap. "What?" another mercenary yelled. A sense of dread soon overcame him however. Looking up, the man followed the killing intent to a fearsome sight. Zabuza, covered entirely in blood that was only partially his own, stood surrounded by terrified mercenaries. The man, despite his position, seemed nonplussed at the men around him, and instead seemed intent on promising the most amount of pain through a stare alone. The mercenary, a wise man by his own family's standards, did the only sensible thing. "I don't get paid enough," this was the mercenary's sole statement as he ditched his boss in favor of living. Gato lay on the ground in pain. Spasms from the electricity coursing through him prevented him from speaking. True, the man could barely move at all. However, one could assume he was cursing his fleeing employee. "That was my parting gift, Zabuza," Kakashi stated, mostly to himself. This being the case, Zabuza still turned and exchanged a glance with the Cyclops. Nodding, the two experienced ninja shared a moment of mutual respect before returning to their previous engagements. Kakashi continued to run towards his students. Zabuza continued to use his two blades to massively murder multiple miscreants. That was alliteration for kill everything XXX. Running with all the speed and chakra he could funnel into his legs, Kakashi turned over plans on how to get his students out of dodge as well as the events he just went through. He was a genius. These were things he could do. Boy, did Kakashi have a lot to think about though. Zabuza, as traitorous as he was still both a fine man and a fine ninja. Despite being a missing ninja from what could possibly be the most brutal hidden village, he was still a novel person with dreams, aspirations, and most of all a love for his country. These were admirable traits, and if Zabuza could have them, then what about other missing ninja? What about missing ninja from his own home of the Hidden Leaf? True, they didn't have that many, but of the few they did, could they still be like Zabuza, goal-driven with a love of their own country, but fleeing because of some unspeakable injustice? Could Itachi be? No, now was not the time to think of such things, Kakashi mused. Pushing a little more chakra to his legs, Kakashi dead sprinted the last few minutes with all but two thoughts going through his head. I am to save my students and I will forever remember you, Zabuza Momochi. These words were said full of conviction and promise, for it was the least he could do to remember such a man. Unfortunately, they were said upon arriving on the scene of giant orange and purple monstrosities duking it out with each other. Turning, both constructs moved to stare at their sensei. And Kakashi stared at his two students. Wow was all Kakashi was able to say, before a blinding flash of light engulfed him and the world turned white. Unfortunately, Kakashi would be unable to keep his promise.